they will never ever know what we just talked about, and it's probably good because it would have gotten us canceled.
Well, EFAP
So
constantly works. It's the implication of the show is that we continue talking and reacting to videos. It's only that they only catch like a third of the ones because it's when we're live. Conversation constantly continues.
The amount of stuff that we just have to.
Well, it goes to a different dimension.
People.
We're running three.
People.
Switch over.
Not the poop dimension. I hope. I want our wonderful thoughts and feelings.
Was
to
that
go
connected
elsewhere.
to Harry Potter at all? The poop dimension discussion was.
Yeah, it's where they.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because they magic away their poop, and that we just assume that it goes to the poop dimension.
Absolute horror of being sent there with no recourse. Just you're just in a huge world of poo, and that's it.
Isn't that where they end up when they go through the Chamber of Secrets and then they go down that toilet and then that's where they end up? Is the poop dimension?
No, they go into that. They go into the titular Chamber of Secrets.
Calling the poop dimension like entrance the Chamber of Secrets.
You're referring to the chamber pot of secrets.
Oh,
and
shit,
it's not really a secret. It's poop in there.
They called it that to make it sound better, but it's like, it ain't good.
Oh,
guys.
really? It's time for your chores. You must empty out, the Chamber of Secrets. Ooh, it's poo, Mom.
They got that the bottomless bag. It's like a portable toilet. Why wouldn't you just like shit in that thing?
I think one of our discussions revolved around the idea that maybe the poop dimension was just a place where people already lived, and they couldn't ever figure out why poop would just materialize constantly and fall from the sky onto them. Like they have no context. They'll never discover it.
The day they figure it out, the big answer is just another dimension sends their poo there. It's like, really? Like, that's it.
Now this is the class struggle we need, you know?
Why? By what amazing alien technology is this done? And then it's like, well, that's the neat part. It's magic.
Something you couldn't replicate in your universe.
You know?
Get fucked.
And magically teleport their poo to you.
God. That's the
nothing is
existential crisis. That would just make them angry, right? They'd go to war with that other place.
Yeah, it's a really strong.
If they had the ability to.
That sounds like a great.
Oh yeah, that's social commentary.
That sounds like a great comedic scene though. Of like they negotiate and they're like, so you can stop sending it now, and they're like, well,
we're not gonna.
I mean, we've got a lot of our systems are built upon this. We can.
I don't think that you grasp how incredibly convenient this is for us.
It's got to go somewhere.
Magic away our poop to.
It's like compensation. Then it's like, yeah, we can pay you $100 a year. Is that all right? That sounds about right.
You need a slave underclass to just get rid of bills.
They're like, we can't even use dollars. They're like, yeah, well, it's the thought that counts, isn't it?
To be fair, money from like a different dimension would probably be worth a lot as a collector's item. It's like old Confederate money or something. Even though that was our dimension, it's just a long time ago.
That could also just be complete cope in the negotiations. They say that, and they're like, is that true? Is it worth a lot? And their whole universe is like,
you could use the dollars to clean up the poop. I mean, it's basically just toilet paper.
This scene would be hilarious. They're just like, we're not letting you poop anymore in our dimension, okay? And then they're like, you can't. We do it with magic. What are you gonna do? Like, there's nothing you can do.
They just learn the secrets to how to transfer the poop to another dimension. They just pass the buck on to some other dimension. The cycle continues.
I think the oncoming flurries of poop might like hamper the research efforts. Though,
hey,
you know,
bucks aren't the only thing getting passed.
There's like this ever-present portal in the poop universe that sends the poop from universe 1 straight through to universe 3, and it's just like eventually universe 3 figure out the same thing. This huge
all
system.
of the infrastructure is built like behind the portal, like on the other side of it.
Yeah,
wherever it exists in the world.
This was an important discussion.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
It's good that we had the second poop dimension discussion. It was really good. It needed a second go through.
The way I see it,
snobbery.
Well, I was going to say like,
yeah, that's right. On our film snobbery, we're talking about the poop dimension, the economic and cultural implications and social commentary of the poop dimension.
We can't even get to that just yet because there's a different thing I want to show you guys. But we could get started. Everyone's here. Look at your chat's here, and you guys are here, and we're revved up on poo. So that's a common saying, isn't it? That means like you're ready to go. I think that's what.
Maybe revved up on something else, please.
Yeah, I mean, but whatever it is, you'll turn it into poo, right? So.
I guess so, but
How does food become poo?
Oh,
Sheer force of
Question for
will.
the ages. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm gonna shout out to Colin Mockery.
Oh, looks like we're all in too. So yeah, this is the first thing. I actually before it was, so the title of this first video that I want to show you something about is called is Mr.
Spring.
Beast and the toxic culture of YouTube. Ooh.
Oh, another one of these videos. Okay.
Well,
All right. Tell us about how. No, I'll
be
tell you what this
clear,
video is about.
This was made, I think, before all of the Mr. Beast allegation stuff. But simultaneously before the Mr. Beast allegation response stuff. I've said on another stream I can't track what his current state is. I know that in our sphere, so to speak, I think Nicholas Diorio's covered some of it, but like it's like he's gotten in trouble and then not in trouble, and it's whether there's stuff to do with his Beast games and different employees and the horrors behind the scenes, or is it actually horrors at all? That sort of stuff is just back and forth. I don't know the truth, right? The definitive truth. A lot of people in chat may do, because it's just not something that bothers me that much. But I was curious to see what this video is going to be about. Just to see if it covers like Mr. Beast is mean because he made the Mr. Beast show, which for the record,
I bet it's another one of those like, "Ooh, YouTube's evil. YouTube's forcing us to make this kind of content. Blah blah blah. Isn't YouTube terrible?
on
Everything's
capitalism
getting...
and society."
Yeah,
economics.
it's like, oh, look at what the algorithm. Man, there was a bunch of D&D YouTubers bitching the other day about how the algorithm is just like killing channels. Oh, it's the algorithm the algorithm just decided that my channel's dead now. Oh, the algorithm just decided I don't get to be on YouTube anymore. And I'm like, nah, you just made videos people didn't give a shit about.
Ooh, you think that's the case every time?
Speaking of Mr. Beast, hey, yeah, I do. Next, speaking of which, Mr. Beast actually said this. I was watching a video and someone played a clip of Mr. Beast where he said, every time you want to say the word algorithm, replace it with audience. Don't blame the algorithm for a video not doing well. It's the audience. You didn't get your audience to watch it. You didn't do something that it just didn't get clicks on it. There wasn't something about it that captured the audience that got it. If you blame everything on an algorithm...
Wait, so it's your fault as a creator, not the audience's fault?
On one hand, I understand exactly what you're saying, though everyone's aware of the whole, like, you upload a video with the green, or you upload a video with the yellow, and you release them in two different, exactly the same dimensions, if you know what I mean. Then the green one will do better. The yellow one will not. It's like, that's just how
What do you mean
YouTube
green
works.
or yellow?
Monetization. So
like monetization?
Yeah, it'll reach more people with green. Now, if someone was to say, like, so that is true, it is the algorithm, I'd be like, whoa. It's like, the algorithm...
I think we are... this would be like assuming like the same content, not like if it's like being demonetized or something because of a bot picked up something or
first
whatever. Because I would consider that a problem.
Yellow boys and non-monetized boys can still do extremely well on YouTube. That's a thing. But also, I would just sort of counter with whatever got you into the algorithm in the first place was the grace of YouTube. And so anything that removes you is also the grace of YouTube, if you understand what I'm saying. I'm just like, it's kind of...
Well, I mean, yeah, every time YouTube really
Yes.
super promotes your video, then you're taking up a spot.
You just stole that from whoever else had that.
Yeah, now someone else isn't getting into the algorithm because you got into the algorithm.
You bastard.
But people don't think about that part.
It's like musical chairs.
Yeah, kind of. It kind of is in a way. Yeah.
Except the algorithm does do annoying shit sometimes. It's like when they sort of did that big push for shorts and then they changed the reused content rules, and then all of a sudden random channels were being hit for reused content, which was really just designed to catch people doing shorts because that's what people who do shorts do. They just steal shit. And so YouTube was trying to like save face, and then everyone else got sort of grabbed up into that little net.
Do you remember the time? I don't know if it's over now because I just don't see it anymore. But there used to be a time where almost every day, if ever I went on YouTube in the recommended, there would just be some guy streaming Call of Duty for one viewer, and I'd be like,
"Yes, I still get those."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Dementoid lottery.
They're gone.
I
the
love
Dementoid lottery is very amusing. Yeah,
I love the Dementoid lottery. I still get it.
But like, I'm not kidding. 99% of the time, because I would click them. I'd just be like, "All right, let's do it," and there would just be no talking, staring like they're dead into the screen. The gameplay
while
was
the terrible camera picks up, like there's like the background is maybe part of their dimmed or darkened room, and they're not saying anything. They look like death, or they just have this flat bored expression on their face. They're streaming to no one or to themselves, and I'm like, why bother? What
Well,
are
I
you
almost,
doing?
I almost think that I prefer that than the complete opposite in like an insincere way. If you had someone being like, "Hey everyone, let's go," and like comment on every last thing like that, as opposed to someone who's just like, "There's no one in chat. There's no need for me to speak." Just like, oh, you almost want to say
It
something like,
is
"How you doing?"
a
It's like
self-feeding problem. Yeah.
not good.
I
But
was one time I clicked on one of those I say one time, I do it often just out of curiosity,
mhm.
because you never know what you're gonna get with the Dementoid lottery. But one of them was like a writing channel. He's like, I don't know if he's like a self-published author or he's probably self-published or something like that. And he was doing like a little writing exercise thing, and it was only to like 4 people. But I was like, oh, what's this about? And he had like 2, 3 small paragraphs typed out about random stuff, and he just yammered on about not really anything whatsoever. And I actually went in and I typed in and I said, "Oh, I think you should change this and this," and I gave my reasonings, and you misspelled this over here and da da da. And then I asked him some questions about like what do you think your strongest your strength is as a writer, and what do you think a weakness of yours is as a writer? Just because there's nothing going on, and I wanted him to toss him a question
Mhm.
randomly, and he wouldn't engage with it. And he was like, "Oh, you know, I don't really like to think of myself that way," or "Oh, I don't know, that's not really what's important. You know, I'm just sitting here and just doing a little writing stuff for the stream and everything." And I was like, "Oh, you coward! Fuck that guy. I hope he fails."
You bullied him,
I did.
and now he's probably never going to create anything ever again because you snuffed out that small
Well, honestly,
flame.
based on the 3 paragraphs I saw, I mean, we're not losing much. The world's not losing much.
That was the beginnings of the next Shakespeare. That's what that was.
It is. It was because I was legitimately asking. I really did want to know out of curiosity. This guy's like a writer, and he writes books, and he even had like a little ad for one of his books that was kind of on the side panel of his thing, and he was sitting here with his little paragraphs, and he basically didn't write anything the entire time I was there watching. And I legitimately wanted to know, answer this question. I want to hear what you have to say, and he wouldn't engage with it. Like, it's a dead chat. No one gives a shit. And here I is, someone comes into your chat asking a question about you and your writing skill and your talent and some self-introspection, and you don't give them anything? Fuck you.
I'm very entitled, Ranks, and bully-ish. I love that guy. What a
Bully-ish.
Chad. What a Chad being like, you know what? I don't have to answer the chat. I am my own man, and he'll just stand.
You're right,
in
he doesn't
front
have
of the
to
crowd.
answer to chat. He doesn't have to answer to the 4 people, one of which is probably him.
You're like, doesn't have to answer the chat. Why do you even fucking have one?
That's
You
that's
know?
what I want to know. What are we doing? What's the point?
Anyway, where I even was
Anyway,
going with any of this.
what are we doing? We're talking about
I was gonna
stuff.
say,
Dimension.
I have been watching. Has anyone else in the world been watching this? The Beast games. Anyone?
No.
No.
Oh, was it out?
I watched the first
No.
episode
I know
of
of
it. I
them.
found it really cringe.
Oh, well, that's fair.
It felt like doing Squid Game or whatever, but without any kind of layer of satire or irony. Where it's just like, isn't this awesome? Cool. I'm so glad I'm on this show.
Was it like a game
And-
show where you do like Ninja
Yeah.
Warrior?
It's not even that. It's more like brain puzzles for like everybody who's standing
lot
on an
of it is
array
chance,
of like
honestly.
squares
Oh.
that will like sort of give away and drop you into a pit if you
Oh
do
well,
it wrong.
if it's pure based on chance, then I don't care.
Do
Okay.
the losers
Well,
of the game
If
get
I'm
It's
gonna,
paid?
not
the
chance.
only
So
thing worse
they
than
asked
gambling
everyone
is
to
watching
do.
other people gambling.
They get all the participants to solve a little puzzle, or I don't know.
That sounds
It's
fun.
weird.
A lot
didn't
of it
like
is chance. A lot of it is that it's like out of your control, basically. That it relies on the decisions that other people make. That like one person's decision could knock out like 10 people from the competition.
And they're
Mhm.
not on like teams or anything. It's just, oh, he made this
Well, the
decision,
teams
so that
can
means you're out.
form and disappear, you know, as time goes on, depending on what the games are. It's just like there's a whole bunch of games that eliminate people until there's one person left who wins $5 million.
Yeah, like
Right.
the
Is Zoomer MXC then in chat? First off, how dare you compare the Beast games to MXC? That show is insanely good. It has some of the
Yeah.
snappiest, quickest writing ever. It's like freaking. It's like game show Xavier Renegade Angel. MXC is incredible. We stan Kenny Blankenship and Vic Romano in this channel. Okay.
Yeah, well, the show doesn't have anywhere near that kind of wit, unfortunately. And MrBeast sort of comes off a little insecure throughout the whole thing too, as the host.
That's definitely true. Him and his friends are awful as hosts. However, I very much enjoy a lot of the little psychological torture systems they put a lot of their contestants into. For instance, group of 10 people, and then he just says to them, "You've all got to agree to boot one of you from this show, otherwise all of you will be booted." And then you just watch them do this shit where they'll be like, "Well, I'm actually a really important person who does this. The next person's like, "Well, I'm actually really poor, so I actually need this." And then some people, they sort of like start to turn on like one person. They're just like, you should go. Just that sort of thing. There's ones where they get split into
Like that
threes.
trap in Saw 6.
Yeah,
when they're all on the carousel or whatever you call that, merry-go-round.
And it has
I like
it has
MrBeast games because it reminds me of Saw.
it has unreliable results because of the fact that it's not scripted. Like you get boring people or annoying people, and then sometimes you'll get like things that's like, oh, that's kind of interesting, I guess. For example, there's the one where they get split into threes, and I think, am I right, Frank? They would like sort of.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
they get
yeah.
split into threes? Oh,
Yes.
3 people.
It
Okay.
was
They're
their friends.
Drawn and quartered.
And
Carry
that
on,
people
yeah.
were naturally gravitating towards their friends.
Yes.
And immediately, I think Moeller and I were like, "Oh, this is the marbles. One of them's gonna go.
Yeah,
One of
so
them will
each
have
team has
leave."
to boot one out, otherwise all three are out. And there was this one team, there was 2 brothers and a friend of theirs, and they made a plan separate to the person to basically play it up that they were going to be unreasonable and kind of crazy and not give up to convince the third to leave. When in actuality they were fine, they just wanted to get rid of it. And like, there's this just tiny background plot line of that having happened, them feeling really good about themselves for tricking her. She like cries and shit. It's kind of just like, oh well. But someone hears about it, and then the rumor like spreads, and those 2 become like villains to everybody. And there's
And then
people
they
who are
get,
actively
sort
trying
of
to get them
ruthlessly
out.
targeted. Yeah, and then the guy does get him out.
Yeah,
And
like
then
it's
they even offer the guy more money to have like another go at potentially getting eliminated. But then he turned it down, I guess, realizing like, yeah, it looked pretty bad if I like took some money and then lost, and this guy continued. And
it's all kinds of different challenges like that, and then some that are just they can for a few moments make you think like, oh, how would I strategize this? How would I do that? Like there's a game where there's 3 people, and they essentially have to pull one number, be it 1, 3, or 5, and it'll move them forward, and they've got to move forward, I think, like 20 spaces to win. But if 2 people pull the same number, then they freeze for that turn. It's like, oh, do I pull a big number and risk a freeze, or a lower number and get away with it? And there's a bit of banter and mental mind games that I've found interesting enough. It isn't. I want to be clear.
Cringe.
Obviously,
cringe in that show.
yeah, obviously not as good as Squid Game. Obviously, not even close. But like, as reality TV show, game show things go, there's highlights in it that are quite amusing. And there's tests for like different people who promise to like do things for people and then betray them and stuff, which can be rather entertaining because there's a shit ton of money on the line.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think the budget of the show is like $100 million. It's actually very expensive, and there's like a lot of prizes.
I do agree. Some of the mind game stuff was actually interesting. That was like the one thing sort of compelling me to keep watching the first episode.
I
saw a bit of episode 2.
I would remove
with
MrBeast from the Beast games to improve it. Like, it was
for sure.
And not the guys that he brought with doing like the commentary, because they're not funny and they're not interesting. And
I don't want to say the dude doesn't have. Sorry, go ahead. My bad.
No, go for it.
Well, I don't want to say the guy has no charisma, but like just on this show, I'm not seeing it. Like,
well, he keeps saying all of his lines with the same kind of the same way constantly. There's a certain tonality that he has with like every single line that he says, and then you start to notice it really quickly. It's like, man,
we've covered that in YouTube videos
annoying.
and stuff and commentary stuff. I noticed that when everyone has the same inflection every
all
single
of you
sentence.
need to step onto these tiles, and then you're gonna have to pick a number out of this box. Like it's that kind of delivery over and over and over again.
The
exactly
best thing about him though is that someone will pour their heart out about how their whole life has been ruined, and it'll just show him. You'll go, okay. And you'll be smiling. Yeah, like he's
Incredible story.
he's actually
Yeah.
awful at being a human with these people a lot of the time. You just
Well, being a commenter it really is a skill, especially when you get into things like StarCraft commentary, like the casters who essentially this is what's happening, this is what this person's doing. They talk about the things that are occurring, strategies that could happen, unit compositions, things like that. It is a legitimate skill that takes a lot of game knowledge. And you have to add that in with the ability to actually know what's going on, be able to vocalize what's going on, and most importantly, maybe, what not to say. What doesn't need to be said in this commentary? What is important? It's a skill. People pay good money for that shit at high-end stuff.
And often how to emphasize like the narrativity of it. That's a large part of the job of casters
Yeah,
in a lot of
true.
games these days, is trying to like make clear like the stakes and the storylines behind the games that are being presented.
he totally tips his hand too, because if someone is almost crying and saying a story that is kind of compelling, you'll just see him. The smile might increase, and he'll be like, huh, "That's actually quite sad." Like he's
Like,
realizing
like
that'll be good for the content. Yeah. So-
Well, I
Yeah.
suppose the
Glands
thing
hadn't been
is that
surgically removed, I'd be crying.
His
even
smile
though-
freaks me out.
even though that is the case, that there are those sub stories that you would think play into it more, there aren't many like overarching narratives in that show. A lot more of the emphasis is on the games, yet there are things that distract from the games, some of which are like conceptually interesting. So it's you know, it's like a suboptimal version of what it's even trying to be, which itself,
yeah.
who knows how you might feel about what it is trying to be anyway.
I have been amused by it, and I will watch it through to see
At
who
times,
wins.
yeah.
I believe it's.
I want to see who wins. I want the person who won. Oh wait! Spoilers for Beast games.
Wait, that a person won?
There's
Careful,
one.
everyone.
Well, no, it's just that there's one person who, just for whatever reason, I want to win again, despite having won a massive prize already. But it's like totally arbitrary. Yeah,
that
you
person
win.
is fun, and there's
Yeah,
not many
she's
of
fun,
those
and
on the
she
show.
specifically like saw through some facades created by other cringe contestants. So that alone is like, oh wow, go you, whoever you are.
So anyway, with all that context, we can check out the. Like I said, it's just the opening of this video that I am very, very amused by.
All right.
I'm half and half on whether I was like, just let it play until it hits what I consider the payoff, but at the same time, it's like, actually, nah, it's fine. Just comment as you prefer. I think we're watching about 2 minutes of this one.
This video is brought to you by BetterHelp. Okay, guys,
Ah!
going to be
Wait,
Ah!
what? Wait, sorry.
Really hope this doesn't get-
What's the? Let me check the date on this video.
You know
see
what?
that
That kind of that already kind of does it. That's
10 months ago. This was only
Oh,
10 months ago.
Man.
This is a newish video.
I do
relatively.
enjoy that, like, oh man, the algorithm makes people do these things and it changes
Yep.
the way that they engage with YouTube. It sucks. Anyway, this video is brought to you by BetterHelp.
I'll
If
be
you're
honest.
Wisecrack, you
I
could
forgot
get
he
any
does
kind of
the-
sponsor.
Like they're contractually obligated to do that tiny thing at the beginning because the meme was going to be talks about how toxic MrBeast is for like 2 minutes and then says now to speak about BetterHelp,
Now,
which was
yeah.
probably the better delivery. I probably should have moved it ahead, but it still captures the whole fucking point, which I guess we can watch in real time anyway. That was the purpose of this.
Got me in trouble, but I had a series of interviews with the team at MrBeast.
Okay. Oh, put on some clothes.
Okay, unless you've recently been to a dentist, you probably haven't read Time magazine in a while. But they recently put out an article on YouTube's perennial.
I will say, in the tier list, we'll do a tier list obviously for this later, of waiting room magazines. There's obviously like S tier, National Geographic, easily S tier.
Absolutely, they
Um,
have pictures. which
Yeah,
are
they got
nice.
pictures. Sometimes you get to see a titty here and there. They got animals. There's
Yeah.
anthropology. There's history. There's science. There's new technology. Nat Geo, S tier. What would another S tier? Good Housekeeping, probably. That's a good one. Oh, Southern Garden. That's a good one.
Joke book, if it's there, you just little joke.
Joke
book
books
filled
are
with
really
jokes.
hit and miss. I'm putting joke books in C tier because they're inconsistent. A good joke book, that's good. But a lot of them are really like shitty.
Yeah, but
So
you said about every book.
no.
Yes.
Nat Geo's always. There's a reason that's an S tier.
No, you can get bad ones of those.
I don't think so.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about
What
that.
if it's bad,
Well-
like it's been treated badly, you can't even make out a lot of the stuff on it because they haven't renewed it?
That's not the magazine's fault.
I didn't say it was the
even if they put out
magazine's
a-
fault.
Even if
Well,
they
you
put out a
can't
bad
demote it.
issue, there's such variety to all of them.
I
There's
know.
something for everybody in one of those.
Yeah, right now I'm learning about Snefru and the Great Pyramid, and then I turn the page and it's, oh my goodness, bionic limbs of the future, and then flying cars today, and then here's an article about communist China.
Yeah, but doesn't Disney own National Geographic now? So, like, you know, it's a woke
Yeah.
magazine.
It'll be
officially,
woke,
surely.
yeah, right. Go read that.
Why being gay isn't a sin. What is this woke garbage?
MVP, MrBeast. Now, in it, they explore the massive scale and success of his operation and then look at the human price.
This is a really interesting set of visuals for someone who has no context. It'd be like, what the fuck
He's
are they
trying to
doing?
ass-
Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I would do that if someone strapped me down to a table involuntarily. Or I guess I would agree. In this case, you agree to it, or you sign waivers. I don't know if one of my instincts would be just like, like try to snap out of it. Because if
well,
you
you're
wanted
just
to escape, you
testing,
wouldn't. Clue 'em
testing the
in.
strap strength, right? It's like, yeah, just give it a little go.
Just making sure that I'm secure, guys.
Yeah.
What a cuck.
Of that success. And while it might be fun to dunk on the guy that makes videos like this,
And every day you live here, I will give you $10,000 in a grocery cart. That's wild, dude. Let's
Oh, that's my new home. I'd live there now. That's
Well-
my abode. First off, unbutton that top button, you fucking nerd. But second off, that's
There is
just
a
my
bit of a
house.
like,
That's
you
where I
know,
live.
this is the whole conversation about MrBeast. It would be like, on one hand, people would be like, wow, that's fucked up that you're making people do this by offering them great amounts of money that they need. Then the other hand is like,
Insane amounts of cash.
I would love that offer.
I would gladly offer myself up as tribute for this horrific torture, so that this guy doesn't have to go through the pain of living in a fully stocked supermarket for 10 grand a day. You're
What?
in there for a week.
How long would you stay?
$70,000. Oh, as a shit ton of time.
Because I was just thinking about, I haven't seen this video, but I'm guessing, is the trouble the boredom? Because you'll eventually run out of things to do.
I mean, there's a TV
Oh.
somewhere, right? There'd be a TV like somewhere.
I
in
would.
the-
I'd make games out of the cheese balls. I'd do something. And every day, every moment I was bored,
Yeah,
I'm
you'd be able
thinking,
to paint.
In the time it took me to think about how bored I am, I made like $20.
Do it for
If you
2
think about like
months.
time, money is opportunity. Money is a pathway to all sorts of things with your life. Even if it's a miserable time in there, that day, $10,000. What can you do with that later? You owe it to your future self
dude.
to be a bit miserable so that you could hyper accelerate what your life can be in the near future with all that money you've got.
If there's a toy section, you're set. The Lego section alone will take you forever to get through.
Oh
God, it
man.
Is
a
it though? Is
grocery
it like an
store,
open
so-
supermarket that people come in to buy shit? Did you
You're
have
like,
to
"Get out of
put
my
that with
house."
other people?
Oh, people to talk to? That's even better. If it's like a
Yeah.
real grocery store. This one obviously isn't because it looks nice. But if
You
you,
have like
went
a
to
throne
if
of
it was a
toilet
real grocery store,
paper,
it'd be
and you're
better.
in your dressing gown, and you're just like, hello. As they pass by. You're
You
like,
could-
welcome to my home.
Yeah, you can just talk to the employees and the people coming in and let them know that, there's a 5 for 25 in the meat aisle in the back, like they'd have at Edwards Food Giant. And oh, hey, don't forget to clip that digital coupon for the cheese balls. It's 2 for $4.
Does
just
it get
this week,
restocked as well?
maximum of
Just
5.
I assume so, right?
Even if it didn't, if you had to
You'd
just
be
like
fine,
survive here
yeah.
until the food's all gone, you'd be.
Just
I
go
mean,
for the
you would be good.
eat
The
it in the right
food-
order. Yeah.
The food cans last for years, so you just
Mhm.
save those.
go. Well, I'll
get a
give it
little
to you
sick
in
of cheese
24 hours.
balls.
Oh, okay.
this article hits on some of the bigger issues with creating content on this platform, which hits home with us because it's a matter of our very livelihoods. We also found ourselves wondering, when folks like MrBeast commit themselves so fully to a platform run on inhumane metrics and standards, do they also risk
What?
sacrifice?
And you
In-
can't just throw that in there.
YouTube is run on
metrics and
inhumane
standards.
metrics and standards. Does he simply mean they're not typically run by humans or other algorithms?
Oh
Well, that
no,
wouldn't
I
be
think
what
he's
inhumane
referring to how
means.
the
Inhumane
working
means-
conditions,
That's not-
like
Well, it's not why.
Oh,
I get what you're
they're
saying. It's not the word I would use to describe it. I'm just trying to.
because he'd
find-
use inhuman, not inhumane.
Yeah. I don't know.
Without compassion or without compassion
that-
for misery or suffering, I don't.
Which is probably Probably. He's paying the guy 10 grand a day to sit in a grocery store.
I feel like if you're gonna do that, you're like rolling the dice and fucking video game or anything is like inhumane because he's like you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's not based on fairness or something. You're like, well, I mean,
you can't use the word in that way because it overextends it. You can't call this sort of thing inhumane because now we can call basically every non-human process inhumane.
Yeah, he needs to be more specific, especially if he's talking about just broadly YouTube in general. Or unless was he
That's the
talking about
impression I
this,
get.
whatever MrBeast does specifically?
He's talking about YouTube's and algorithm and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The metrics they use.
The cruelty of the algorithm because it doesn't accommodate everybody all the time. And it's funny, like, if it works for you, it's great. If it doesn't work for you, it's inhumane.
That's the way people treat everything to do with variance, though. Whenever it's working against you, it's the worst thing you've ever seen. But, you know, when it's doing things that favor you, that's just how things ought to be.
Yeah, that's doesn't even put a smile on your face. It's just like, oh, okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah,
well, and whenever you're doing something highly immoral, you'll be like, well, it's the algorithm, bro. I got to. So what am I gonna do?
BetterHelp. I mean, I gotta make money. Gotta get the BetterHelp money.
The algorithm is just watching, and he's sitting in his chair, and he's like, good.
I didn't make you do that.
Well, no, yeah, I was gonna say the algorithm.
The
algorithm hears them blame him for BetterHelp, and he's like, I didn't do that. You did that. Like, what?
I'm just suggesting you things. The fact that you take it, that's on you, man. I didn't make you. He didn't make you watch those videos. There's a search bar.
It's like,
on YouTube.
It's the algorithm that makes me do these horrible, horrible things. It's like, it's humans, not me. Humans are interested in that stuff. They're clicking it. I didn't do nothing.
Sacrificing some of their own humanity, and potentially that of their viewers or video subjects. Now, this is interesting to me at a personal level because honestly, there are days where I feel like I've sold a part of my soul to the mechanisms of the YouTube algorithm.
Okay.
I never felt like that ever. I've never felt like that a day in my life.
That's a bit of a you problem, I would say.
That's you.
Yeah. What did
the
you
algorithm
sell?
isn't some machine god that you have to worship or else you'll just, I don't know, like die or explode.
It's so overdramatic, and there are several sort of degrees to which you can do this. You can become like an algorithm-obsessed person that does everything according to whatever is currently trending and everything. Or you can just be like, fuck it, I'm going to make whatever I want. And maybe everyone sits somewhere in between, but I have never felt so far onto that scale at all that I've been like, it's soulless work that the algorithm whips me into doing. It's like, come on.
Well, it feels like if it's getting to a point where it's making you miserable, maybe there's a change.
Maybe you're in the wrong profession.
Maybe
if you're sitting there wishing that you could get 10 grand a day for sitting in a grocery store, you can't blame the algorithm.
I don't know. It is so weird to talk about the algorithm as if it's some kind of like pagan god,
malevolent entity. Yeah,
it's the South
it must
Park
be
episode,
worshipped and
the
adored.
economy one.
Oh yes, it is like the economy. The economy is our shepherd. We shall not want.
Wait a second, guys! I was talking about my birthday earlier. There it is. Oh my god!
Oh wow!
He's right.
Oh wow! What a coincidence!
The past, no, not the future.
Does he?
Well,
you have one of them every year, right?
Is really the birthday.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's the anniversary. It's the anniversary of my birth.
And it's
not
every 4 years, I guess.
Cool.
I'm sure he'll get into this, but I don't understand what the sale is. What did you sell your soul for, or to?
Some more views.
I'm almost it's like tell me more. What horrible things have you done?
If you phrased it in terms of a transaction, what is the transaction that's actually taken place here?
It's like
that's caused you to lose a part of yourself.
I signed a deal with BetterHelp, and ironically, I now want to kill myself.
And I've been thinking more and more about how the structure of this place might be at odds with genuine creativity. So today I want to do something different.
Nah, bullshit. Yeah, I got my criticisms of YouTube, but that's some bullshit.
And examine this article, not to deconstruct MrBeast, but with the larger goal of trying to understand the contemporary content ecosystem and how it influences the very logic that underlies many of our lives.
Look, it's logic.
But yeah, just to be clear, right? The reason why this is so fucking funny to me is he spends all that time talking about the horrors of the YouTube algorithm, how it abuses people. MrBeast's show is designed from the ground up to take advantage of people, and that maybe it's time to stop and it's time to introspect. And then he's like, well, before we continue...
Keep going. I want to stop and thank this video sponsor, BetterHelp. If you
thank you, company.
Like, is that not some of the most perfect satire ever? Like this, you wouldn't need to... It's just...
I don't know how you wouldn't register it.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like
you're a fool.
it's categorically worse than anything he's covered so far, because at least in all of the other stuff you have choice left. In this, you're like putting on the person, you're telling them, you're reassuring them of how great a service this thing is, and they need to check it out, especially if they're mentally ill, especially if they're having difficulty, which is the kind of people that really do not need to be told to do this shit, especially if it's a manipulative program or app or whatever have you. What has it gone through? It's hard to track all the fucking controversies for BetterHelp at this point. And at this, I would just recommend anybody who gets an offer from them, stay away. Like, even if they've fixed everything up to this point, I wouldn't bet that they're not going to go through another fucking controversy. Give it time. But
I don't know. I mean, it's something that we've talked about before, but I mean, like, the willingness to be comfortable recommending, like, a service that provides therapy for people who are mentally ill. Like, what makes you think you're even in a position to, like, assess whether or not this is a good or bad service? I don't know, man.
And then, like, mining
The whole
data
thing
from them
is
and
just-
using therapists without qualifications, and then all the different controversies, like I said, it's just like, how is that? Has Wisecrack made a video cracking down on good old BetterHelp and apologizing
Are you
for...
kidding
like
me?
you
Of course
said,
not.
Of course not.
Talking about, oh, the toxic culture of YouTube and the algorithm makes you do things you... But then it would just be the fucking meme. Oh, yet you live in society curious. That shit. Like, one of the worst fucking things. No, at this
Shittiest
point.
meme,
I mean,
at this point, it seems like everybody
felt
basically
guilty.
accepts that's a stupid thing.
He felt guilty for letting the algorithm influence some of his decisions, that you present him actual, like, horrors that he's a part of that he should feel guilty for. He'd probably be like, oh, that's a sponsor. It's
Well, I suppose
different.
the funny
It's
thing
the
is,
kind of thing you'd
it's
see in a
all
dystopian parody.
it's all downstream of money. It's money. Money is influencing you. You want to make more money.
You want money,
and,
which isn't
and you're willing
necessarily
to
bad.
That's the
make
most-
certain compromises to make more money.
That is like the
Which is really
cleanest
funny
example of
considering
the
that
soul cell.
90% of Wisecrack's like content these days is just anti-capitalist stuff, and then he's just shilling for these companies that he's done no research into, and is ignoring all the
I
things.
thought all the way back, I want to say it was Candid, but it could have been BetterHelp in the first iteration. I thought that's when everyone learned to start fucking reading the contracts. I thought that's when everyone got that message, but obviously I'm stupid and that's perpetual. There's no time where humans will finally learn, because there'll always be new YouTubers and there'll always be people who haven't understood how you can get fucked by this significantly. They see the dollar signs and then just move on, but holy
Because
shit.
I'd never heard of them until I think the time we did. I can't remember one of the times when we looked at one of their ads, and I'd never heard of them before. And so we did that stream, and then lo and behold, 2 weeks later, I got an offer from BetterHelp. I was like, well, no, because now I know what you are. I probably would have done the research anyway, but for a lot of people who come onto YouTube quite new and have missed all of these scandals, you see the money and they basically tell you
It
what
can
you
be a
can
lot
say.
of
You don't
money.
even have to do a huge amount of work. I always say if I have done sponsors, I've always written my own scripts, but they give you basically a script you can just use.
Yeah.
And if you're
They give
just
you
looking at the
B-roll
dollar
and all
signs,
that
that's
stuff.
all you'll go in for. So like, I completely believe that he's not even thought about it. And lots of people with less experience would think about it even less than that, because you just want the cash.
Well, and it's,
For a lot of people, it literally is. It's not up to me. I'm a rat in the maze of capitalism,
the capitalism
and
did
so it's not even my fault. It literally is capitalism's fault, not
You have to
mine. I'm
exist
just in the system, man.
and survive in this society, said while like making a lot of money. That is beyond the scope of what you need to exist.
They always have like
in
the
society.
worker or whatever toiling in the society. They need to have the king with all the rings and the necklace
Yeah,
and everything,
exactly.
and being like, I hate this society. It's like, do you? you really lived like that. But on top of it all, I find that it's not one of the better ones to choose anyway. In a perfect world where all these apps and companies, whatever, were perfectly had integrity and ran well, it's just not one I'd want to risk. If it was like you are selecting for anxiety-ridden, depressed, potentially suicidal, like self-harming people, or ones without
Wisecrack
purpose.
viewers.
All the people in the world who have mental issues, those are the people you're trying to convince to like use this thing.
Compared to just saying, hey, you know,
Part with
Audible's
their
a pretty good
hard-earned money.
service. You get to listen to audiobooks.
Yeah, it's
you know,
so
like
much
a way easy-
more. Like, for lack of a better
here's
term,
an
it's-
electric shaver. It shaves your hair.
yeah, objectively, like it's like this
Yeah.
is what happens
You can
when you buy
exchange
this.
money for this device,
And that you can
shaves
be assured
It's really
yourself that like that's worth the money, and you believe in that. And then if someone comes to you and says, I think the shaver was $1 too much, it's like, okay. I mean, you know.
good. All right. I mean,
yeah.
fair. That's a fair.
Meanwhile, if
criticism.
someone says to you, my mental state has been destroyed by speaking to several different therapists who turned out they weren't even therapists, and now I know that all my data has been compromised. You'd be like, you okay? Like, I hope nothing. Yeah, I hope you're all right. Well, anyway, check out this
In a
other
happier,
one.
like alternate world, because most of these sponsors come through like whatever agent you've signed up with, and you'd like to think that the agent might do a little bit of due diligence and let you know that, hey, this sponsor is offered, but they've got a massively checkered past, and you should maybe consider looking into it before you say yes. They're not always very good at that, though. So I had one, I can't remember what the company was, some perfume thing, and all they said was, they've offered this is what it is, this is what they want you to say. The CEO has been in some hot water recently, but it's probably fine. I went and looked into what the hot water the CEO was in was. It was something like, she's this weird spiritualist who said that Hitler did nothing wrong because in the grand scheme of things, it creates balance in the universe.
Oh no!
So it's
Yo,
like,
I'll do those
kind of
ads
hot
for
water.
free.
And I had to look that up. I wouldn't call that hot water, and I would have liked you to tell me that in the email, because I think that might have
I
saved me some
wouldn't.
time.
Next time, do you mind being a
Before
little
I
bit
agree
more
to your
clear?
ad, out of curiosity, what's your stance on Adolf Hitler?
If any,
No reason, just curious.
if anyone comes to you and offers that there may be controversies, it's like, oh no. The fact that you've had to tell me is probably going to be that they're way worse because you don't even tell me what they are.
Well,
But,
hey, now we've been in controversies, Mahler.
yeah, but we don't have to like say before sponsoring a person, you need to check out our controversies to be sure. You know, I guess because we don't
That's
sponsor
true.
people though. We should
And also
sponsor
because
people.
our controversies are actually horseshit.
They're pretty funny in retrospect, but yes.
As well, yeah.
So that's that. I just thought that was really fucking amusing.
That was fun. That was fun.
But we'll get on to the main event from Wisecrack. A video called "Do We Need Snobs?" And it's going to cover a lot more.
Okay.
But of course, colloquially speaking, a snob would just be a person who, I mean, for all of us, it's just like,
Me, yes.
I wasn't gonna say you or Cab or any of us, like Little Platoon, myself. No, we're all very we like throw. You know what? The opening of this stream was talking about poo. So is that what snobs do? I don't think so.
I like poo when it's away from me.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a pet peeve of mine, but I really don't like phrasing things in terms of like need in this kind of regard. Does the world need anything? What does anyone need other than like the ability to survive, assuming that is even something that they want, right?
That was the thumbnail. The
Yeah.
title is "Are We All Snobs Now?" I feel like those two are not. You know,
Those are very different statements.
Different, yeah.
Are we all snobs now? Do we need snobs
But,
like us?
One
Well,
is the first
I mean, yeah,
step in snob segregation, and the other is
well, because I was gonna say
Segregation.
snobs
First
are
they came for the
inevitable.
snob.
Like they just
Yeah, they just
they'll exist. There's nothing you can do.
Thanos the snob.
But more snobs will rise once the old snobs are gone. It's really a
Yeah,
relative
Like,
thing, right? Snobbery.
Hydra, yeah.
Yeah, you can't stop them. But you know, we'll see where this goes.
Critics and artists alike are sounding increasingly bummed about the state of pop culture, especially the struggling film.
I guess it must be a day that ends in Y or a year that ends in a number.
Or yeah, it's the 2020s. Like it's been rough. You know, not trying to start any fights, but I guess anybody who thinks we're in an absolutely normal or good time for movies comparative to past decades, I feel for you. I want
This
that drug
happens-
as well.
This happens all the time. Whether it's Dali or Stravinsky, it's like, oh, impressionism, Dada. I don't think so.
It's an incredibly
Surrealism.
snobbish example to use, by the way.
Why you snob? That was a snobbish commentary.
Listen, I'm
It
just
was.
cultured, and I'm tired of pretending I'm not.
Martin Scorsese declared that MCU movies are more theme park than cinema, while A.O. Scott, former New York
To be clear, he said that they weren't cinema.
Yeah, that was actually a
Not
nicer
that
way
they
of
were
putting
more
a statement.
theme park. Just to be clear, the wrong thing that he said was what we said, not what you said. So
Times film critic is leaving his job because he felt there was no more cultural space for original and ambitious work. Simultaneously,
What a
Damn,
pussy.
just completely. He's going further than us. That guy.
yeah, dude, there's no
What a
room for
snob.
it. All right. I mean, I don't want to be an asshole, but that's a fucking skill issue, mate. Sorry.
this tough talk about pop culture has led to a back.
Oh god, another cringe shit.
Yeah.
Comic meme.
Well, yeah,
There's
but
so
it got.
many of these
they
all
always
conveying
evolve.
the same sentiment.
You just switch a joy to hate. Let people hate things. They're allowed to hate
Exactly,
stuff.
goddammit.
Let me hate
That's
things.
right. Let me feel my feelings.
Exactly.
I enjoy criticizing things, so shut the fuck up.
I mean, it's just
Listen,
expressing
all
yourself.
critique is bad, okay?
Oh.
Best embodied by the let people enjoy things meme. This pushback reflects something commentators call poptimism, meaning the optimistic celebration of popular culture, especially pop music.
Yeah, but like
Like
in the
all of these
face
people.
of any like it doesn't matter what's happening, you do that. That shit sucks. Like you celebrate whatever's coming out no matter what. If that's what poptimism is, it needs to die. So that's the first time I think I've heard of the term poptimism, actually.
I've never heard
Yeah,
this term
first
before.
time
This
for
video.
me.
I don't know if that's necessarily a phenomenon that's limited to the pop like mainstream of culture either. Like people in the sort of artsy fartsy world, they are also clinging on to. There's a decent number of those people that are also clinging on to the notion that every new thing that comes out is amazing. You know,
Well, out of curiosity,
Like,
who would you prefer to listen to broadly? The people who celebrate it all, the people who shit on it all?
Shit on it all.
because I don't need to listen to other people praise it if it's something I like. You know what I mean? I can just enjoy it myself. I don't need
feel
the
like
validation on Twitter.
In my experience, the people who celebrate everything have barely any detail, while the people who criticize everything, they can have similar
to work a
formats, but
bit.
they tend to, it feels to me like they tend to have to work harder to justify.
I find they tend to be like misguided in the nature of their criticism rather than vapid. They can be vapid too, though.
It's just,
And I feel like
maybe
someone
this
who's
is
always go ahead.
I was just maybe this is a bad metric, but I'm just thinking about Cinema Sins versus Wins. Like,
That's part of what's popping into my head. And also, someone who's really critical, I think it kind of maybe naturally creates a bit more introspection on my part when it comes to, yeah, but why do you not like it? Or why do you enjoy it? Or do you enjoy it despite all of these issues? Like, I have to, like, face in the music kind of thing that really gets me to actually think about stuff. Not just, no, it's great no matter what, ha ha ha. But if something's really, really good and someone still criticizes it a lot, I mean, I feel like that can just kind of do the effect of cementing how good it is. Like, if someone does a really deep criticism of the Lord of the Rings movies, and that just kind of ends up being like, oh wow, that just kind of shows how good the movies really are, really.
Especially pop music. Vox correspondent Constance Grady notes that throughout the aughts, we saw an era of extreme snark, a continuation of 90s anti-sellout culture in which one could gain social capital by hating on popular and often corporately produced things. Well,
Yeah, how about that anti-sellout culture, Wisecrackin? That's interesting.
That's unfortunate because it sucks ass.
man, fucking Jack Black, what have you done now that I see you and I get triggered? What have you done to me? I used to really like him.
He became Steve. He became Steve.
That's
from
so
Minecraft.
sad.
Oh,
Like,
it was before that. It was before that.
I think it probably was before
Bowser?
that.
Yeah. Did that make
No,
you
no.
mad?
I'm okay with. He was a good Bowser.
Yeah.
It wasn't Claptrap.
Yeah.
It was something else. I don't know. Part of it's a bit of the meta, I think, but
Well,
he's become like
I
a.
think him being
he
Steve
got the
in
Rock.
Minecraft was
He's got
Oh
the
yes,
same.
that's literally what I was about to say. The
That's,
Rock. He's got that same energy of just like, oh, it's you again.
Yeah, like go away. You always turn up and shit all the time, and you're always the same. I just don't care. Something someone said in some comment somewhere at some point, a lot of sums. It really helped turn me on it. It was the notion of like actors, certainly the greatest, will just fucking chameleon their way through all of these different movies. Just a recent example would be like a Willem Dafoe, where you're just like, there he is again, but what is he going to be doing this time, that wacky fella? Jack Black comes across as the kind of actor that he looks exactly the fucking same and does the same thing in every single fucking role. I granted, there are going to be exceptions. Like I would say Bowser is actually like an attempt at voice acting versus a character versus where it's like,
a lot of
why
other
does
people who were in that movie?
Yeah, why does Steve look the same as like Jack Black on a normal day, except he's holding like some shitty axe, you know?
Yeah, like why doesn't he look like Steve from Minecraft?
Yeah. Why
And
yes,
also,
could-
why would Steve from Minecraft be Jack Black? Like,
Well,
why
then-
wouldn't
and then-
he have a different personality?
Why is it that he's dressed, or rather, like groomed like Steve from Minecraft in Mandalorian Season 3? That's strange. You're like, yeah, I mean, that's just because he doesn't want to change it. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, and it gets a bit boring when it's just that's it constantly.
I actually don't mind if actors are like one note, like they just do their thing. Like obviously Jack Black's thing worked with School of Rock. You have actors like Jason Bateman, who he basically just plays Jason Bateman in every single thing he's in. My problem, I guess, with Jack Black right now is he just says yes to too many projects. Like I'd rather not see him in Minecraft.
I mean, it's beneficial for him, of course, but I'm with you on that. Like, the thing with Jason Bateman is, I'm familiar with what you're appealing to for like his archetype. But did you see Carry On, by any chance?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I was like, man, he should play more villains. He's good. Like, he can be quite intense and intimidating, which is fun to see any actor that you more associate with like comedy and stuff. But yeah, and then I think another example would be like Samuel Jackson, who's just top notch, even though you would argue he plays the same character in a lot of stuff. Yes. I think the same character that Jack Black plays in a lot of stuff, I don't think it's good enough to like.
It's not robust enough, I don't think.
I feel like a lot of people could do that, and nothing would be lost.
Yeah, because like someone said, "Where's this criticism of Arnie?" It's like, well, it wouldn't be because he's fucking hilarious.
Arnie is amazing. Our precious, our beautiful angel is perfect the way that he is. So shut your whore fucking mouth, all right, about Arnold.
It sucks ass.
She writes, it used to be cool to hate stuff. Then came Poptimism, which celebrates the artistry of pop culture.
It'll never not be cool to hate stuff, at least to a significant portion of people, right? But
no, probably not.
It just feels like all of this is forever popular. It's always popular to celebrate and to, destroy. Like there's always people out there. That's always what bugged me about Cinema Wins was the launch of that channel. People being like, "Oh my god, that's such a breath of fresh air. That's crazy." It's like people have been fucking saying films are amazing without any kind of detail forever. That's not new. Like,
also, sorry, I've been reading this thing. Circa 2009, enjoying things was very, very not okay. It's like, I mean, how can you even say that? How can you even remotely say that?
2009.
Like they're pointing here. Look, like, oh, Twilight. People hated Twilight. And it's like, yeah, but a lot of people watched those movies and enjoyed them.
There's a reason they made like 3 or 4.
Like, maybe 5, I think.
Impact.
And that's the movies. That's after the success of the books.
Do we just have to look at 2009 movies and point out which ones were loved?
Well, for example, like I would say Call of Duty hatred kind of started to emerge a bit more after Modern Warfare 2, but that's also because Modern Warfare 2 was like the best-selling Call of Duty game, like the most successful entertainment launch ever at the time.
District 9 was 2009.
Yeah. And then also there were a lot of things that were just popular and liked, like universally. I mean, God, Avatar came out in 2009, and everybody was talking about Avatar when that came out. Even though Avatar's, not that good.
It was fucking shit.
Hey, Moon. The movie's awesome.
Well, yeah, there were a lot of good things.
I don't know that one.
2009 or 2000.
Glorious Bastards is 2009. I don't get this either. I feel like there's certain pockets of culture where like a sort of hipsterism rises and falls in like a sort of like a steady pattern. But I mean, I don't know how you can say circa 2009 enjoying things was very, very not okay. Like, what weird bubble did you live in?
I suspect it might. The reveal might be the fact that they're talking a lot about Twilight in this, and like how we weren't like people. We didn't let people enjoy Twilight. I would not be at all surprised if this author really liked Twilight.
I continue
and got
to
really
this
fucking
day.
sick of people saying that you can't like it because it's shit, and so now they assume that was all of society because everything revolves around Twilight. All they're doing is relating their own life experience.
Oh yeah, the fucking launch of the MCU, which is the beginning of like hyper loving a thing that's coming out broadly as a film series, right? Yeah, you could say that. But yeah, it's just
I just like
the less said about the games that came out in 2009, the better. Honestly, like in terms of this point, Assassin's Creed 2, Arkham Asylum, Resident Evil 5, Left 4 Dead 2, Grand Theft Auto 4.
Well,
I'm sorry.
2008. Still, the point still stands. Yeah, this is absurd. It's even absurd to say it in relation to Twilight. Yeah, a lot of people hated it, but like those films made a lot of money. They made 5 of those movies, and they made hundreds of millions of dollars each. So it was. So what are we talking about? There's always been people who like and dislike stuff.
I don't know I don't know that it's really intelligible to define a like popular state of being where everyone just thinks that everything sucks, or that like the popular consensus on stuff is that stuff is bad.
But imagine I told you like it's true because people didn't like Twilight. You'd be like, you might want to use a better example than that. Like you might want to.
I believe we call this like cherry picking and incorrect cherry picking.
It's not like Twilight is now considered this great franchise that was misunderstood when it was launched. Like. No.
They were always wrong to enjoy Twilight. People were just pointing it out to them. But I think it comes slightly more to the fore when there is this giant meta, and Twilight probably is one. You know, one of these things that, as the article does correctly say, was a phenomenon. Everyone knew about it. Everyone's younger sisters watched it. The books were fucking everywhere. The films were out every other year. The more popular something like that is, the more people will make a point of not identifying with whatever that in-group around it happens to be. And that's even more pronounced if the thing that is the meta happens also to be complete dog shit, like Twilight was.
And a lot of times it's just sheer awareness of it.
But recently, opposition between those who decry pop culture and those who revel in it has become testy. And increasingly, critics or artists who hate on pop culture are called snobs. Which makes us wonder, what is the function of snobs today?
Why are we talking about them in terms of function?
Well, and also just like we just went from you got two people fighting, one that says media is worse than ever, and one that says media is fucking amazing. The amazing people call the everything sucks people snobs, and the question is, do we need snobs? He's like, well, wait, but are they? You just said the people who hate them called them snobs. Like I don't even know that.
People who hate them wrong, or are they just being silly?
Yeah, because like. Snob is definitively a negative trait. Like you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Let's never use the positive.
Pejorative.
Yeah. The nice version one would say of snob would just be like discerning, I guess, or critical.
Discerning, sophisticated, blah blah blah.
But this implies.
Cultured.
Well, it's like if this video could have just been the negative people are calling the positive people shills. Do we need shills? It's like, well, it depends.
This video sponsored by BetterHelp.
Are snobs just haters who want to infringe on my God-given right to enjoy watching Tony Stark eat shawarma? Would we be better off with
how do they infringe on your ability to enjoy it? What does
exactly.
What does
that
Are you
such a
upset
stupid
that
statement?
you can be influenced by the opinions of other people?
Does it mean that they tell you things that are convincing and then lower your opinion of something because of
That's
that?
just-
How dare you take
That's
my
just
feelings?
communication.
That's
That's
just
just being a
reeling
human.
I'm reeling from where we're proceeding from because he's talking about them in terms of like social utility and whether or not they are a necessary part of that. I don't know how you can talk about any like sociological phenomenon in that regard because it's just going to be the case.
Well, yeah, they're an inevitability.
It is a naturally emergent element of people communicating ideas about art. You can't not have it. Your opinion will be influenced by others' opinions.
It's like he's talking about a city builder where like snobs are a thing that you can have in your city that like provide a certain function. It's like you should invest in snobs.
Invest in snobs. They bring
What's the
culture
snob
up,
budget
but they
on this
bring the
project?
overall happiness down.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like the infringing thing. It reminds me of that like quit having fun meme where there's a bunch of people trying to like enjoy something and there's a guy in the room like, hey, stop it. Like these people are standing in the way of your TV just by like not liking something that you like. It's like you're free to enjoy the thing. Nobody's stopping you.
It's weird
The
as
thing
hell
with
if you have a tweet that's literally just someone saying like, I saw a new movie, thought it was bad, thought that blah 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 blah. Then someone responds to that with like, just let people enjoy things. Like, I didn't even know. Who even are you? I'm just talking about what I thought.
Yeah.
The thing I've always found interesting about those sorts of memes is they're always like a few people in a room, and how do you expand that out to understand what the room is in like a larger sense? Like, would the room be Twitter?
Right.
For these people, yes.
And that's where the conversation is taking place. In which case, like, it's a completely different mode of social engagement. Mr. Twitter is not there while you're playing the game. He's not real.
It's always such a fragile like mindset too, to be like, if I'm exposed to people who don't like the thing, it might affect how much I like it. You're like, oh man, you know, don't worry,
You're
that's
just
okay.
desperate to hold on to an emotion. Then that's what it means.
Yeah, instead you should be pursuing like, hey man, let's see if my experience, you know, rendered into what I would call my perspective on how I got there stands up to someone else's exact same process. See how they compare. That's like the interesting part of what we might call discussion, as opposed to, please don't speak, it could affect me.
Well, it's the confusion, and people like often, I think, mistake that distinction between the private and the public sphere. Lots of these people would have no trouble meeting a group of friends to actually talk about the thing they really like, and all the friends would really like it, and that's in a private room, in their own living room. They've just watched the film. They all say, "Oh, how great that was." But then they go on social media, Twitter, YouTube, and they kind of treat it as though the same standard should apply. They're allowed to stick out a tweet, a post, a comment, whatever, saying this thing was brilliant. And that's fine. But as soon as someone who is in the public sphere, because you're speaking to fucking the whole world, says, no, it wasn't good, it was actually quite shit, they get very offended because in their minds it seems to just be an extension of their own living room. They think that all of the world should allow them to have the private space, which encompasses all of social media, which is not how social media works and never will be. It's like my favorite people are the ones who turn up in like a comment section under one of my videos saying, why do you not want people to have fun? Just let people enjoy things. It's like that you clicked on this video to leave that comment.
Yeah.
I'm not invading your living room telling you this is shit. I'm on YouTube. You don't have to watch my video.
The algorithm made him do it.
Yeah, even if I'm in your algorithm, you don't have to click.
Right.
Well,
I think you do have to, though. You have to click. You simply must. There is no escape.
Sort of chat said the complete lack of awareness from Mola. The point is that some people are saying I like X, and they get dogpiled by folks telling them X sucks, and often personal insults. That's not what this section is.
Don't like X?
Yeah,
that's not what this section's about. That's not what he said.
Yeah, we haven't heard that yet.
He's talking about the notion of snobbery, whether or not it should exist, and how he just said, maybe I just want to like the Avengers eating shawarma, as if that has anything to do with someone expressing they didn't like something. And secondly, why did you say lack of self-awareness, as if you mean lack of like perception of the video, right? Unless you're saying that I dogpile people, which I don't think I do. I feel like I'm mostly fine with anyone enjoying or disliking anything, really. Like, you know, in a specific circumstance, it could be kind of annoying depending on what media we're talking about and the consequences of such things. But I mean, broadly speaking, I don't really care. I just want to break things down. And if someone's not interested in that discussion, so be it.
Also, if you like something and people are saying you're stupid for liking it, but you don't think they're right, just grow up and move on with your life. Like, you don't have to listen to them. You don't have to regard their opinions as valuable. You can just go, no, I like it, and I think you're wrong.
Well, and we're gonna
really not that hard.
We're gonna run up soon against the old standard subtext that no one likes to admit, which is that it's okay to like stuff. It's not really okay to dislike stuff. Generally.
Oh boy, our old friends.
Super annoying.
Very
better
true.
off without them, or do they serve a cultural function?
Better off without them. What do you got?
Function. We're gonna take all the snobs and throw them into the poop dimension.
Like it was mentioned, Thanos them into the poop dimension.
Yeah. I like the idea that we could get rid of them if we wanted to.
Why are we talking about like
if only we had the balls?
A non-specific, like incredibly vague social demographic, I guess, in terms of social function. Why are you thinking this way? I really don't get it.
Well, yeah, because you need to really narrow down what precisely you think a snob is before you can even start talking about what social function.
Whether we should get rid of them.
Very clearly.
Wait. Yes, he's the personification of the military-industrial complex. Are you talking about Iron Man? In the bottom right there, can you see that?
The man who decided he's not going to make weapons anymore?
Decided that he would not, in fact.
You know what, let's... You know what?
We can't get distracted. We can't... This is madness. We have to... We can't let that...
We gotta... One thing at a time.
Would we need better
literacy?
Eyes on the prize.
Off without them, or do they serve a cultural function? Let's find out in this Wisecrack edition. Do we need snobs? In order to understand the modern clash over popular culture and snobbery, we first need to understand the
Is there anyone out there who self-identifies as a snob and like that's a positive trait of mine? Anyone?
Yes, I do.
I guess so.
The point I was going to make is
Avatar is wearing a turtleneck and swilling wine. I can't really identify as anything else, unfortunately.
Do we need snobs, though? I'm imagining broadly the people who would be shouted for being a snob would be like, no, I'm not. As in, like, how are we identifying the snobs here? Is it the people who love everything are going to tell us?
Well, the snob is obviously a derogatory term, but I'm sure like there's plenty of people who I think would willingly accept the identity that there's someone who has like high culture tastes, you know,
I
like
think
they're enlightened and like good things and they have discernment and all that.
I think that's absolutely correct, but if they were forced in a serious discussion to describe themselves as overly critical for the sake of coming across as like with a person with better taste because they like feeling above other people or something like that, they would be like, no, I don't consider
Yeah,
myself.
they wouldn't admit to the like superiority part, probably. Well,
Yeah.
maybe they would. I don't know.
Maybe, I guess.
Little Platoon, do you think you're better than everyone else?
Yes,
I
obviously.
knew you would say that.
Yeah.
18th century
I've got
origin of the wall between.
I've got a pet peeve here, just real quick. I'm getting very tired of the phrasing in a lot of these like dime a dozen video essays. In order to understand X, we first need to go into Y. That absolutely is not relevant.
No, yeah,
No,
you
we
could just
have
be
to
talking
hear what
about why
Karl
already.
Marx has to say about any
Carlton
given
Marx.
topic.
Here he goes.
Like, first off, we don't. Second, even if we did, you were not going to give me the necessary basis of understanding in order to create the kind of understanding you want me to have for X. You haven't given yourself enough time for that. This is an 18-minute video.
With ads
Also, his
and
description of
preambles.
X is just like abjectly retarded. He calls it like a modern phenomenon that some people don't like pop culture. It's like, really?
Like I
You
said
think
to you,
that's
in order to
new?
Yeah,
in order
like
to
how we
talk about
started off.
apples, we first need to understand the concept of fruit. Do we? I don't know that we do.
And then we first need to understand the concept of carbon, and you're like,
But how are atoms formed? For that, we need to go back to the Big Bang.
pop culture and high culture. Now, snob initially meant of the ordinary or lower classes, typically folks lacking a college education. Though the meaning has flipped today, with snobbery now associated with consumers of highbrow art, its association with class remains strong. English poet and social critic.
See, like, I think it's strange
I
to
don't
say that
actually
it's.
get that. In
It means that it's like the consumer of high-end cultural art, whatever. It's like you'd have to include also that it's about a superiority complex. That's how it's always used. Like that they think themselves
definitely
superior.
the use.
Yeah, I typically
Yeah,
don't get
like-
like class vibes
Nobody
when
ever-
people say that. That's not
Oh,
what
it's
comes to
just
my
if
mind.
somebody has a genuine interest in like I don't know sculptures or something, and they're like, man, I just really like sculptures. Nobody would be like, oh, you snob.
Well, and if you're
nobody would have
introducing
that
a
attitude.
friend's interests who mainly watches, let's say, indie films or French films, art films, whatever, you'd say that. You wouldn't say, oh, this is my snob friend. He likes snobs films.
Exactly.
Might call him like
Snob
a film
has
buff.
to-
Unless he
snob
was
has
a
to
Yeah,
jerk
film
have
buff
the
would be another
attitude.
word.
Yeah, exactly. If he was being a jerk, then that's
I'm a
it's the
cinephile.
attitude.
Cinephile.
Oh my god.
I like to fuck movies.
Like Matthew Arnold is often considered to have founded the study of high culture.
We're looking at old photographs. We're doing it.
I was
We're
about
looking
to
at old
say that we're doing the
This
photographs.
means
meme.
that
We're doing it.
This means that my arguments are
This,
good.
dude. We
Look,
don't
by the way,
need this.
We
Look at
first
his
need to go
button
back to
shot.
the
Look
creation
it,
of the
look, they're
fucking word.
massive. Oh,
Look
bring
at
him
how
back.
look at
Bring
how
him
smart
back.
I am.
I will say,
People have never written an essay in school, man.
we I don't think we'll ever beat. It was Brown Table, right? Who did he was like, we're talking about what makes the difference between good and bad art. Then he says, now let's talk about Karl Marx. It was
Reminds me of Karl Marx.
it was the funniest shit. I don't think we'll ever beat that.
English poet and social critic Matthew Arnold is often considered to have founded the study of high culture versus pop culture. He was hostile to the latter. He wanted his compatriots to aim higher than the commercial culture that thrived in taverns, which he compared to anarchy. Arnold believed that art criticism should be a disinterested endeavor to learn and propagate the best that is known and thought in the world, and thus to establish a current of fresh and true ideas.
We should get this guy on EFAP.
Interested endeavor.
Yeah, that's sure, I guess.
Matthew Arnold is really interesting,
Right.
and he has lots of
Yeah.
interesting things to say about this subject, but like, he doesn't coin this distinction either. It's the same distinction that you go back to Plato, if we can get like a nice, just a static image of Plato which slowly zooms in, because this is now a really smart podcast.
Yep.
Wolf,
Wolf,
Plato
get to
draws
it.
this distinction between art, which is like mimetic art, which misleads people. Is the reason he kicks all of his poets out of his republic, is because he thinks that they are appealing to people's base sentimentality and misleading them from what is good and what is true. And high art forms, which are things which lead you toward the form of truth. This has always been a dynamic in human reception of art. So props to him for knowing who Matthew Arnold is, I guess, but it's not really helping his argument.
Yeah, it is. I'm
His name
understanding
popped
snobs
up
more and
whenever he
more.
googled something.
I just
And
don't
this
believe
way-
for a second any of this is going anywhere.
It never does.
I
I'm
truly
going to be given a really, really shitty cursory history lesson that won't actually tell me anything of substance about the history of this term, and then he's going to tell me his opinion.
I have completely now associated bad, long preamble nonsense with you. Like it's just whenever it happens, I just think about like, oh, Thea's suffering somewhere.
He's not even watching the video, but he's suffering somewhere.
Hicks could educate and humanize folks who Arnold pretty rudely called the Philistines. Importantly, with the rise of mass industrialization and commercial culture, pop culture would be defined by financial accessibility. Maybe you couldn't afford a ticket to the ballet, but you could read a mass-produced Penny Dreadful novel like Varney the Vampire, The Feast of Blood. So in one way, snobbery is a refined
Sounds great.
sense of aesthetic
I'd give it a
appreciation
try.
that challenges culture to produce high-quality art. On the other hand, snobbery has long involved the upper class using culture to signify superiority. So which view is right?
Sorry?
What?
We were setting up a dichotomy as to which one was the correct opinion. Oh,
I didn't realize that you two.
I didn't.
He said what?
Which one is right?
That's like a 5-year-old is in this conversation right now. You tell him about like, oh, there's a couple of different views on this thing, and he says, which one's the right one?
I don't know, man. I feel like it's more complex than that.
What a fucking
I hate-
uninteresting way of viewing the conversation itself as well. Also,
Question.
because I'm annoyed with this now, so that history lesson tells me about the prior usage of the term, a term that has evolved because language adapts with use. Snob doesn't mean the same thing to me in my social context as it meant to Matthew in
but
his social context.
You have to understand, because it was tethered to class at one point, it still is, because history is
You've got to fucking
History's a
historical
loop.
context and
You've
society.
got to prove that.
You
That's
have to-
history is
no,
a flat disk.
No, that's just
You
how
could've-
it works.
He could have actually been working to try and establish how there are still classes.
Big Mad
towards
Theo,
the
read a
time.
book.
Yeah.
No, you can never
Very-
divorce from historical context. You can't do that. It's not possible.
Dude,
Even if
Whatever
you don't-
Karl
even
Marx
if you're
said
not
is the
using
correct
it in its
opinion,
historical
whatever.
Context, you're still using it in its historical context because you live in society.
I kind of
Right.
just like the notion he does this with everything. Like he finishes reading Lord of the Rings, puts it down, just goes, "So, who was right?"
The correct answer was Sauron. Sauron was correct.
Specifically, Gollum was correct. Actually,
Gollum won the argument. True, that's right.
Philosopher Matthew Kieran characterizes
Oh my
snobs
god.
Another dead man. Jesus Christ.
Oh my
it's the dead
god.
Avenger.
Piling up in the streets.
I don't
Can I
believe
picture
for a second you have read any material by this individual.
Well, he probably actually hasn't. I don't know if he does the script right. The script person's different than the him.
Yeah, but who
The
knows if the
script
script person
person
even
only-
like read a whole
No.
book or just found like something like a
They
quote
Googled
Blinkist
and-
version.
Yeah.
No,
They
they
Googled
googled the
that's
topic,
yep.
and then they saw some names popped up, and they were
sorry,
like, "Ooh, I could slide this in."
You triggered me a little bit by reminding me of Blinkist as
Yep,
like
yep.
service to
It's one of the
kids.
worst things that's ever been
I
made.
think I think I got an ad where someone's like, "Oh, I've read 20 books thanks to Blinkist," and like that statement drove me mad. The
Yeah,
idea
you've
that
read
you've
0
read the
books
book-
thanks to Blinkist is the
you read the
correct
book because
phrase.
you read a summary of the book. Like
That's so
my
wrong.
God.
So
It
wrong.
is so wrong, and it's you know, you want to talk about like the commodity, like turning art into a commodity. The idea of like, yeah, it's a checklist. Yep, I've read that book. Yeah, I've read that book. I've read that book because of a 10-minute summary. Awesome. Like that, you've totally missed the point of why all of the words that are in that book were put in that
Dude,
book.
The person who
well,
like
the summary-
reads Lord of the Rings through Blinkist and then asks ChatGPT to run down the themes, then just read it out.
It was
Like,
right.
who was
Oh,
right?
God.
Art is dead and we killed it.
as
We're
more
going to
concerned
need
about seeing-
snobs to preserve.
To
Like, the
preserve actually
actual-
like
yeah.
consuming the art instead of just consuming
I think-
summaries of the art. From
I think this
AI.
is what I'm learning. We need people to be like, you know what? Actually learning how to play the violin is a virtuous and good thing. Actually reading a book or watching an opera in its entirety, maybe those are things that are worthy endeavors to pursue. Not just, oh, ChatGPT said it was A-okay.
when we get cyborg arms that are programmable with like hyper expert violinist, and then the person plays it in front of you, and they're like, "What do you think?" And you're just like, I mean, yeah, sounds good.
It'd be cooler if you did.
Kinda
It'd be cool if you
cheating,
did. And they're like, "Well, I'm not very good at it on my own, but with my cyborg arms, I'm excellent." You're like, "Oh, that's interesting that you described it that way."
Interesting.
Fine.
Sorry, I'm triggering myself again. It's like the idea with something like that, the idea of something like Blinkist, like, oh, give me the meaning of this. Just package the meaning of whatever it is that I'm supposed to be reading. Just package it and present it to me, rather than allowing me to absorb the meaning of it from actually like reading the creation. I think that drives me crazy.
Well, hence breakdowns of like things we like. We tell everyone, go watch it. Don't listen to us first.
Yeah, because there's a difference between watching it and having it presented to you. I mean, in part because it's coming from that person's particular perspective, but also because it's not the same experience.
The artistry is in how they're conveying the meaning they want to get across. I can just tell you, yeah, life's worth living, man. But that's not gonna
thumbs up.
There's a difference between saying that and experiencing it viscerally through the storytelling.
That is Theo's one-page book, and he sets it down and says, "So, who was right? Was life worth living or not?"
Well, if you asked me that before this fucking video, I might have answered differently, but...
Characterizes Snobs as more concerned about seeming cultured and intelligent than about engaging with actual work. He claims that a snobbish judgment or response is one where aesthetically...
Oh, this is a modern philosopher.
He's not dead.
Look, it's in color.
I assume.
Wow.
Wait. I was about to say, there's no way we're just going to not address that. This fucking asshole in front of his stupid blue wall is just like, oh, I'm going to put this blazer over my hoodie and look away.
What is the
stupid blue wall?
It reminds me how fucking sad I am to see that people wear this. They even put a blazer over a hoodie.
Oh,
that is.
He was a professor at the university I did my master's at. Huh.
Oh wow!
I just looked him up.
So he's your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I would say, by the way,
salary.
a blazer, a hoodie combo is absolutely a hipster snob sort of thing to do.
Absolutely.
So this guy knows,
professional, but also casual and cool.
This guy knows what's up. He knows what a snob
I don't
is.
know why that feels like a Family Guy joke.
It does.
Oh wait, it was that one of the stock photos. The stock photos where the professor is giving the class outside, and it's just a picture of them sitting on the lawn outside of in a university.
Matthew has moved from academic philosophy into mental health psychology.
Oh, better help.
So he failed.
Oh, mental health, that explains the fashion choices.
Just trying to look the guy up, because this isn't a name I've heard.
Irrelevant social...
That's what I said. He's also folding the arms. He could have folded it.
He's looking away. He's folding the arms. He has ridiculous fashion.
He's got his blue fucking wall.
His stupid fucking blue wall.
What do you have against blue walls?
No, I like blue walls. The blue walls.
Is this like when the curtains are blue? Do we have to analyze the meaning of why the wall is blue?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I asked that earlier. Yep. What do you think it means, Theo?
I think it means he's probably quite upset because blue means sadness, and that's about it.
I think blue means calmness, and he's totally aloof as to the nature of his own blue wall. That's why it's so meaneful.
He does look like you just said that. He does look like you just said that you liked a fairly popular film to him, and he just scoffed.
Well, I think Avengers Endgame is quite meaningful, actually. It's a really good experience.
Features play a causal role in the subject's appreciative activity and coming to judge the value of X qua aesthetic object. In layman's terms...
okay.
Hold on.
Now tell me what that means.
Holy shit, was there an easier way to say this?
Break it down for me, Wisecrack.
A snobbish judgment or response is one where aesthetically irrelevant social features play a causal role in the subject's appreciative activity in coming to judge the value of qua aesthetic objects.
With respect to...
So basically, a snob is somebody who cares how they're perceived when talking about art.
Should have followed up with basically this sentence.
The social context plays a big role in whether or not something is or isn't considered snobbish.
Yeah, their judgments
Okay.
are principally concerned with how they want to present themselves to the world.
It's
I feel like we could have said that.
yeah. I mean, I'm
And
sure
about
he's
a fifth of the words.
being technically specific in the context of whatever he's writing for, but it's like the person you mentioned who just likes sort of, 18th century sculpture or whatever. Like, he's not necessarily a snob about it unless he's doing it to seem smart to people around him. You know
Which
what I mean?
then means, which leads to the question: if the wizard told you that the guy who you think is a snob, it's like, nah, he doesn't care about how he perceived. He genuinely means all of this. And the tone of voice that he's saying it in, it may seem like, again, he's trying to be perceived in a certain way, but like, this is how he genuinely feels. I guess that would mean that that person isn't a snob.
That's kind of what I was
Like
getting at.
Anton
with-
Ego
That's
is
the
not a
case.
snob.
Snob
He
is
really
almost
believes all that
exactly.
stuff.
in the
Yeah.
eye of the beholder. It's not like a definitive. It's so rare to have someone just be like, I am through and through a snob, correct? Because it's kind of like bad for your your traits to be a snob, typically anyway, with how we understand the following aspects of it. But
And
yeah,
the-
this reminds me of the smell woman, the smell study, who made the
smell
and people were like, you have to read it and then you'll understand it's perfectly normal. And then you read it and it's some of the most snobbish fucking descriptions of how smells in history have defined class and race and sex. I don't know if any of you guys read that.
I know
Did see a
of
bit of
it.
that.
I know everyone. Yeah, I that was the talk of the day or whatever. I haven't read it. I think I read the abstract.
She's referred to
but
as
I
a
can't
doctor
remember
thanks
it.
to that.
You almost didn't
I
need to
am
read it
not
because you
sure,
could just
yeah,
look at
yeah.
her profile picture and you already you immediately knew basically what you were going to get when you read the
Was she
summary
up
of the
against
thing.
the blue wall too?
I
I
think
don't
so.
think she was.
Well, it was just invisible, but I was told by like many people that it was like a bad read to make fun of her without reading the I forget what the opening page was called. It was like
Yeah,
the
abstract.
Generally, the abstract, is
that's
like
it, yeah.
the yeah.
And I was just like, fair enough, and then I read it and I was like, nope, that's made it worse.
Mhm.
In layman's terms,
But at least you
a
read it. At least you know, because you never know. Because a lot of these
No, it's true.
studies are like because it really does make a difference. Yeah.
snob is a poser who uses high-class signifiers not because they like them, but because saying they do affords them social currency.
What's
Oh,
the
I guess
degree?
that's somewhat to
Okay,
be.
so a question, an important question is, yeah, but to what degree do they need to be aware that they're even doing this? What if you're talking to somebody who you could say subconsciously that's essentially what they're doing, but they don't even recognize it. They genuinely feel, or to a large degree feel, that the way that they talk and behave about art is earnest. Like,
Well,
And
you know
they're
what I
not a
mean? Like, how
snob,
much?
this is what I
Okay.
meant by
Like, it's
the relativity thing. If you trap two people who love film and one of them says, "What's your favorite
Oh,
kind
is
of
this one of the Mr. Beast games?
No. What's your favorite kind of shot?"
Oh.
And then one of them's like, where all the when it has like all the people, and the other guy looks at him like, "What?" He's like, like a big shot of the camera with lots of, and then the other person's like, "Oh." What's in that case, right? That would be the opposite of a snob, like a fucking idiot sort of thing. But then if you flip it, and the guy says like, "What's your favorite thing about film?" and he goes, "It's got to be the shots," and names literally every shot ever in a row, and then says,
Wide
"I
shot,
love
medium
all of
shot,
them."
close up.
Yeah, and it's
Such
just like, okay. That's not even. What were you doing there? Were you just trying to look intelligent?
I feel like we've
This is
we've complicated the question of whether we need snobs, because I mean, certainly we need people with like discerning taste and people who champion certain forms of art, blah blah blah. Or need is not the right word, but like if the people are just doing it for petty, self-serving reasons, with like they want to seem smart, like what is the utility there? Like, why would we make a case that those people are necessary?
I have a feeling
Because
that we're starting to
posers?
blur the lines between the people who are experts in a field with the people who pretend to be experts in the field just to
Yes.
seem smart. Which we don't need the latter at all, and the people who do
Yeah,
the
some
latter
people-
don't claim to be the latter. They don't want to be seen as the latter.
yes.
It's like Elon Musk. He's more in love with being perceived as an MLG super amazing S tier gamer than actually being a gamer.
I think so. Yeah, that's probably actually he's a snob of gamers.
just quickly. I'm kind of annoyed because he's slightly mischaracterized what the philosopher guy whose name is escaping me said. he didn't.
Oh, you're gonna out snob the video. Okay.
It isn't all
Carry on.
about social perception. It's about all of the social features of whatever the art object in question might be. That isn't strictly limited to the way you might be perceived by others within that context. That can be just like, imagine the environment of an opera as compared to the environment of a cinema. That is part of the social features of it. They like the experience of an opera house more than the experience of a theater because of how highbrow it is or whatever. Maybe it has nothing to do with their perception by others. It is just that part of it, which is still not related to the actual art object.
It also seems to just be not related to what the common definition of a snob is, because almost all versions, like when you hear it's
the way they
always
communicate with people.
It's like superiority. That seems like
pretty much
an exaggerated sense of self.
Yeah, upturned noses
built into
and...
it.
So the last man in the world cannot be a snob.
Nope. Snobbery is relative.
Yeah, I think
that's true.
Makes some sense. Yeah, it's you. Well, it does require like people, because that does match in my head for like, it's often characterized based on how they treat other people or the way they are with other people, right?
I think so. That's what comes to my mind.
Yeah.
It's the way that they talk down to people about like art and things of that nature.
Well, it's about them projecting an image of themselves, like whether they're aware of it or not. So like
I guess
I don't really see the utility in it other than to see a snob and be like, well, I don't want to be like that guy.
Well, like that same guy who says like all those irrelevant almost facts about like cinema to prove that he's a cinemoid, when he's the last person on Earth, you would just be like, even though you can't, you'd be like, who are you doing this for? What's the point? It's just like, well, because I'm so clever. You're like, all right, yeah. Look at you go.
In layman's terms, a snob is a poser who uses high-class signifiers not because they like them, but because saying they do affords them social currency. Consider...
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Not true as compared to what the other guy was saying, actually.
You can be, but a snob can be earnest or a poser. I think both of those can be true.
As per like Matthew's definition, a snob can absolutely be sincere in their enjoyment of like the higher class trappings of certain forms of artistic engagement, like that of an art gallery, as opposed to something like street entertainment or whatever. There's no claim to insincerity there, just that the nature of their judgment is more concerned with the social factors than the aesthetic factors.
Mm-hmm. And even then, that's the aesthetic factors of the art being discussed, and not the aesthetics of the room that they're in, the aesthetic, or even like the dress of the kind of people that they're now in a group with, which are all technically aesthetic markers of class. So it's still a slightly aesthetic judgment. It's just not directing its aesthetic judgment at the work of art. It's more the aesthetics of everyone around it who's also receiving that work of art. But yeah, he's moved on to quite a narrow definition, which in some senses is useful because it proves that the majority of the times the word snob is thrown out on the internet are incorrect if we're going by the definition he's now running with.
The wine snob.
And if you make the mistake of asking for a recommendation, you usually receive a response like this.
So here we have a Chablis. This is a Premier Cru. So there are 9 Grand Crus.
Okay, wait. To be fair, though, context-wise, like it depends what you're after, because other snobs or people who are like will want this information.
Yeah, they'll be like, "Oh yes, of course." Yeah, a sommelier is a sommelier. That's what a wine connoisseur is, right?
Sommelier.
Sommelier.
Somalian. Yeah.
The Somalian.
Somalian's the wine taster.
Someone who loves high-class wine is a Somalian. But this hasn't been my experience when you ask for a recommendation. Normally it's way more casual. But like this is a huge thing. Like the wine scene is a really big deal. It's like it's a whole.
Of course, it's
maybe not a culture, but it's it's in a way it is. It's a big hobby. It's a serious hobby that people take seriously. They care about it.
If someone just walks into your wine, I don't know what exactly, just winery, whatever this is, and you speak to a wine expert, and you go, "What wine do you recommend?" And then he just goes, "This one." You'd be like, "Oh." That and then he'd be like, "Oh, well, it doesn't have to be that extreme." And he's like, "Okay, yeah, this one because it tastes the best, and it's got the blah blah." But then it's like, I don't know, why wouldn't he give you this description if you're coming here to ask him this? Like, it kind of I feel like every field expert.
Well, yeah, it's
so to
like if
speak,
you
would
ask
do
for
this.
food, like what would you
It's almost
recommend on
as
the
if he was
menu? Why? Because it tastes good.
And also, like, why is your instinctive reaction to be like, "Oh, that's cringe, bro," rather than, "Oh, okay, interesting."
Oh,
Like, I'm
I could
glad
learn
that you,
from this.
I like
Yeah.
that you like this so much. Like, this is fun that you enjoy it so much.
You just say, "Sorry, boss, this is all going over my head. I don't understand what you're saying." That's so okay to do. It's fine.
And normally the person giving you the recommendation is going to be the server, the waiter, or whatever who's there, and they can normally get a gauge on. They're not going to like waste your time. They're not going to try and make you feel like an idiot or anything. It's normally just fairly casual. This because, you know, it's a white and it goes with the chicken and it's got a little bit of a, you know, fruity aftertaste that pairs well with the sauce and that kind of thing. It's really simple stuff that you can understand and you'll be like, yeah, sure, give me a bottle.
I feel like this applies to everything. If you said, like, what's the best movie to start with if you haven't seen any, and someone, like, very
Batman and
in
Robin.
detail explains why, in terms of broad audience exposure and critical reception, or the experiences laid out, the complication of whether or not you should include genre, you go through the whole thing, and then they go, "You're a fucking snob, dude. I was just asking for a movie." You're like, "Oh, all right. Yeah, I guess
And
this one."
they cry, they
Yeah,
go,
cry.
they cry.
14 premier crews in this area. These tannins are fantastic, especially when you have some very bold, big foods, you know.
Kieran cites a 2001.
He seems like
Well,
he's just excited about the thing he likes.
Yeah,
I always feel
he's
bad for that
excited to
guy.
talk
Leave him
about his
alone.
hobby.
I feel like you need to pair
Yeah, let
it
him
with
talk shop
someone
about the
else.
thing he cares about.
Someone else being like, "Oh, I like this one because I like the taste of it," and then it shows that guy being like, "Ugh." You know, that would give me more of a sense of, oh yeah, he's definitely a snob then. Versus he's
If you were
just
like,
expressing
I like
himself.
Josh Wines, and he like spit on you, then maybe maybe he'd be a snob.
And that guy talking about the wine might not have a camera on him a lot. So like now that he's being filmed, it's just like, okay, I'll go into some detail here. Why not? I mean, this is the time to do it.
Not quite what I
You're not a
associate
snob
with.
just because you're
Maybe
that's
he's,
not snobbery.
maybe he's used to a clientele who understands everything he's saying.
Well, even if
it's a very
whether or not
high-class
they understand it,
restaurant,
that's
very
what they're
likely the case.
expecting. They want this information. It's his job to provide. You know, like there's a lot of context missing here.
Well, the snob
Yeah.
stage comes after that. The snob stage is the customer who picks up a bottle of wine and then brings it to dinner. And if asked why they picked that bottle of wine specifically, they say, well, it cost £500 and it came from this part of Italy and it's what all of the celebrities in Lake Como drink. And you think, well, that's social signifying. That isn't you telling me anything about the wine itself. So that's more snobbery, because what you're doing there is trying to put yourself in a very elite club of people who drink this wine, not saying or evincing any awareness of what the qualities of that wine happens to be. The guy who is explaining the wine, because he's an expert in it and he knows what goes into it and he knows what produces certain tastes, isn't being a snob, he's being an expert. Snobs are almost invariably consumers rather than producers or experts in a particular field.
Yeah, because they have, and it's a very attractive trait in people in general, when they have a clear interest or passion and are willing to and want to share that with you.
Versus the guy who goes, well, this one's got a nice label, I guess. Go on that.
There's a good point there about like who you're talking to. Like, and if you're being filmed for broadcast, you have to assume that there's going to be a bunch of people watching that don't know anything about wine. So it's just like, I'm going to go into a lot of detail that I might not with people who like come here in person who probably know, something about wine.
Very bold, big foods,
Kieran cites a 2001 study in which connoisseurs failed to distinguish between red wine and white wine dyed red. They also rated wines more highly when they came in fancier bottles or decanters. And of course, rare and expensive wines are explicitly tied to notions of class and taste.
I hyper-decant.
Okay.
You don't hyper-decant?
According to...
I'm not sure what any of that I'm supposed to do with that,
I'm
so...
like, all right. Yeah, some people are not.
The
as
idea is they
learned with
don't
wines
even
than they
know what they're talking about. It's all social.
But many of them do.
But like,
many of them will.
You could be a
surprised by
person
that.
who's seen bazillion films, talks about films for years on end, and you could see someone like Kurt Russell and call him Mel Gibson. That accident can be made. It's okay.
Yeah,
You know?
it happens. That's normal. It actually 1 in 4 adults struggles with Mel Gibson confusion syndrome.
Mel Gibsonitis.
MGCS shorthand.
And so
It
yeah, like
happens.
that wouldn't be enough for
Not to be
me.
ashamed of.
Being like, you couldn't fucking. Wouldn't it be the snob way to be like, you couldn't fucking tell, you loser, you absolute fucking wine noob? You'd be like, okay, jeez,
Wine noob.
a woob.
Appreciation fails to meet Aristotle's definition of a virtuous act.
Oh, here we go.
Thank
Here we
God.
go.
Do that?
Thank goodness.
God. Holy shit.
Tell me more about virtue ethics. I'm sure you know.
God, this is like so embarrassing.
This
Why
episode
is
of
it
Virtue Ethics
here?
brought to you by BetterHelp.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
We get like
Does
a
this
few
remind
seconds
me
of
of
analysis, and then it's
Aristotle?
bring in
So-
the next fucking expert.
But also, like, viewers who aren't virtue ethicists tune out now. Like, if you're a utilitarian, just go away. This video is now meaningless to you.
I'm
It's
sure
like,
they
I feel
can
like if you're
entertain
building
other
your
perspectives.
definition of snob on like some basis of virtue ethics. If you begin with that, it's like I'm going to give you a definition of snob, and snobbishness corresponds to the magnanimous man as spoken of in Aristotle's Poetics. Then you can sort of start working your definition back toward the argument that you began with. But jumping from Matthew Arnold to modern philosopher I don't know to wine tasting, and then let's go 3,000 years back in time. Aristotle says in Virtue Ethics that it's not even a passable argument. I don't know what direction he's taking this in. Well, I do. He's going backwards.
As long as you cite a philosopher, then you win.
Yes, that is.
Because you're right. Like this is totally directionless. It's just like, all right, now I'm going to bring up him. Now I'm going to bring up Aristotle.
Ironically, he's doing what snobs do. He's doing all of this to make it sound clever to his
Speaking-
Yeah,
audience.
that's right.
He's
It's all-
socially signifying
This is all ultimately
sophistication.
ironic, yeah.
Speaking of speaking, Gödel Fürshman actually invented the notion of speaking. Like, okay.
Is an act that is ethical and aims at some higher notion of
Wait,
the
sorry,
good.
what did he say? Can you rewind that a little bit?
He can indeed.
Act that is
Oh wait, let me go
Not
further.
more than that. More.
More.
to Kieran, snobbish appreciation fails to meet Aristotle's definition of a virtuous act, which is an act that is ethical
Thank God for
and
that.
aims
What the? What, sorry, a virtuous act is an act which is ethical.
All right, wrap it up, boys. We did philosophy. It's done. It's over.
Someone
Back
tell
it
me.
up.
Someone
Back
tell the
it
people
up.
at Meta Ethics. They'd love to know about this.
That might
is
actually
good,
be
actually.
Did you
a
know
bit
that
of
virtuous
a.
things are good?
I was about to say, wouldn't this be a little bit of a snobbish thing? Being like, so virtuous acts, they're ethical. Like you look at the audience, you're like, that's what they. You're like, yeah, I got that.
Well, this whole thing is snobbish. It's draped in the trappings of sophistication and well-readedness. When I don't know that this guy's ever read any of this. Maybe some Aristotle.
Aristotle,
You
I
reckon?
think you'll
You think
find out.
so?
Well,
I
he
think
didn't write the script, so
I think whoever wrote this has
He's
picked
good-
up
he's
and read a
complicit
bit
in
of
this script.
something that Aristotle wrote.
But who's correct?
Like I don't think it was much, but I think they have probably read a little bit, just because it's very easy to find and read Aristotle.
act, which is an act
That's
that
all
is
Greek to me.
ethical and aims at some higher notion of the good. For him,
An act. So virtue ethics is an act which is ethical and aims for some higher good. Thank
It
you.
doesn't
Holy
aim for
shit.
evil.
The golden
okay.
mean. We're gonna talk about.
Well, the golden mean isn't even aiming for like necessarily a higher conception of the good. It's the prudence. You have deficiency
Yes.
of virtue, and you have excess of virtue, and then you have to strike the middle ground of anything, and that will make you a virtuous person in and of yourself. Like higher versions of good is much more of a Platonic style argument. So I'm not convinced he's read Aristotle, but he's heard of his name.
Yeah, I don't know shit about virtue ethics, because also virtue ethics is not particularly action focused. It's focused on the content of an individual's character more so than the particular actions they undertake.
Which I'm sure, like I don't know, like I'm sure he leans more consequentialist than that.
The very
Didn't we
framing
do
of how he
the
talks about
Didn't we do
snobs
that
is
one?
like inherently consequentialist.
Didn't we do the?
Do we need them?
Didn't this guy do the trolley problem?
Yeah, it
Didn't
was
we-
Wisecrack that did
wasn't
that.
a thing?
Yep, this was the
Yeah.
Do we need snobs is a utilitarian proposition.
That's true, right? Like, oh, do we need to get rid of them from our society?
I still find that really funny because it's up to the beholder to decide who the snobs even are. And it's like that you just try to kill people you don't like. It's just, what's happening here?
My neighbor rolled his eyes once when he saw those, saw what I was eating. I'm gonna kill him now. Gotta get rid of him.
An act is virtuous only if a person chooses it for its own sake, rather than for its sake.
We'll have to roll it back again. Too much stuff at once.
An act is virtuous only if a person chooses it for its own sake, rather than for, say, appearis's. And Kieran notes that snobs often get things right.
Is he saying
or
that
is he saying this is what someone else said?
This is about Aristotle,
right?
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
And aims at some higher notion of the good. For him, an act is virtuous only if a person chooses it for its own sake, rather than for, say, appearances. And Kieran notes that snobs often get things right, even reliably so. But his point is that snobbish judgments are often made for the wrong reasons, like embracing a French New Wave film, not because of its bold rejection of cinematic norms, but because your film school professor told you it rips.
It rips,
well,
bro,
wait,
for
no,
real, for real.
If my film professor said, you should watch this movie, it's really good, and I'm like, okay, and I watch it, that's just
he's saying if
taking
you
a recommendation of...
This reminds me of maybe he's making like the point of like what Chris Stuckman did with Blade Runner. It's like, what a great movie, and then watches it and it's like, I don't get it. It's still a great movie, and then watches it again, is like, this is not working for me. But what a great movie, you know? Like, it's
oh, now I understand.
Yeah,
it's a great movie. I like it, guys.
But before that, he's claiming up to that point that it's really great, but I have no idea why. I'm claiming it's great because I know I'm supposed to. That's how it works. You'd lose social capital in the film world if you said Blade Runner was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Which I assume
also not a
that's more cowardice than snobbery almost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm also
I think
not
so.
a fan of the idea that like we should praise a movie for rejecting cinematic norms as if that's good in and of itself.
That was an interesting comment, yeah.
Yeah,
like,
that's another question.
That's automatically non-snobbery, even though you could absolutely categorize that as snobbery. It's like, why do you love this story? It's like, because it rejects the norms. Like,
and why do you value
in a way that
why
nothing's
do you,
ever
why do you
before?
value the rejection of norms in a film?
Because I worship at the altar of novelty.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It feels
like
it could be snobbery that you even think it's a good thing that a film rejects the norms of filmmaking, right? Like it's the guy who likes it because it rejects norms hasn't proven that he's not a snob.
Yes.
Army of the Dead rejects the norms of being able to see the film. Good point.
That's true. Yes.
Bold.
Yes, it blurs the lines of good filmmaking.
But of course, are we just running with this understanding of snob now? We're not going to bring it back to its modern context because language obviously changes.
I'm curious what the rest of this video is even going to be about, because I already seen a roundabout up to here. I just thought it was already interesting to talk about in terms of how insane you can spin a video of such a simple fucking discussion. But it already a balked question, right? Do we need them? It was already like, huh?
You can't talk about social factors in terms of utility like that.
Or,
I don't know.
What purpose does X serve?
Well, it's almost like what solution are you proposing that like snobs get ostracized to the point that they retreat from society?
But it's all a balance. Even if you did implement that,
get
new
rid of
snobbery would rise. Like,
yeah, there'd be new types of snobbery. Exactly.
All relative.
Civilization snobs.
Snobs are like cockroaches or something. They never,
Well, let's just put it this way. The scale of snobbery
going wine tasting, dude.
The scale of snobbery of 0 to 100 of how bad it can get, you can chop off the top 30%, and then the rest they'd be the new biggest snobs, and you could chop off more and more and more. It would make a difference.
I'm distracted by the idea of two cockroaches drinking wine, like doing some wine tasting.
It would be poo, right? A little Doug Beatles doing it. That'd be way better.
I enjoy the corny aftertaste and the slightly nutty aroma, the earthy tones of the poo. Really,
this one was a vegetarian.
They talk about the differences in consistency between diarrhea and constipated. So it's just like, it's different. It's a flavor. It's a texture that changes everything.
The mouthfeel.
The mouthfeel.
One of the cockroaches cuts a fart, and the other one's like, "Hey, I'm eating here."
Easy TV show right there.
Professor told you it rips. But of course, snobs often get it wrong as well. Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo was panned upon release. The Shining earned 2 Razzies nominations.
Wait.
Is that it?
Wait.
Is that
Oh, is that? Oh, that's it. Okay.
What? Oh, wow, we've done a lot of.
They didn't like Vertigo.
Well, but that the critics didn't like. Did he just say like the critics are the snobs? Like that's just.
He's essentially just decided that snobs are critics and critics are snobs.
Okay, that doesn't complicate this
Like
crazy.
Not explicitly, but implicitly, that is what he has decided.
There's nothing.
Something being critically panned means the snobs
You
were
can
wrong.
dislike a good. The snobby position is what he just said.
Well, I was about to say as well. Are we doing they were wrong because they thought it was bad? Care to elaborate on what that means and how that's possible?
That's what, the subtext is he's doing the snobbing right now. He's saying you guys didn't recognize such greatness when it came, as opposed to they didn't like it, man. Like that's fine if you don't like it.
They were wrong. They were wrong when they didn't like it, which is fascinating statement.
It really is. It pops up.
I sure hope
every
it
once
has
in a while we
said
see
in
it.
other videos, other things that directly contradict the notion that you could be wrong or right about your opinions.
Definitely
on
one of EFAP's laws, but like for the record, we're comfortable with saying people were wrong about The Thing or Blade Runner, but people like Wisecrackin are definitely not comfortable saying that.
That's right.
Vertigo was panned upon release. The Shining earned 2 Razzies nominations for Worst Actress and Worst Director. And Scarface was considered junk by critics, even
but snobs, critics and snobs are the same thing.
In the action-happy 80s. Hardly a perfect track record. And don't even get me started on the
hardly a perfect track record for all critics across all time. What the? What kind of statement is that?
Those critics weren't even perfect.
Apparently, your understanding is beholden to the entire history of criticism as like a mode of conversation.
I like how we just ignore what the individual perspectives of any of the individual critics were. It's like they all get grouped together. It's like, man, you were all wrong, huh?
You were all critics, you were all snobs.
This is a legacy that is inherited by new critics who didn't say any of these things.
Yeah,
who weren't born at the time.
The way of the people
Sorry,
who were wrong.
sins of the father.
Well, and he's been critical of their criticism. Is he now a critic and now a snob too? And he's right about their being wrong? How does this all work? It's all confusing
depends
to
on
me.
if the virtue of his criticism is supposed to be ethical to the way that Aristotle described the correctness and the goodness of
I will say...
Yeah, the way Aristotle said it, which is the good thing is good because good is good and it's good. That's what Aristotle said, I think.
Yeah. We have gone a little too long without citing another dead person, I would say. He needs to get on that.
Mm-hmm.
Bring in the dead people.
Soon to be cinematic classic, Babylon Hive. Know that I'm here for you and I'm with you, and we
Zoomer comedy.
Don't do
what
it.
Is Zoomer comedy?
I know
this
whole
like bad, but
I'm here for you. We are the Babylon Hive. It reminds me of the fucking Yord Horde. I bring that up every once in a while because I still find it amazing that got started up.
The Yord Horde.
But I always this whole like talk to the camera and be like, we're gonna make it, guys, because we know what's happening with the cool,
to the
awesome, like it's gonna be great. Babylon is like famously badly received, but I never saw it. Cap, you're a snob. You saw it, right?
I did not see it. No,
damn
it didn't look good.
God damn it! Why are you here?
Yeah, what the fuck?
Good question.
Chat, was it any
Maybe
good?
we'll find out.
Did anyone see
Go
Babylon?
Nobody saw Babylon, right? That's like the problem.
So was it Babylon 5? No. Babylon. Different thing.
Babylon.
Damien Chazelle movie.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody see First Man? That was he made that.
Yeah,
I like
not a
that
lot of
movie.
people saw that.
I like
one.
that as much as Whiplash, though.
Oh, Whiplash,
obviously.
fucking
Whiplash is
hard
tough
to beat Whiplash.
Whiplash, one of the best movies like ever. So
Yes.
yeah.
will one day reign over culture. Our time is yet to come.
Yeah, man.
I am not alone.
Okay, dude.
You're a socialist. You'll never rule over anything. You're just gonna have to accept that. You're a loser.
Yeah. You probably pause again, maybe. I don't know, because
I'm trying to be good careful here because this is a bit of a. You never know.
It's really overexposed.
Yeah, it does. But there are a lot of things that are...
Like the actor.
I feel like there are a lot of things
the
recently
fuck?
that have been like Ahsoka was really overexposed in terms of its shots as well. Superman, James Gunn's one, that kind of looks a bit overexposed sometimes as well.
We
It's a
couldn't
weird
give a
thing to
little
have
bit
to
more in terms of the etymology of snob and its historical context. We needed this. This is the important part of the video
This is a
that
good one,
had
though.
to get
No,
trimmed
this is a
down
good
for.
one. This is a good one.
To this end, Kieran poses a new skeptical
Okay.
question. Can we
Ooh.
ever really know whether our artistic appreciation...
Man, I love the idea of like leading in really close to look at
Yeah.
Is this real?
He's thinking
But what
really
does it
hard.
mean?
Well, why did they... Well, is it like copyrighted? Why did they blur it?
Maybe this is like maybe he was looking at something else and they put this there instead.
To be fair, this could be modern art, Rags.
I know. I
I
was.
found myself doing that to try
yeah.
and find like particular brush strokes. That's generally when I'll try.
Yeah,
and
or
lean
like
into
if there's a
pictures.
lot going on.
Sure, but I mean, but
Yeah.
if it's painting like this,
This is
yeah,
just
and you're like,
horseshit
"Ooh,
crap that should be burned.
all right, calm down.
To be fair, watching it burn and looking through the ashes would be more interesting to me than the painting itself. But yeah.
skeptical
Fair,
question.
yeah.
Can we ever really know whether our artistic
Oh, he's wearing one of those
appreciation is
hats.
snobbish or not?
One of
How
those
can
hats.
we be sure if we deeply appreciate...
I like that one. I like the skeleton man
cool.
with the moon
Rags,
or
I
the
don't think Crean's
tambourine.
gonna let you get away with that.
One of those hats. Like
Yeah.
that one there.
Yeah, because it's not about that. Look at how he's wearing it.
Oh, right. It's like his hair is pushing it up. Like it's
Yeah.
not, it's not like
Well,
on
I can't let
properly.
the hat get in the way of my hair. Then don't wear
Well,
a hat, you
so
person.
you don't have a problem with the hat then, you have a problem with the way that the hat is being worn, right?
It's the execution of the hat. In
I
the
mean,
same
again,
way
I
that the
suppose-
maker of this painting should be executed. The execution of this hat is really, really not. And plus, that's the hat where if you wear that hat with like nicer clothes, like a vest and stuff, nah, it just doesn't work. That's like a
Well, it's
working
an
man's hat.
old-timey poor
That's
working man. Yeah, that's right. It's a commoner hat.
So don't wear that with like a button-down shirt that you've like just to show how cool and hip you are. You've kind of rolled up the sleeves a little bit. You got your vest there, you know. No, it's not the hat that you wear with that kind of attire.
You're not snobbing him, are you?
No, because I'm earnest in the way that I believe these things.
We already established snobs can be earnest.
That's right. Maybe he just
Then
really
I'm just an
liked
earnest
the
guy.
hat.
Hmm.
Okay.
I'm just
I
an
think
earnest
you're being
guy.
caught out.
Confirmed,
I think
yeah.
you're being caught out there.
No, I just think I care. I think I have a
Anyway,
passion for something, and I
let's
want to
move on
share
to
that
my
with the
next
world. I'm like the
marinade
wine
later.
man. I'm like the whiner.
All right.
Okay.
Kieran poses a new skeptical question. Can we ever really know whether our artistic appreciation
pink
is
is next
snobbish
to black.
or
Oh,
not?
yes.
How can we be
Oh, I'm gonna play it for the 7th
We ever
time.
know. Okay, so can we
no,
we ever
no,
know
we gotta
about
do it again. That
appreciation?
wasn't
Okay.
clean.
Okay.
To this end, Kieran poses a new skeptical question. Can we ever really know whether our artistic appreciation is snobbish or not? How can we be sure if we deeply appreciate the art or just like the social status that goes with appreciating it?
I suppose you could do that by just thinking for a
reason?
while. Yeah, like you could just think about it. And
Just,
sort of
just.
reflect on
I feel like
yourself and-
is there a more needed answer than through reason? You just explain your reasoning, and then you know.
Can
Well,
you
I guess what
explain
I'm
why
saying
you
is,
like
like,
it? If you can't answer that
if
question,
you're doing it for yourself, like if it's about yourself, you just think about it for a bit and think about like where that interest comes from and how it manifests, right?
But now
as
he's
long as
gone
you have a
back
willingness to be
until you
honest
wanna
with yourself
start
about what those reasons are.
digging
He's gone
into
back-
subconscious biases or whatever, but at that point you're doing a psychoanalysis of yourself, and I wonder what the point is.
He's also sort of retreated back to the other definition of snobbery that involves like the high class associations, not necessarily like moral superiority or like superiority over other people for your taste. So that complicates things. Obviously, if you like a piece of art and you don't really care whether anyone knows that you like it, and you don't care to signal your like class status, then you're not being a snob under that definition. But I guess he's sort of asking now whether if you like a piece of art, whether that's divorced from its high class status or not.
So, like, when Chris Duckman finally liked Blade Runner, how could he know that it was because he genuinely liked it versus he just succumbed to the overall pressure of knowing he had to like it?
That's the
I
tricky
guess.
part with, artistic delusion. Sometimes, without other people helping you out, it might be really, really difficult to truly know. Perhaps he's
Surely-
fooled himself and he'll never be able to recognize that.
in that situation,
Great
all you have to do is just say, well, yeah, what are my reasons for now liking it? And do those reasons have anything to do with the thing itself? Or is it just that I felt bad when people criticized me for not liking it? If that's the only thing going through your head, then that's evidently a kind of acquiescence to your social circle. But if you've got anything to say about the qualities of the art you're consuming, then it's probably not snobbish. Certainly not if you know that that opinion is not going to win you any friends amongst people you want to be your friends.
So yeah,
Even
just
if
think
it's
about
a
it for a little
simple-
bit.
Even if it's like super simple, like I like this because I don't even know, man. I can't put my finger on it. There's just something about the colors and like where everything is, and like it just looks so good, and I don't know the words to describe it. And even that is enough to be like, you're not doing it for other people. You really do like it. You just can't quite explain it to yourself yet. Which happens for a lot of things. It happens with movies. It happens with songs. Sometimes it can be really tough to identify exactly why you like something.
That's kind of what
Give
I
it
meant
time, think about it, and it'll come in
by
here.
reason broadly. Because if someone just says I like it, and you go why, and you go, and they've got like zero passion or zero commentary, not even related to its construction or how it makes them feel or anything, I would be like, a bit weird. Sounds like you haven't got anything and you're just saying it for the sake of it. But I mean, it really is down to the introspection. The person will know. It's kind of hard to prove otherwise.
After all, snobs often speak very convincingly about the craft and details of art. And fishing for clout amongst peers, i.e., virtue signaling, is not just an upper class thing. Journalist Stephen Poole.
It's not just an upper class thing. Why would it be? It's like literally just with peers trying to get social capital. That would apply. How could that not apply to all social castes, all social
you think
groups?
Poor people have peers?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, what a weird thing to say. Like, even poor people like to be liked.
It's almost like the poors are people.
Oh, is he a dead guy? It's black and white. I don't know.
Stephen Poole.
He's
It is
confusing
black
us
and
now. I
white,
think he's alive, but it is black and white to give it an extra air of authority.
Oh God, it is. But the guy with the blue wall, well, that's how I know it was a blue wall, because it was in color.
That the use of pretentious as criticism is a smug, knowing wink to one's presumed peers. Anti-intellectualism in this way is a type of...
Okay, hold on. Because now
Are we moving on to snobs?
a lot. Because pretentious is a different thing than snobbery. Because like baked into the idea of pretentiousness is that you like claim something that you don't have, usually intelligence or culturedness or well-readedness, as Theo said earlier. Like if you actually are smart and you say something smart, then it's not pretentious. But if you're like feigning, like if you're pretending to be smarter than you pretending to be smarter than you are, then that's like pretentious. So that's complicating things a bit. Also, my question is, if someone is signaling to their in-group, if they're like a working class person, and they're signaling to their in-group that they don't like high art because that earns them social capital within their group, is that snobbery, or is it something different because it's going up instead of down?
They have less power, so it's different.
Like the punching up and down concept in
That's
general.
right, exactly.
I've
Yes.
heard the term inverse snobbery being used to describe that sort of thing.
Okay.
But I don't know that it's... It depends, again, because it goes back to the fact that we haven't really got a proper definition of what snob is to begin with. But
he went through all those
if
dead
all of
people.
this is...
Yeah,
I
and what
know,
it used to
but-
mean, but doesn't now.
And Aristotle and like snob is good or whatever, but I don't know that inverse snobbery is very good. But like, if all we're talking about at this point is just I'm socially signaling to my in-group that I'm not part of out-group, then how useful is any of this? I mean, that's just very, very basic group psychology stuff. And snobbery almost doesn't come into it except as an expression of it.
And also, I'd say with this quote, which he allows to be on screen in full for like a split second before it disappears, which annoys me. But
I think that's it, isn't it? I don't want to risk it.
It's basically it, yeah. But this happens in games a lot when you have like veterans of a game or have played it a whole bunch, and they want to be really nice to newcomers to welcome into the community, and they look down on people who are very pretentious and snobbish about the game and its skill and what you need for it, because it gives them a bad name, it gives them a bad reputation, it chases away new people, and it, sort of cloisters them into a into an experience that they aren't able to share with other people. You probably get this a lot. I bet the guy who is excited to tell us all about wine would be like, no, I would call, there's a lot of other sommeliers who are very, very pretentious. And I don't like that because they make me seem like an asshole. And I want to get people into this hobby. I think it's a really neat hobby. I think there's a lot of cool experiences and sensations that we can learn about and pair with food. And there's a certain artistry to it that I enjoy. And the last thing that I want is to be seen as pretentious, because then people will write me off and they'll write the whole wine enthusiasm as pretentious as well. Almost like like a sort of cultural policing, self-policing that like a community will do to protect their reputation. They don't want to be seen as pretentious for the most part.
Anti-intellectualism in this way is a type of snobbery too. There are even types of snobbery that don't involve praising the upper class. For example, consider the hipster, who...
Wait, didn't he start the video by saying it's inherently a class thing?
Well, I guess now he's saying it is still a class thing, but that it can go both ways. Remember, poor people can have friends.
Well, now he's saying there's things about it that don't involve class at all, e.g.
Yeah,
the hipster,
that's what
or
I'm
the
hearing.
entire modern usage of snobbery.
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't include class sometimes, then surely the inclusion of class is like not a fundamental.
That's like a
intrinsic
modifier as
element.
opposed to the fundamental, yeah.
Exactly, but
It has roots in classism.
It's just
But
we've
that's
spent
it.
the last like 6 minutes basically talking about it through a class lens to be like, well, but it's not. It isn't always class.
Which,
like,
which is
okay.
like almost smokescreen the fact that 90% of the modern usage of the term has nothing to do with class. It is about media, the perception of media, and the consumption thereof.
Would this not, though,
Yeah, and how people
depend
act towards other people.
This would depend on how he explains this, though, because if he's going to say a hipster is the kind of person that engages in, like, the deliberate avoidance of high-class art to try and come across as better than people who do, as the, like... You understand what I'm saying? If he's like, oh, you take pride and you are a snob about not being a snob, I guess that's still about class.
This is like, it's similar to like the being, what is it, like goth, right? Trying to have that kind of attitude, being above society, or people who think that being earnest is just shit. You shouldn't care about anything, man. That kind of stuff. I guess that would be certainly parallel to this idea.
Who over the years embraced working class aesthetics ranging from cheap beer to trucker hats to...
Wait, how is that not... Sorry?
It has everything to do with class.
Yeah, now I'm confused.
You said the word cheap in it. It probably has something to do with class.
He specifically invoked class.
A type of snobbery too. There are even types of snobbery that don't involve praising the upper class. For example...
so he's not saying it's not about class, it's not about the praising the upper class.
Okay. All right, never mind.
You're good.
Consider the hipster, who over the years embraced working class aesthetics ranging from cheap beer to trucker hats to mechanics jackets, despite often having no participation in or knowledge of working class life. This type of contrarian social signaling says, I appreciate things that snobs overlook, which, ironically, is quite snobby. We also see this with film buffs' widespread embrace of B movies, from The Room.
Whoa!
I think a lot of this has to do with the attitude in which you engage in these sorts of things.
The Room is like famously entertaining as fuck. I wouldn't have used this as an example of like people will.
No, neither would I.
Like whoever says you would enjoy The Room if not for your snobbery, like that doesn't come up.
The Room transcends class and race, and it's the great unifier.
It is beautiful. It really is.
Which is loved for its sheer incompetence.
Come on.
To Control 2, which is loved for its accidental humor. To my personal favorite, Freddy Got Fingered.
Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like some sausages?
Also, while many men go to strip clubs for their bachelor parties, at mine, we sat in a room together watching Freddy Got Fingered.
Yeah?
I don't... You didn't need to put that in the video. you could have kept that one
guys,
out.
I had friends I went to at school.
Thanks, man.
Things for my friends.
Thanks for letting me know. Anyway, you've got 11 minutes left.
I love the idea that
there's a wacky wall behind me.
He records this and sends it to the editor. The editor sends a message back like, "Do you want me to keep this bit in?" And he's like, "Yeah." And you're like, "Okay."
Right. You're still wearing that hat, by the way. I know.
Remove it.
Oh, okay. All right.
I wouldn't have
Strap is
said it if I
really-
didn't want it in.
You know, the strap is really sticking out there in the back. Okay, all right. That's
Oh, I
fair,
thought
that's
you were
fair.
referring
It's
to the C like it's the cuck hat or something.
the big C. That's his cuck hat now. That's his cuck hat. That's the cuck
That's like
hat.
an NFL team, right?
The cucks?
Chicago.
The cucks.
Chicago Cucks.
Go
Oh
Cucks!
my god! Oh my god! I don't think that's what they're called.
I think it is.
No, I think it is.
Yeah. It used to mean something different. The cuckoos.
I'm big into the
the
sports.
cuckoos, yeah.
I know all of them.
Just a joke. That's
So
what
just
we
know that
watched.
there's an irony upon irony upon irony in this video. This section is in here because what he's probably thinking while scripting is, I know I've just quoted fucking Aristotle and a bunch of other dead guys, and I want my audience to know that I'm still one of them. So I'm going to tell them a quirky little anecdote to make me sound normal. What he's doing is kind of like the hipsterism he just got finished describing.
I like movies too. I watch the
like
lower
Freddy
class
Got
poor people
Fingered.
movies.
That's a very irreverent film that I watched with my friends in school.
Fingered. This isn't just a joke. That's what we watched. If anyone from my bachelor party watches this video, comment and say, we really did that.
Dude, stop.
They would be ashamed to associate.
Okay,
with you.
man, I believe you.
Stop.
Thank you. So if both high and low art consumption can be snobby, maybe it's worth asking.
Giamatti.
Are snobs just getting a bad rap? And all
That's not the conclusion. I thought he was about to do the
No.
thing that we were pointing out, which is maybe it's not actually to do with class at all, and it's actually just a trait that you can engage in any way, shape, and form in a sense. But no, he said like maybe they're getting a bad rap. How did you get that?
Well,
Asking.
he concluded that both sides, if you will, do it, and he's like, well, then maybe it's not actually bad for some. Like,
That's not at all how there are murderers
No.
on both sides. What?
It's very
What is
strange.
Jeffrey Dahmer's stance on
There are high class serial killers and low class serial killers. Maybe they get a bad rap. I don't know.
I don't want to be
They
killed
both
by no
do.
low class salt to the earth serial killer.
Are snobs just getting a bad rap? And also, are snobs just bad at rapping? Don't put that in the video. And
No, you shouldn't have put that in the video, and yet
Yeah,
you
you
did.
shouldn't have.
Yeah, you did.
You should have taken it out like that stupid fucking Freddy Got Fingered anecdote that no one cares about.
Does
Take off that hat.
criticism of snobbery sort of miss the point. Now, it's tempting to dismiss snobbery as classist social signaling, and
It is when you frame it in class
Yeah,
terms.
I never really thought of it that
can
way,
be.
but
What? How does this work when it's like you're within your own class? You're just is it we breaking it down to classes like subclasses in a class?
I don't know. I feel like the easiest way to explain it is if somebody says like, "Oh yeah, I don't like that Marvel shit. I like watching French films." I'm not like, "You're rich." Like that's never an assumption that I would make if someone said that.
yeah, it's you're a poor YouTuber. is what
Ah,
I
you
think.
hate the pause. You're like, no, it feels disconnected. Yeah, it's like I guess that's why he did the etymology thing because he just wanted to get into it being absolutely about class and only about class.
But then,
And
even
as-
following that argument, he's using snob in place of words which would way more accurately describe what he is talking about. Like he's using snob to do it as elitist, for example, would
Yeah.
be one
Yeah.
way of classifying the upper class version of snobbery versus anti-elitism, which would be like the anti-intellectualism he was talking about. But snobbery isn't the driving mechanic there. That's if you're doing a class-based analysis, look at the class of it. Don't try and like pigeonhole it because you want to talk about this word.
snobbery as classist social signaling and as art appreciation for the wrong reasons. But according to cultural critic Kate Wagner, the silencing refrain of "let people enjoy things" has shortcomings. She argued,
Really?
Oh!
Really?
Oh well.
All right, Kate.
All right, Kate. All right, Kate.
Well,
you
that's
know,
a woman,
you set, all right, Kate. You got set up
You got a
for a
chance
real
here.
big W here. You
Who's
got
got the
you
let
can
people
boldly go
enjoy
where no
things
man's
crowd?
gone before.
usually means to say one of the following: I do not want to feel judged for my consumption choices. I.e., don't shade me for
Why did Mario is the
Yeah, it's okay to like the Mario movie. It's a fine
because you
movie.
should feel
Mario's
shame
great.
if you
Mario's for
engage with
dumb
Mario.
babies, okay?
I can't
It's not
believe-
a mature film.
thought you loved Mario.
Mario movie catching strays in this Wisecrackin video.
Shut up.
It is actually really funny to be like, what is the prototypical image of enjoying a thing you shouldn't? Mario. Like,
Mario.
okay.
Got me thinking about the algorithm stuff. I'm starting to wonder if he's got like a quota he has to meet in terms of like how many dead people or like intellectual figures he needs to introduce and discuss in each video.
How much time can elapse until there has to be some visual on screen of something?
Because it's part of like the channel brand, right?
It could actually be algorithmic.
The algorithm
yeah.
demands that every 6.29 seconds it'll be updated tomorrow, but there has to be some sort of visual change, or else people won't watch it.
I'm not sure I necessarily disagree with the sentiment, by the way, that this lady apparently said it's like a cover for "I don't want to be judged for my consumption choices," which is
It'll be one of three things, right? And I think
I'd agree with this one.
One of them.
Feel judged for my consumption choices, i.e., don't shade me for loving Super Mario Brothers. I was stoned.
That's not. It's fine.
That's not
It's
what that
fine.
says, but
Yeah.
okay.
Look at us. We're adorable.
Stop it, man.
That comment was really snobby because he literally couldn't think of a reason someone would like it, so he said, "Oh, I was stoned."
This
I'm
Transformers.
so sick of it. You can get so much done in 18
This
minutes.
is the Napoleon movie where he destroys the pyramids with his
Napoleon versus
war
Megatron.
machines. This is Napoleon's war machines destroying the Great Pyramid. This was in the Ridley Scott movie.
Then there's I want to silence people who disagree with me about this particular piece of media by making them feel like they are cheerless or judgmental.
Yeah.
Yep, that's another one. Sure. Yep.
I.e., calling anyone who doesn't like Transformers critical Grinches who should shut up.
They should shut up.
So,
You're right.
okay, I am starting to see the formula. Show the film, then make your statement, then put a clip from the film
Funny.
there. Because he's about to show the one where he's talking about his nuts. See the wrecking balls there.
Even got subtitles for it in case you missed the joke.
I am directly below the enemy scrotum.
Or, I recognize an aspect of this piece of media that is worthy of criticism, and I am defensive of this. I.e., knowing...
This lady's onto something. The
yeah,
video's not.
wow.
Hey, if you want to come on to EFAP, then we can talk
Assuming you're
about
alive, he
memes.
tends to choose dead people.
Assuming you're alive. You're in color, so I hope you're alive. But if you want to come on to EFAP and talk about memes, we can do that.
Hearts, Matrix Resurrections was a tough hang, but not wanting to acknowledge it to yourself.
This cannot be another reboot.
See, there it is. Look at this formula.
Did anyone defend that movie though?
There was some
Yes.
people. The main
There was
defense
some.
was it's self-aware and you don't understand that.
Yeah,
It's like,
Oh.
It's kind of next level. They claimed it was bad on purpose to screw over the studio, and that's actually like 4D chess on the part of Lana Wachowski. That's
Yeah,
a
like,
real thing
if-
people argue. Yep.
I'll tank my own fucking franchise before I let anyone else do it. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and they're like base queen slay. Go get them.
Regurgitate.
Why not? Reboot sell.
And I do not want to think critically about the things I consume. And if I absorb any criticism about the things I consume, it will magically ruin my enjoyment of them.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Ah, interesting.
Where are we going with this then? What's next?
Martin
Alright.
Scorsese to shut the up before he makes me realize I should have spent a lot less time on Disney Plus.
Well, it's not like Martin Scorsese is watching any of these films. He can't be critical of them. That was the problem. So you can only say they're roller coasters, which is that going to take away from your enjoyment? Someone saying it's a roller coaster? If
It shouldn't.
Not really.
And way more time on the Criterion Channel.
I think those movies are for grown male nerd childs. And oh really? Oh yeah, right. Take the hit. You guys are in charge of culture.
Now
That's a funny thing.
to the first
You're in charge of culture.
one, she replies that we should not take media criticism as a personal attack. And
Yes, obviously.
Yeah, I agree.
No shit. I guess maybe I'm sad because it's like, it's unfortunate we are in a position where we have to say that, you know?
You find me the person who does not agree with this.
I think the problem is most people would agree, but a lot of people act like
They wouldn't act.
know,
Yes. They act as if that's true, but they would never admit it.
it may be uncomfortable to enjoy a movie that gets critically panned, but she argues, luckily, there exists a simple remedy. Don't identify with what you consume.
Good advice.
Hmm.
But
I mean, the thing is that it's easier said than done because you're gonna.
Well, and
in a way, because you
I mean,
see the
you-
things that you like as some element of who you are, because the kind of person that you are is going to change the things that you like.
Well, I'd go further than that. Is it bad to say that in some sense your identity is influenced by a film or a book or a game that was really meaningful to you? Is that a bad thing necessarily?
I don't think that's bad. If that's what they mean, because a lot of people I guess they don't engage with it that way. But that is a healthy way to engage with it, what you mentioned.
If we went with someone watches any given movie and there's like a hero doing heroic things, and then they say like that since they were a kid was what they often think about whenever they need to be inspired, or whenever they think about like I need to do a good thing, what would this character do? And then someone comes along a decade later explaining just how horribly written that sequence was and how what the hero was actually doing was pretty cowardly and pathetic, and that person is hyper defensive because they've built a lot of blah 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 on top of that. I would say it was okay that had happened to them, but at that point they need to separate the meaning from the character. You know, they need to take what they got from it and keep that, but you know, dissociate from the scene or the way it was constructed at that point, because what you got from it was really meaningful and valuable, but it's not dependent on the scene continuing to exist as it is, or your interpretation of it, because what you had was good and right, but it wasn't from the scene, it was more so from your interpretation of it, which you can keep. But, you know, just admit what it is going forward. Or fucking don't engage with the conversation, I guess. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, we do kind of encourage people take important growth where they can from art, be it an inspiration or, you know, changing perspectives, but yeah, you need to not be so attached to it that the health of it, like in however you view it, needs to stay exactly the same. Otherwise, it destroys you as a person. Which, by the way, there are countless examples of this.
I suppose the thing is I'm almost wondering if like part of the problem is I think it's annoying me because there's nothing wrong with the sentence "don't identify with what you consume," but the word "consume" is bugging me. Because I feel like the word consume has a lot of other connotations that don't necessarily describe what you could say is like a very sort of earnest and authentic engagement with art, compared to the idea of like consuming a product.
Yeah.
You know, anything that you buy, like if you buy a film,
my
product,
identity
it is a product by definition, but like consumption as a word, I guess you are consuming a film if you want to say it like that, but almost it's not quite the word that I would use, for instance, if I was describing somebody who it's like, oh man, I really like Lord of the Rings was really important for me. It was a really important book series, or alternatively in reference to the films, that instilled me with values that I like hold dear. You know, it's like, oh, did you consume Lord of the Rings? It's like, well, no, I mean you absorbed it, like you extracted meaning from it. And therefore identifying with that experience. It's like, well, it's not even bad. It's like, that's like what would happen. Of course you would identify with it because it's meaningful to you.
Yeah, I didn't scarf it down like a fast food hamburger. It was like a meal that nourished my soul in a sense. And if you go and ask people to describe themselves to you, they can describe themselves in a way that's very shallow and, you know, consumerist. I describe myself, if someone describes himself by the things that they like and the media, not even the media they engage with, but I like Marvel movies. I like whatever product, or I like whatever franchise. Then that's kind of like, okay, but hopefully there's more to it than that. Hopefully you're just saying that in a very shorthanded way. It's a bit more deeper than just what you consume as media.
I agree. There's an element of disposability associated with things that you simply consume. I would never say like, oh, I consumed Lord of the Rings yesterday. It was great. Okay, what's next? Like,
we
it
were
just
talking
seems
about,
like you don't really appreciate any of the substance of it.
We were talking about like deeply connected identification with media as well, but this unfortunately does kind of happen with very surface level stuff too, and this can literally come down to if you state how something made you feel, you've now got to commit to it. There's an era of that for a lot of people instead of being able to. It's something that I think is super important to be able to just say immediately after, actually, I don't feel that way. I don't know why I said that.
Yeah.
It's something that like in our society is just not a thing people say almost ever. Once you've said how you feel, you have to commit to it pretty much. Otherwise, maybe you'll be seen as a liar. But I was just thinking about how someone could explain why Theoden or Boromir is inspiring to them, and by the end of their very long speech, you could just be like, yeah, man, fuck yeah, absolutely. But then if they say the exact same thing, but describing the different elements of the scene about Black Widow with the prison sequence, then like I'm inspired to do good by that, you'd be like,
I'm
okay,
glad for you.
Yeah, it's like a I guess I don't hopefully that doesn't get taken away as an inspired thing, but you understand what they did there was evil. Like that's not you. I don't know how to.
They inspired you because they're a bad example, right?
They'd be like, "What do you mean? They
In
saved
the way
a
that
family
Hitler inspires
member?
you to fight evil."
You know, it was close. It was done with skill, and like it was an effort. They had to overcome a lot of horrifying, potential deaths. And you're like, yeah. Pick someone better. Like, don't let it be her. And if they said that soon after seeing it, they might already have committed. They were like, no, she's awesome. She's fuck you. Because it doesn't affect necessarily that notion that you've come away with. It's just the thing itself. So I'm all for disconnecting it, at least somewhat in a safe way. Don't get too defensive, because it reminds me of like the Snyder sort of stuff, where it's just like we cannot accept those films have anything wrong with them because that destroys our identity. It's like, oh, that's not good.
Assume. That is to say, when the haters say that Babylon is trash, remember that you aren't Damien Chazelle, so no one is attacking you. To number two,
but he definitely should identify with what he made, though. Like, and feel
there's
very
that, but
attacked if people shit on him.
I mean, it depends on the context too. If you ardently defend that it is an example of high quality or good quality, and someone says no, it's not, it's trash, that is kind of not an attack on you as a person, but certainly on your ideas.
They've challenged you in a sense.
Yeah.
What if they said it's trash and everybody who likes it is an idiot?
Well, and to an extent, it's like that's okay. As in, like, yeah, all right. Now engage with that conversation if you want to. It's fine.
Something that gets overlooked in so many videos like this is the capability human beings have to speak with one another.
Yeah. Often treats them as these very helpless little creatures that once they enter a place that's different than what they thought it was, they're like, die.
Like if I walk into a room and say I like thing, and someone else says I don't like it, I just explode.
Well, he would come between you both with his arms out, like, whoa, guys, like let's talk about Aristotle first before you fucking go crazy.
Douchey replies that there is no need to shut down critical discussion unless you are an authoritarian. Basically, let people criticize things, even if you find it annoying. And remember, you can always just close Twitter. You can just close it. You make it go away. To number three, she replies...
That's crazy.
I feel like his team would be upset with him for that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, probably.
Like, what do you mean you got cyberbullied? Just, like, turn off the screen.
Isn't that like a famous tweet?
Famous old
the
tweet.
creator.
Famous old meme.
Yeah, it's great. Just close it.
What do you mean you're a cyberbully? Just close the laptop.
This person is a cultural nihilist who, though they understand the critics' arguments, refuses to care themselves or even to acknowledge.
Wait, sorry. I mean, go back. This quote is the person who is doing the criticizing,
this
or
is
the people upset about the criticizing?
This is the lady who was laying out the 4 points thingamajiggy.
Yeah, but what is this person in the quote?
This person would be the person responding to criticism with things along the lines of let people enjoy things, I believe.
Gotcha. Just making sure. This person's a cultural nihilist too. Okay, carry on.
That someone else might care. In this way, they're saying criticism doesn't matter. To number four,
Hang on.
Oh, is that what the takeaway? That this person is a cultural nihilist who, though they understand the critics' arguments, refuses to care themselves or even to acknowledge that someone else might care.
And he just said this means criticism doesn't matter from the person's perspective or from her perspective.
From that person's perspective, yeah.
Because this seems like it's a statement on people's ability to engage in earnestness.
Well, I was going to say it might matter a lot to them, but they don't want to. Like, there are times, and unfortunately, this is just a reality, and I'm essentially happy for it to be this way. But if someone says like this thing means too much to me, I really don't want to go through all the arguments for why it's bad. I'd be like, okay, that's your choice to make, and that should be valid. I think. I don't think we should call it that they don't find any meaning in criticism. In fact, it might be that they find too much of it, and they don't want it to, override a perspective they currently have and enjoy. Which you're free to do that. I'd say. Well, you should be free to do that.
Yeah, applying nihilism to something like that, simply like stepping out of the cultural argument about something, seems way too extreme to use.
I mean, I've seen it in like more relativism, the people who turn up and say, well, it's all just subjective anyway, so what's the point of criticism? That can come across as nihilistic about what culture really is and what art actually entails. But like you do not uncommonly hear people say that, in which case relativism would be the more common one.
Yeah, it's almost like contextually, right? If they said, it's wonderful because we all have a perspective, it's all subjective, versus it's all subjective anyway. Like, that one definitely seems like the more nihilistic one.
Yeah.
Right.
So number 4, she replies that simple escapism and entertainment value is not the aim of art, though it might well be the goal of enormous media conglomerates. She notes
Okay,
that,
here's that's annoying.
He's
Here's the
falling
thing,
off of me
because
now.
people like to do this thing where they go like, no, that's not the aim of art. This is, as if like art isn't always aiming at a hierarchy of different things, all in like varying
There's
proportions.
a million reasons that somebody might want to express themselves for a
And
million different
it's
end
never
goals.
just one thing. It's all to varying degrees. The classics, expressing yourself, entertaining other people, making money, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
It's
and
always
both
a
sides of the
combination of all of
equation.
them.
I mean, it's creation and engaging with it. It's like there's not one way to engage with it, just like there's not one way to make it.
I'm content with this insofar as there is no like purpose of art as such. Art is not like teleological in that sense.
Well, I've listened to artists and directors talk, and sometimes their goal is explicitly that. They say that they want to just make something that's escapist entertainment, and that's fine. And it's like, why, if that's what they think, why would I think any different? Like, and I don't think that's bad either. Like, yeah, go for it.
I would argue that's part of the
is not
goal
bad.
with this podcast is escapism. We're supposed to be providing like a little... Don't have to worry about some of the annoying things that are going on right now. Instead, it'll be just a thing about silly movies. And if someone said like, that is not the aim of art expression, I'd be like, go away.
You always will run into the problem of trying to define the thing by what it isn't, which escapism basically is. Escapism as like a first order principle, it's good to be able to get away from the travails of the real world is a good thing. But in what form your escapism takes always has to either implicitly or explicitly answer the question, what are you escaping from? Or what is it that you prefer instead of the thing from which you're escaping? So there's almost no such thing as simple escapism as the point and purpose of art. That answer is if you don't want to or you don't have time to get too deeply into what you think or what you're trying to do, it's a good answer and it's a good value. But when like creating this podcast, it's not just that you don't want to talk about the real world, it's that you want things to talk about as well. In which case it's not simple escapism, that's just the premise. And then you get into what do you value?
Well,
what
among
like
other things.
What is
like,
the purpose of what you create?
I would say entertainment value is another important aspect, but there's plenty, which is why it just feels strange to say it's not the aim of art. Yeah, I don't know. There's plenty to rip apart there, I'd say.
It can be the aim of art sometimes, and sometimes there's a higher
well, and if
goal
we're talking
in
about
mind. I mean, it can be either.
What is the aim of art? Is it defined by the author, like the artist, or is it? Yeah, I'm assuming so, right? In which case it could be for fucking anything. If not, then there is no aim of art, as was mentioned by Theo, I think.
The dichotomy, I think you're saying being like whether it's the artist or like it's something that's culturally discussed and agreed upon.
Maybe.
Like,
I mean,
no, the actual purpose of the art is this thing.
It could be that. It also could be some sort of weird standard that we all agree upon that within the art itself, the aim becomes clear if you analyze it accurately or something. But if this feels really all over the place, doesn't it? Like in terms of what is the aim of art is a video that would fucking be like 10 hours long. It wouldn't be complete.
She notes that many criticize Marvel movies not for their big budgets and massive explosions, but for their militaristic and nationalistic themes.
Why
would you?
Is that what a lot of people criticize Marvel movies for?
But that's a different conversation, like entirely different.
Yeah.
Also, no, that's not typically what they're
A
criticized
lot of people.
for.
A lot is a nice vague word.
It implies that I should definitely not be surprised by what you said, but then you said something that surprised me, and I'm like, oh yeah, not a lot of people really say that. No.
Successfully privatized world peace.
Point 4 also seems to get the distinction between art and content, which we've talked about before, but it's an important distinction nonetheless. Now, we may fear...
I'm sure you did a great
job. That was very pretentious of you.
Can we rewind just like 10 seconds there? Just so I can hear that again?
Peace.
Point 4 also seems to get at the distinction between art and content, which we've talked about before, but it's an important distinction nonetheless.
Like,
Are we going to be defining art and content here?
Well,
No,
so
it's not.
if
It was
going by that
important enough to
statement,
bring up.
art's aim is not to be entertainment or escapism. I guess he's implying that that's what content's job is, to be escapist and entertainment.
That's a weird definition.
I agree.
I definitely agree with. Yeah, that's.
So it's like, if we're going to, if a thing that's going to be relevant to content is that there isn't, a price attached, or it's something that's sold, like basically all art is content by that definition, because you probably have to pay for it. Like if you want to enjoy it, either buy a ticket to watch it, or buy the video game, or pay to go to the museum so that you can look at it.
Yeah, Fringy, but that's a problem. And you see, under the socialist utopia, you wouldn't have to pay at all to engage in art. And that would solve all this.
This is just the distinction between a high art and low art in like different
Oh
words.
yes, the literature versus fiction shit.
Oh,
Yes.
it's cinema versus theme parks and shit.
That's right.
It's a load of
the difference
garbage.
between theater and movies.
Or film and movies.
I love these definitions. I love them. I love the distinction between literature and fiction, whatever that means.
Well,
it's just snobbery. I mean, that's
wherever
that's what
it could have value is not in the general public, right? Like, which is what this is aimed at. The distinctions like that will often be everyone will sneer at. If someone said like, I'm not watching that because it's not cinema, you'd be like, okay. Nice.
Now, we may fear the criticism will ruin our enjoyment, but that's a bad reason to dismiss it, and it may just be wrong.
Well, sure.
Oh, okay.
Oh boy.
Hello.
Okay. All right. Okay. We gotta focus on what he just said. We can't get distracted. We can't get distracted. What were you saying before we noticed the picture of Anita Sarkeesian in the video?
As feminist video game,
It hadn't come up on my end. That's why I was confused.
Oh.
All of chat were probably like, "What's happening?"
Listen, you're in for a treat.
nonetheless. Now,
Sure
we
we
may
all are.
fear the criticism will ruin our enjoyment, but that's a bad reason to dismiss it, and it may just be wrong. As feminist video game critic Anita
I
Sarkeesian,
love that he introduces her as though she's not a
Yeah,
fucking.
video
She's
game
like a
critic.
main villain of.
Like mega psycho grifter. Anita
Famous
Sarkeesian.
goblin, and he's Sarkeesian.
Person who is alleged
I know-
to
I
have
know-
maybe
I know
played a
what-
video
I know
game
what this
once.
quote is going to be. It's the quote of like, "Oh, I can like video games, but also criticize them at the same time," as if that's
Oh
one. something
yeah,
that
it'll
needs to
probably
said.
be that
But
fucking
two,
quote.
oh, you like video games, huh? Is that right? Is that so?
Oh, and someone just about didn't she marry herself?
Oh,
She married Movie Bob, okay?
I've seen
like,
this.
She had a wedding themed birthday party. That's what it
Oh. Oh no.
That's
Sarkeesian
tragic.
said, "It's
I
both
know.
possible and even necessary
Yep.
to simultaneously enjoy media
Yeah, that's-
while
it is.
also
That's
being
the
critical
one.
of its more problematic or pernicious
Yeah.
aspects."
yeah, that's the one.
The problem is you
That's
fucking
right.
hate video games.
Also, this
I'm
is
just
about-
convinced of it.
Something, it's not like the same as you can enjoy The Room while also recognizing the things about The Room. This is more so
essentially,
about
This quote is, "Don't get mad that I'm saying Mario is sexist."
This is not about the same thing that I. This,
You're not
this
allowed to be mad about that. I like it, and it's necessary to
Hitman is
criticize it.
sexist. But I guess
Yeah,
you can still enjoy
Hitman
playing
encourages
it.
you to kill innocent women.
Yeah, even don't just ignore that the minus points in the corner of the screen there.
Yeah.
Don't go
It's
look
a
at that,
problem
okay.
with the problem I have with that quote coming from her is that she's suggesting, or it seems to me like media that you enjoy necessarily has problematic or pernicious aspects to it. Like she's obviously incentivized to constantly find problems with things. Like
Well-
what if those problematic aspects aren't there?
Well, that's
She's gonna
within the
find them anyway.
definition of. Well, she will, because that's what she means by critical in this definition. I think like it's aligning the distinction between criticism as we would normally use the term and critical as somebody like Anita Sarkeesian would use it. Is that you shouldn't be aligning that distinction, because she will not be criticizing the intrinsic qualities of a video game or a work of art. She will be criticizing its socio-political impact on things that
right.
have nothing to do with the art that she's consuming at all.
Yeah, this is not about a particular subset of art, or even just ones that are bad and good at the same time. She's talking about everything because she's got that other quote, right, where everything is sexist and racist.
I fucking hate this necessary word again. What do you mean it's necessary to do this? How can
it is
possibly be that?
imperative.
Yeah.
It is imperative. We must, for the sake of a better world, talk about how Mario...
You can't be consuming Mario without looking at Peach and being like, wow,
stereotypes.
we fucked up.
Wow, women are prizes. Mario taught me that.
Yeah, there's no ethical consumption.
Anita
in
Sarkeesian
Mushroom
made me
Kingdom.
think that, women are shitty prizes.
It's being able to watch Zero Dark 30, recognizing its superb filmmaking, and still acknowledging that it has a pretty up perspective on the war on terror. From Wagner's perspective, critics are concerned not with signifying social class, but with artistic quality and merit, as well as the broader conclusions we can make about our world based on art. Like when Richard Brody declared that Blonde is the Passion of the Christ for Marilyn Monroe, describing the way the biopic, like American Society, seems inordinately obsessed with painting Monroe as the ultimate victim. In this vein,
I never saw that.
Where the fuck are we?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little lost myself. That's just...
Critics are typically much more concerned with criticizing the type of society that produces low-quality art than with criticizing the people who enjoy that art. And this is also why criticism...
Wait, sorry.
Is that true?
We need to hear that again.
Tracking this is becoming more and more difficult. I'll go back a little bit more.
Wisecracking?
Victim. In this vein, critics are typically much more concerned with criticizing the type of society that produces low-quality art than with criticizing the people who enjoy that art.
What comprises the society that creates the low-quality art?
I guess the people who enjoy that low-quality art. Fuck
Yeah,
those
like
guys.
what? How is that even a coherent statement? They don't want to criticize the society that perpetuate. They want to criticize the society that perpetuates the art, but not the people who fund them. Who fund the project by giving them money.
A lot of these discussions that talk about like what art succeeds, what makes money, what doesn't, it's the hard pill to swallow. Is a lot of people, it's just bottom up problem. It's like, I know Call of Duty sucks and it's shitty and you hate it and blah blah blah. People buy the fuck out of it. That's the problem. And we could talk about evil microtransactions and evil battle passes and stuff, but the other side of the coin is they make them because people buy them.
So what you're saying that in reference to him saying that critics are more concerned with the society it'll create rather than the people causing it? You're saying that would be inaccurate then?
I'm saying that there's elements of both that are worthy of criticism. That laying it all in the blame of one would be inaccurate. It kind of feeds into each other, the creators and the people who consume the creations.
I would just say, in my experience, I see much more criticism of the people who enjoy the bad thing rather than criticism of enjoying the bad thing will lead to a bad society. In fact, I rarely see the latter. That's what he just said.
Well, he's talking about the people who make it, the people who watch it versus the people who make it.
Victim. In this vein, critics are typically much more concerned with criticizing the type of society that produces low-quality art than with criticizing the people who enjoy that art.
But he seems to be taking Sarkeesian as a representative critic. Like she's very concerned with criticizing the type of society that produces racist, sexist video games. She's not focused on criticizing the people who consume those games quite so much. But that's to take a hyper niche example and just apply that label of critic to everyone and assume that that's what all critics do, as opposed to what I know at least some of us here have done, which is take almost the opposite approach and say, no, it's kind of on you as the consumer to signal what your standards are by choosing what you enjoy and what you don't, or engaging with things critically and demanding better of studios that give you these movies and things like that. So he's like not wrong in identifying a type of critic that does that, but he is wrong in saying that this is just what critics do.
I much more commonly see people being critical of those who enjoy bad art than warning about the society we've created that generates bad art. I guess it's the.
I would agree that is more common. Yeah, that is more common. I would say.
I think it is when it comes to. I almost feel like it's different based off of what the thing is. Like if we use the video game thing, I think there's way more criticism placed onto the developers and publishers who make like really terrible microtransactions, and the fact that these microtransactions are so so immensely consumed by people, just kind of skirts under the radar. Like no one wants to talk about the reason why these exist and why they keep getting bigger and bigger. But at least that's just with video games, that tends to be the focus that I see, which isn't unreasonable. It's just something that I tend to notice what the discussions are centered around.
We'll start running into a problem with the choice of the word society on his part, because if someone's criticizing all of the people in the world that make something like a Call of Duty successful, you could call that a society criticism. And then someone else says, no, it's capitalism that allows it to be as successful as it is, because otherwise it wouldn't be. It's like you could also call that a society criticism.
I guess you can play around with it. It depends on what your agenda really is.
That's why I'm like,
unfortunately, a lot of time it really does come down to, I mean, especially with people like Wisecrackin, there's a lot of people who are there isn't a lot of people. They just are loud. But the whole capitalism just failed us, and it's actually everything's the fault of capitalism, and the only reason people make decisions is because of capitalism's an algorithm.
And this is also why criticism often has a pretty explicitly philosophical tendency, as it uses the analysis of art to explore various conceptions of ideology and truth. So next time,
I feel like we've now gone into like a totally different conversation.
I mean,
is this snobbish or not?
Criticism involving philosophy, does he, assuming he means like an actual overt reference to it as opposed to just, because obviously almost everything includes philosophy to some extent.
I'm more focused on the second part. It's like the idea that the nature of like analysis of
Ideology.
art, movies, TV shows is more related to like society or the world and the context that we live in, rather than like the art for its own sake and like how well made it is. Like that he's actually now like gone over into the Anita Sarkeesian world, where it's less about like, well, you know, how robust are the mechanics? Is the level design? Is it varied? Like that it is. No, we got to talk more about the impact of Mario on society. That's the impression I get from what he just said. That's like a more common purpose for criticism than examining it for its own sake, unless I'm totally misunderstood.
No, I think it's right, because that's why he threw in the mentions of militarism and whatever the other thing was in the context of the MCU. Like that the criticism of Marvel movies often takes the form of this philosophical abstraction of the way society works. Like Iron Man glorifies militarism because that's what society does. So society produces films that do it. But again, it's a small subset of a specific type of critic that does that.
It was just mentioned that we, when breaking things down, will spend more time criticizing the artist as opposed to, I assume, the point about the audience. But I was going to say that EFAP broadly, and I don't know if either of you disagree, being rags in front of you right now, that we have it as a given the whole time. It's anything we cover positively, we would prefer be supported, and anything we cover negatively, we prefer you don't waste your time on it. We're supposed to an extent, be recommenders and tastemakers throughout. That's like a constant. But then when you come to something like an Arcane or a Squid Game or whatever have you, and then we start leveling criticism, or House of the Dragon, so we talk about HBO's decisions that have, crunched that show, or Christian Link's decisions that have destroyed Arcane. Like it would be like I feel like all of it should be referenced and laid out when you have the information at hand. But that, of course, I would never want anyone supporting Arcane season 2 because it should die. Like that was a very bad thing that happened.
We don't want to encourage that behavior in the future.
Hence why when we're covering good things, we're like, go support it, and then check out our analysis with things that's 50-50 or bad. We're like, make your own decision or don't. Just don't.
You're watching movies and your mom's like, do your homework. Be like, I'm doing philosophy, Mom. If snobbery is liking or disliking things because social signifiers make you feel you should, criticism is about deeply inquiring about how we should judge, appreciate, and understand art. But we still haven't solved our initial question. Would society be better off without snobs? From
We haven't even fucking talked about
We haven't
that.
begun, yeah.
This whole thesis is fucking stupid, man.
I mean,
Like it's already said, like framing this in terms of function, because like we've established, like I think that with being a snob, you're primarily concerned with self-image rather than the actual content. And as long as we're a society of human beings who are, driven partially by ego, there's always going to be snobs in the world. So what the fuck is the point of saying like, what would it how would you even get rid of snobs? Like this
got
whole
to ask
question is fucking pointless.
The really important question of, would physics be better without gravity?
Right, yeah. The whole thing is futile to
yeah,
question.
like I mean, if we're gonna
Maybe.
but I guess it's good to have them in a way that, like, they're not harmful and they can be annoying. They're not very harmful and they can be annoying, but I think there's some benefit to knowing that they exist out there, and they probably serve as a better, like, they probably serve as having a positive function in that we can look at them as a bad example of what to, an example of what to avoid. I think that serves some, utility and function. And it's just societal flavor in a sense.
I'm not sure you can answer the question that way. They're an emergent property of other traits that you'd have to get rid of first. Like, the snob is a result of someone who's being potentially dishonest or pretentious, or then name a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah,
it's like, which one of these
egoism
things do you want to
and
kill?
social dynamics.
It's,
I think they will naturally happen. If it was I guess if you could just magically snap your fingers and no one would just ever have that specific combination of traits.
Yeah,
I just don't think I would. But
well, it's ridiculous. It's not, as was mentioned. It's such a stupid fucking question anyway.
Would society be better off without snobs? From Kieran's perspective, snobs who prioritize gatekeeping and posturing over real artistic engagement, and who praise or...
Okay, I don't like this demonization of gatekeeping is not artistic engagement, but I was going to get a full sentence. I just wanted to make sure that didn't slip by.
It depends on what that sentence meant. Was he saying that snobs gatekeep real artistic engagement?
I think he said gatekeeping instead of real artistic engagement is what he said.
But
because obviously gatekeeping can preserve the artistic. I was
going to say those two things can
influence. The reason I gatekeep a lot of things, I guess.
I feel like everybody actually does. Anybody who says they don't gatekeep at all is a liar.
If you don't gatekeep anything, then you're gonna lose anything. I don't even know if
you're
you're passionate
come
about
on,
anything if
like,
you don't gatekeep it. Yeah,
you got a friend who's just like, I'm a major, huge Star Wars fan. You're like, yeah, me too. That's great. It's like, which one's your favorite? And they're like, I love Spock. Yes. No. I prefer the ones that are less obvious. So they're like, the one, with like the fish captain.
When Anakin blew up the Death Star.
When he's like, it's a trap. That I love that one. And you're like, wow, like you don't know. Okay, big fan, huh? They're like, yeah, no. And you go Return of the Jedi. I go, yeah, Return of the Jedi. That's what I was thinking of. And you're like, okay, you're a big fan. What are you gatekeeping my fanness? And you're like, no, not at all.
Yes, I have to. Right. I've seen what you people do.
Or like when, an intellectual property or a story that you're quite fond of is invaded by shippers, and you say, no, get the fuck out of here. You spray them with water, and you say, go on, get.
And then they're like, why are you gatekeeping? I'm just enjoying it. Like, you're enjoying it wrong.
Stop it. Stilco did not...
You enjoying it wrong signals to the people making it or things like it about what people want to see from that thing. And I would prefer if you did not signal in that way regarding things that I care about.
It wasn't just Christian that killed Arcane, it was the shippers.
Unironically, kind of, yeah. Their willingness to... Their hyper-focus on seeming to want to appeal to those people. Yeah.
Over real artistic engagement, and who praise or deride things just to be contrarian, aren't that useful. And
but see what I mean? Contrarian is different from pretentious, which is different from stubbornness or selfishness when it comes to one's own interest. You can generate a snob with loads of different traits, is what I'm saying. It's like, get rid of them is to get rid of a shit ton of other things by proxy, in a sense.
Humble opinion can be pretty annoying. But critics are a different matter. While some critics may exhibit snob...
Wait, critics are good? Wow.
So now we're talking about critics.
I watched this video.
Well, remember when you did it earlier?
Critics in the snob video.
Earlier, the critics were just snobs. They were just straight up. You equated them.
Now it's like we're drawing a distinction between how we're going to judge a normie for the way that they talk about films related to a film critic. Like, if you say I am a film critic, you enter a new category in this world. Well, am I crazy, or is that like the direction it's going in? Like, well, no, there's a difference between snobbery related to normies and then critics.
I didn't get that vibe, but maybe.
Let's rewind this a bit. But I'm sorry, Theo.
He's also saying that critics exhibit snob-like behavior, as if anyone who has ever been critical gets lumped into this amorphous mass that is critics, as if critics aren't people with perspectives. You lose a lot when you overgeneralize like this.
Once again, the step from being not a critic to critic is what? You just go, oh, that thing doesn't look very good. It's like, oh, you're a critic now, look at you. And then it's like, and by being a critic, you've got snobbery installed. It's like that's unfortunate for you, but that's just how it works.
My humble opinion can be pretty annoying, but critics are a different matter. While some critics may exhibit snob-like behavior, society will always have a need for people who consume art with a discerning eye, as at their best, they can help us see its deeper meanings. Of course, it isn't always easy to tell.
He just gave us like
if it was like we just changed it to something else, it's like
that's it.
Well, no, like snobbery is pretty bad, but like we need the critics who are gonna look at things with a discerning eye.
That's a snobbery of its own.
Technically, it depends on your definitions, right?
In a way, like part of it is like the whole people who are really, I guess, learned and educated and good at spotting these things can help other people appreciate what art can offer. And so, like, yeah, sure, if you're not an asshole about it, if you dare I say, if you're not a snob about it,
I feel like that's it, right? So, like the guy who figures it all out, so to speak, on any given whatever, let's just say movies for the sake of it, and then some other guy who doesn't understand why whatever film is good or bad, let's just say it's Lord of the Rings, the guy, I really enjoyed it, and then the other guy's like, oh, let me explain to you some things you may have missed, and they go through a bunch of the subtext, a lot of the meaning of how different characters connect, a lot of the themes, and then the guy who didn't know was like, oh my god, that's amazing, I actually way more appreciate this story than I did previously, and the other guy's like, ah, cool. But you could just run that exactly the same, that person could be exactly the same in terms of their knowledge, but they could explain it like, you didn't understand, did you even know what the themes were? Okay, let me explain, because you are having trouble. And they could sincerely enjoy the themes and know the themes and explain the themes, but it's the way that they do it, right? That almost feels like the key, because when you just said they're like an asshole about it, it's like, yeah, that feels like the actual key to snobbery.
It really is. Yeah. Like, I think the big components are their desire to be perceived in a certain way, and their desire to use some amount of knowledge, or to be perceived to have amount of knowledge, to talk down to other people in the way that they behave. It's an inward and outward thing, I feel like, when it comes to snobbery. But
tell the difference. As Kieran puts it, the lack of publicly available regulative norms and aesthetics means that it is hard to tell when and where someone's appreciation is appropriate or driven by snobbery. That is to say, our lack of a shared vocabulary about art can make people trying to be sincere appear snobby. Like how I know the costume design in Greta Gerwig's Barbie will probably be excellent commentary on womanhood under late capitalism.
There it is! Ding, 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 ding. Get your bingo cards, everybody.
But even saying that out loud makes me feel kind of embarrassed.
It should.
It should. Yeah, it should. It should.
Oh my god.
Shut up.
That's perfect.
You know how women like to wear a wide variety of clothing? Late stage capitalism.
Oh my god.
Boring.
His part, A.O. Scott is unhappy with his attitude and wants to make space for the appreciation and valuing of good taste.
I thought that was Paul Giamatti for a second.
The world needs the Amazon
really
algorithm and the Facebook thumb is a place of liking and like-mindedness, of niches and coteries and shared enthusiasms, a utopian zone in which everyone is a critic and nobody is a snob because nobody's taste can be better than anyone else's. Scott.
Oh my god.
Anyone's taste is better than yours, Wisecrackin.
Sorry, I feel like there was a lot of stuff in there that's worth like delving into.
Yeah.
I would say that comment comes across as being big mad that like the realm of being able to talk about things has been opened up to more people. That's the impression I get from this observation. Like, god damn it, the world of all of this new internet stuff has made it to where everybody's a critic, when it used to be that, you know, only a certain number of people were critics.
Yeah.
As ordained essentially by like some, I don't know, some like label or some job description or some
yeah, there was
TV
like a
show.
special class of people, and now everyone, yeah, the democratization of criticism. Everyone could just say what they feel. Everyone could just give their opinion now.
Like, look at that. Like, yeah, because some people have better taste than other people. It's like, holy shit. Like, calm down, dude. I don't know. This comes across as very snobbish.
I agree with that. I'm trying to think of like the best version of the second half being something along the lines of, we've lost any interest in at least this art form to recognize that some would understand the content better than others, but I'm not sure that we have. I feel like people still use a lot of critics as their guiding light that they've assessed are people with good taste.
Also, are we seriously pretending that I mean, come on, like Roger Ebert, like some of these reviews that he used to do, like, were pretty terrible in terms of like the analysis. Like, why are we pretending like it was amazing when the extent of a movie review was what you could fit into like a small article in a newspaper? Or like a 5-minute review as part of like some broader television show or as part of a news program. Why are we pretending that like everything was better then when like you were very restricted by the format that you could deliver the criticism?
Yeah, like one could argue we're in a better place for that in the sense that for the person who watches films very casually, not with like any particularly huge passion, uses something like Amazon or Yelp or whatever, IMDb, Facebook, they're just like, what's broadly loved by a broad audience? Because that usually lines up with what I like. That's actually fine. Like, to me, I don't take any issue. And then the person who's like, no, I've got a bit more of a definitive taste, and I'd like to find, say, a YouTuber or an article writer or a critic on whatever site that matches up with not only what I value in storytelling, but generally speaking, the scores they give for films matches mine. And they can do that. I feel like we're in a better place for that now than ever in terms of accounting for everybody's preference. If you just need to be able to learn how to use the information available.
I mean, I suppose the problem though is it's encroached on an otherwise pre-existing monopoly of tastemakers.
I guess
like,
so, but maybe
really
they went the way of the dinosaur, you know? Like some of those guys, they needed to update or get better at whatever the hell they were doing, and they didn't.
Hey, I mean, the Bible's not in Latin anymore. That's just kind of the way of the world.
I mean,
information gets passed around, and more people get access to it, and people get to have their say in matters. Other people dealt with it. The priest classes and the kings got used to it. Just you're gonna have to as well. The world's changing, and I think in this aspect, certainly, it's a positive change.
It's also odd that the first half of the quote seems to be about like echo chambers a little bit, but I don't know if you've ever spent any time arguing about movies on social media. I feel like it's not a utopia where everyone.
It's arguably more noxious now than ever.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't feel like he is very astute in his observation.
Either that or his window into social media is very, very curated or small.
Yeah, the Superman trailer. Jesus. People go fucking nuts over that. Yeah.
Lots of fighting over that one.
Even among like niche groups who like all like comic book movies, there's lots of infighting happening about that.
And the second half sort of implies to me, maybe I'm reading it a bit unfairly, but it just comes across as though he's like, my voice used to mean more, but now that everyone's got more voice, it makes me feel like people aren't shutting the fuck up and listening to me. And it's like,
yeah,
okay.
That's the vibe. That is the vibe.
Yeah. And to the extent that he's making that complaint because like, he regrets his own loss of social status, he's being a snob. He's evidently not engaging with the artistic quality of anybody else's criticism, because if he were doing that, he wouldn't be a snob, because that's the difference.
His loss of the ability to be a snob is only accelerating his snobbery.
Scott defends his own taste, arguing that he's interested in art that requires him to do a lot of work as an audience member, like, say, the 4-hour-long 2018 film An Elephant Sitting Still, a bleak portrait of modern industrial life in China, rather than art that's simply about affluent people, like Triangle of Sadness, which he didn't particularly enjoy.
Wait,
I'm sorry, those two were not a dichotomy.
Okay,
like, art that makes you work hard versus art about rich people.
I figured the dichotomy was gonna be. I figured the dichotomy was that movie that he was talking about, like Transformers. Like,
absolutely. A movie that you don't have to work at all to take what it has to offer. I would understand that, but that's not what happened there at all.
No.
But also, like, if you're doing that, you need to accept that you're speaking to a very small portion of people, because most people are watching like movies as one of many different pastimes that are available to them.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't have a lot of time to watch a lot of movies, and alternatively might not feel like putting in a lot of effort while watching a movie after they've gotten home from like a 10-hour shift.
Oh,
Also
the peasants
okay
are too busy to watch cinema.
It's also okay to watch that movie and not like it.
Yeah, of course.
Are you saying
I feel like
it's
that's
okay to
often
not like
neglected.
things?
It's often neglected by people who lament how mainstream people don't watch niche art house films. It's like, well, I
And
feel like if they did, they probably wouldn't like it a lot of the time. But
Yeah, if those films were better, more people would watch them.
If you're only out here to be reviewing those movies, then what the hell are normies meant to use as a point of reference for the movies that they might be interested in watching? Where are they supposed to go?
I don't know. I just feel like it's a shitty metric because how I don't believe this about the guy himself. I'd be like, you've never ever wanted to watch something that you don't you don't have to be 100,000% engaged with and appreciate on multiple layers. You can't something that like Shoot 'em Up. Anyone seen that here?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I have.
Like,
no.
I love that movie, and if someone said like, yeah, but it's not very complicated, or you don't have to work very hard to, I just be like, shut the fuck up. Why are we going there? What's happening? Like, there's so many. There are well-executed simplistic films and well-executed complicated films that make you work through. Like, I don't know, man. Like, what's the famous time travel? What, Primer? Right, that one's like a relatively famous sort of one. It's like you need to be paying attention if you're going to watch that film. Versus, we keep using Transformers. Transformers is not a great example because I don't think it's particularly good. In the it's
are
like,
you thinking of like a well executed, very simple?
I mean, Shoot 'em Up would have
movie?
been, but I wish I should pick something that more people have seen. Maybe
A New Hope, does that count? I mean, it's not a complex movie. It's quite simple in terms of what it does. The story structure is really simple, grasp. It's got all the basic hero tropes. It's
tough
universally
to
familiar.
not get.
Yeah, and if does that cross in, or would he be like, no, there's enough layers in Star Wars about class and about blah blah blah. That, you'd be like, oh, okay, fine, I guess. Or it would depend on exactly how this works, but I don't know. The funny thing is, I'm trying to avoid saying it because of the general topic, but I'm just like, what a snobby thing to say.
It's all the more
I
reason
like
to say
films that have me work for it rather than these gross other films. But I mean, it wasn't even that, because he said that to example it was the films about rich people. What a bizarre thing to say.
Yeah. What shoddy thinking.
Still,
This video's full of it.
Yeah.
Portrait of modern industrial life in China, rather than art that's simply about affluent people, like Triangle of Sadness, which he didn't particularly enjoy.
Because it was about affluent people?
That's so unbelievably stupid. It's like, he likes movies where you have to think, not movies about rich people. Am I right, guys?
What the hell?
Neither did I. You know what movie was better than that? Babylon. Importantly, he portrays himself as seeking quality and authenticity, not highfalutin art. However, scholar Gregory Flack...
Oh, we're done with that? Okay, I thought we were going to have a bit more information on it, because I don't
Now we're
fucking
on to a
understand.
new guy.
This guy's clearly alive, too, in color.
Triangle of Sadness is not like a highfalutin film. It's a movie that just kind of shits all over rich people. It's not like a pretend. You know what I mean? It's not.
It's
that
about
kind
rich
of
people,
movie.
though. So, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine.
Money is featured in this film.
X-Men prefers the style of another critic, Pauline Kael, who famously
Oh, she's dead.
worked to bridge the divide between high art and low art. She championed what she called trash,
Low art.
like the now cult classic Wild in the Streets, while deriding serious films like Lawrence of Arabia, which she often found to be self-important.
There's a lot of words here that are just passing by that in a video like this require a lot.
You know
like
what?
a serious film. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? Yeah.
So how do you look at like Lawrence of Arabia and say, oh, that's not important because it is try hard. That's what it is.
It's a try-hard
It's
movie.
also
Try hard.
Which is like, I would apply that as a criticism to plenty of movies, but I'm like, I don't know. Here it doesn't seem appropriate.
Flaxman writes, if anything, snobbery today is the symptom of a criticism that has refused to work through the schism between a fading film culture and an ascendant fan culture. This he
If anything, snobbery today is the symptom of a criticism that has refused to work through the schism between a fading film culture and an ascendant fan. There's something in there that I can
Yeah.
understand.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being unable to bridge the gap between the high and low class film enjoyers, essentially, is what creates this appearance of snobbery. But a lot of that, I mean, if that's the case, a lot of it does come down to like being able to communicate with other people, not
Which,
acting
you know,
like an asshole, not deriding people's opinions because they're new to the hobby or they don't know all the words or they can't remember all the director names.
Yeah, Flaxman.
Yeah, Man of Flax.
argues requires the expression of a sensibility that is smart, supple, and sincere enough to bring the two cultures together. Coincidentally, if I was on a dating app, I would describe myself as smart, supple.
Holy
and sincere.
shit.
Dude,
They're not landing, bro.
Yeah,
You
that
can
was
always
cringe
cut
in
them
particular,
out.
That one.
I'm so checked
It's
out.
better to it's better to not have them.
Yeah.
True.
I mean,
means
like
taking-
that's the video. It'd be better to just not have it as a thing that exists. But gee,
high
have
and
comedy.
low art alike seriously, and their ability to
Are we
reflect.
Wait,
saying that
is-
Jurassic Park is what? Is that what
Is
we're
Jurassic Park
about?
low art or the combination, the bridge between low and
The
high?
combination of
supple and sincere. It means taking high and low art alike seriously, and their ability to reflect the world around us.
Well, here's the thing: if you're gonna treat both of them seriously, maybe you could start by acknowledging that there's not really a difference.
Yeah, that
Or
would be a
at
good place
least-
to start.
If
Well,
you
but
told
now-
me what your perspective was on what makes Jurassic Park, what's the low art part?
It's
'cause-
got
'cause, yeah,
dinosaurs and there's action and
Yeah,
there's
he's definitely
suspense.
saying it's the low, which is, I think, pretty ironic because every future artist that has tackled Jurassic Park as a franchise has missed the fucking point of Jurassic Park, like
Yeah, so it
hardcore.
feels like it is pretty high art because
Yeah.
it's really difficult to make something as good
It
as
went over
it.
everyone's fucking heads, god damn it, they never should have made another one. But oh well.
The more difficult to copy it is, the higher the art it is.
It's like the folly of human curiosity and ambition. Those themes are just thrown out the window as soon as something like CGI
Actually, it's
dinosaurs
not
is
a
present. in the
The
movie.
thing is, it's low art because it's speculative fiction. It's science fiction or alternative viewpoint of fantasy. Then it would be that, except for the few ones where you have to concede it because you can't not, like Lord of the Rings. You're not allowed to like gatekeep Lord of the Rings out of
Speculative
being.
fantasy.
I'm not a
culturally
fan of like
significant, you know?
this notion of like, so we all recognize Jurassic Park low art. We all right. It's like no.
Yeah.
I don't-
No, sorry, no, it's not.
Here.
When it
means
comes
taking
to this
high-
script of this video, they spent too much time wondering if they could, and not enough time wondering whether or not they should.
high and low art alike seriously, and their ability to reflect the world around us. It means understanding that a blockbuster like Jurassic Park can teach us as much about, say, the foibles of human greed as a critical darling like There Will Be Blood.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like
Yes.
you know how this is easy to get around this problem. Don't arbitrarily categorize films as high art or low
Well,
art.
Yeah.
You just treat them as movies.
You
and
you
watch
weren't.
them and
They
take
weren't
them
being
what
judged
they
for
are.
what was in them. They were. It was like the blockbuster, as though that automatically makes it so it's like, oh, you're gonna be shit then. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, like, or you're just gonna have less to say. You're gonna be less artistic, less meaningful, less potent. Just stop with this stupid arbitrary
Yeah,
classification.
you never should have gotten here. It never should have been a time
They're
we go, you know
films.
what? We should
They're just
treat them
films.
similarly in the sense that they both have a story to tell. We should take them for what they are and be inspired by what. It's like, yes.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously.
They're films. They're both films. They're trying to tell stories.
I drink your milkshake. I
Very careful.
Thanks,
I drink it
man.
up, Eli. I drink it up.
This really helps sell the point.
Yes. People probably aren't
I like
familiar with this
milkshakes. I haven't
particular
had one
clip.
in a
It's
while.
not, the film's not famous for this.
drink it up.
Snobbery has its shortcomings, but good taste and thoughtful criticism is necessary for a healthy, flourishing society.
Okay,
I want the wisecrack guy to define bad taste. I want him
Snobbery
to make a
is-
video defining bad taste. I want him to do it.
How can we be?
Snobbery is bad, but everyone should have good taste.
I was gonna say that's not that's what he just said is bullshit. To have gone through that 14 minutes to simply say snobbery has bad stuff, but good things are good. Like what?
Yeah, nice. I just want him to define bad taste. I want him to like make definitive statements about what he considers to be bad taste.
Yeah, or find
I
some
wanna
dead
know.
person and tell me what they said about it. Jeez, give me
Well,
something.
I suppose it's more so that again, I find it fascinating that somebody who would almost certainly make the claim that you can't actually make like definitive statements about art in general would just blatantly
does
say
that,
like, oh well, there is such a
obviously,
thing as good and bad taste. You know, it's like, oh well, come on, what is it? Why don't you explain it?
Tell me.
Because my guess would be that it would alienate a lot of people. Like if you did it, they might think that you're a snob if you did that.
I just can't believe that. It feels like he'd ran out of stuff at this point. He's like, right, I gotta summarize. Snobs, yeah, it can be bad, but like it can also be good.
I gotta summarize, but I don't have anything to summarize. Fuck.
Yeah, it's the video essayist special of you're reaching the end of the video, so it's time for them to start, like, basically dropping everything they've said throughout the entire thing and just start wishy-washy, like, muddling through descriptions of how things are in the world.
Get up!
Snobbery has its shortcomings, but good taste and thoughtful criticism is necessary for a healthy, flourishing society. Rather than falling into the trap of social signaling or blanket praise for high-class, prestigious work, critics...
But see, why wouldn't you then... He's like split up, he's kind of gotten almost to what we were talking about. If a snob is comprised of traits that would have to lead you to it, why wouldn't you be talking about those traits instead? Which is almost what he did there. He was like, you know what, you should praise things for their good qualities, and you shouldn't do it just for social standing. It's like, the people who, you know, praise things for social standing, that's more the problem. Focus on the negative traits that comprise it, rather than getting rid of snobs, which apparently would just knock out almost everybody, because everyone does it to some degree in some way at some point, because it is, like I said, just an emergent property of other properties.
Into the trap of social signaling or blanket praise for high-class, prestigious work, critics should also take pop culture seriously.
Bring your rollerblades? I literally go nowhere without them.
And the rest...
Dude, the formula is so reliable. To show a clip from a film and then just have some arbitrary clip from the film that has nothing to do with what the point that's being made.
But it makes it feel...
Like, that's got to be part of the formula. That's got to be part of the actual checklist for making a Wisecrack video, because it comes up so frequently here.
Yeah, the movie make clips.
The rest of us should probably be a lot less defensive when they think something we love sucks, even though it's hard, because Babylon was good.
Oh yeah, but how do you tell the difference between someone who refuses to accept that it sucks and they genuinely believe it doesn't suck? Like,
Yeah. Shouldn't you
What
be
now?
asking yourself that question? Am I one of those people?
I don't like his framing here, where he's talking about like healthy criticism as if it's like one half of snobbery. Like, snobbery is like a different thing. Like this, like we were saying before, it's concerned with the image of the person saying the things. Like,
I think
it's
that's
not
what he's
about the content for
trying
them.
to say. It's just that he's done a really shit job of actually drawing distinctions between his definitions. Like, there's a short, cogent argument that, like, I think this video is basically putting across, but it's taken 3 times too long and used too many dead people. But the basic idea is just, there is a difference between snobbery and criticism. Here is my definition of snobbery. Snobbery is when you have opinions with no regard for anything save your own social standing. Criticism is engaging with art on an aesthetic level, a philosophical level, a cultural level, in terms of writing quality, etc. So not all critics are snobs, and not all snobs are critics. If you find yourself dismissing Jurassic Park because you think it's low art, you are a snob. If you find yourself liking it because it's a good story, you are a critic. That's the end. Thank you for listening to my 5-minute video. Goodbye.
If 5 minutes, I mean, that would probably be like 2, 1 or 2.
Yeah, well, with all the film clips you got to throw in, it's going to pack it out to 5.
Yeah, double.
Oh yeah, that's got to be like an hour long.
Remove the dead people quotes, the random clips, and the even though the quotes could be argued much more important parts of it, but also the weird jokes. And you do like, how much analysis from him is there in here, and how much of it is just like folded back on itself?
So much of it is wasted because it's
room,
used on
actually,
an understanding of snob that doesn't particularly map to the way the word is used in the current social contexts we experience. I don't think many people you would call a snob these days are in fact sitting there like trying to signal their status or whatever. Maybe they are, but they're more concerned with trying to privilege their understanding or taste above yours for whatever reasons.
It was a good movie. Y'all just weren't ready for it. Such criticism can help us as art lovers to develop our cultural palettes and articulate our own opinions in dialogue with critics.
I find that funny, considering like how much of this video has just been haplessly pulling quotes, like, and just sort of throwing them together into a pile and hoping that that will make for a coherent video.
Who the fuck says cultural palette?
Like, nah, that's a bit cringe, isn't it?
Nobody that I like.
You gotta, you know, you gotta enrich your cultural palette. You're only ever saying that to like in a bad. There's something bad's happening if you've had to say that.
Y'all just weren't ready for it. Such criticism can help us as art lovers to develop our cultural palettes and articulate our own opinions in dialogue with critics. That is to say, instead of getting angry, we can have fun trying to articulate.
Hey, look, Venom is high art, okay? It's a profound
obviously,
movie
yeah.
about. It's a movie about friendship. It's about Eddie and Venom becoming good pals and looking out
I
for
like
each other.
friendship.
Even though they're from different worlds, they come together to save one world.
Is that franchise done?
That's an
now?
uplifting message.
Yeah, it's over. It's wow.
Well,
They
the
said it
Last
was
Dance
over,
is
right?
supposed to be the last one, but you never know. They'll pull a sequel out of their ass at some point.
I
I'm
think,
sure.
well, there is that, but I think wasn't it that Sony recently said that they're not going to be doing any more of these Sony like Spider-Man spin-off movies. That is over.
I think they said
No
the
Madam Web
sump was
2?
over, right? So there's not going to be the cinematic universe anymore, but the post credits for the last Venom did leave it open for a sequel if they wanted
That's
to do
true.
it.
That is true. Yeah.
That's
Who
so
knows?
funny.
They'll figure it out.
I never saw 2 or 3.
I mean, they're bad movies, but like I find it I've said this before. I find it amusing that like everybody acts as though the Sony Spider-Man movies are like notably worse than MCU films. They're not though. They're like the same. If anything, like Venom here, it's like a 3 out of 10, which puts it like really high on the list of Phase 4 and 5 MCU. Like it really is this bizarre thing that like Marvel has somehow managed to maintain, particularly among critics, like this weird like level of credibility when it comes to their films, even though they've been consistently awful for the last 5 years at this point.
Yeah,
like it's
maybe
fascinating.
more?
People still think like, oh well, I mean, you could argue that it's more because the last like really good MCU film was a long time ago. Infinity War's got its problems. It's got a lot of them too.
It's something I guess I find interesting too is on the part of the not just critics but the audience too of like any notion of you'll be seeing Galactus, Doctor Doom, whoever else. It's like the hype. It's like it's unchanged despite all of the disappointments and terrible iterations of everything. It's just like it really doesn't matter. It can just keep going. Obviously, though, we've seen dramatic downfalls for the amount of money they're making, and people are guessing. Like, for example, what does everyone here think Cap 4 is going to make?
I would be surprised. I think if it made more than $600 million, I would be like surprised. I think.
I am in agreement. I don't think it will make that much money.
And I think Thunderbolts will make less. Like if you would ask me what I think, I'd be like, dude, if it makes
Less,
more than
yep.
500 million, that would be surprising. And I might still be highballing here in terms of how much money.
Just the title Captain America is going to put it over Thunderbolts, probably.
Yeah.
Plus, no one
Yes, I
cares.
think
Even if
so.
they know who the Thunderbolts are, they don't care about these Thunderbolts. So
I think the real interesting thing would be, do we seriously think Fantastic Four is going to be like notably more successful than the rest? I don't know why we would assume that that's the case. It just seems to be an assumption that everybody's going with, like, oh, well, Fantastic Four, that's like the actual movie that's worth paying attention to. I don't know why, and I don't know why we'd assume that it would necessarily be super duper successful.
I think some people feel
I
that way. I
don't
guess
know.
because it's untethered from the MCU technically, right? It's in a different dimension or whatever.
I mean, it's in a different. Yeah, sure, but I mean, I get the. You remember how like Phase 5 was essentially arbitrarily decided?
Yeah.
That initially a whole bunch of the films that came out in it were part of Phase 4, but they're like, no, Black Panther is the end of Phase 4, and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, that's the beginning of Phase 5 because it's got Kang in it. I don't know why we wouldn't assume that this might just be a repeat of that same thing of just being like, oh, well, we'll make Fantastic Four a new one because we're fixing the problems, and then it still ends up being a bad movie, and all the films that come after it are bad, and that those are downstream from whatever creative decisions are made in that film. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why we would actually assume they made like 14 bad films in a row. Why,
Yeah.
why would anything
Well,
change?
so what should
Like,
change should
not
be based
just
on
bad,
it's like-
even like
Is there a writing,
True.
directing, production, or attitude change that's significant that would make you more interested in it, as opposed to, I don't know, it just looks like it could be good. It's like, oh, well,
that means it'll be terrible.
kind of, yeah. Because do you remember
You
like
can't
how
point to
desperate they got with
anything.
the Marvels using Iron Man
Yeah,
and
with the
Thanos and the
Avengers
marketing?
stuff.
Oh
That
yeah,
shit was insane.
Remember these things you like? We're adjacent to those things you like.
But, like,
please see our film.
We're far enough now that they can genuinely use those and they'd be accurate. As in, you know, the trailer for the fucking Avengers movie will have every person you've ever liked ever in the MCU, and it's like, look, and we actually have them. Come watch. Oh, look, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Oh, Hugh Jackman Wolverine.
Yeah. Oh, remember
Get
the
the
fun
fuck in
times
here.
we had.
And
Oh look, a raccoon. He talks.
it still feels like death throes, even if they manage to make money that they would consider because the thing is, right, Cap 4 needs to make For it to be like
a lot of money.
It needs to make like $1 billion for them to be happy, right?
I
They're gonna be
mean, the
disappointed.
amount of reshoots and everything, I mean, the budget sounds like it's quite high. The reality is, like, in order for them to be happy for a lot of these projects, they would need to be making hundreds of millions of dollars because these are not cheap projects.
Yeah.
They have big budgets.
Got to be huge, and it's never going to be. So I would assume that they even know this is not going to work. We know it's not going to work. The projections were what, 90 million for the opening weekend, which is it was 25 million less than Quantumania, which was a failure.
Which itself was a failure and probably didn't
Hey,
cost
that
much
made
to make.
$86,000. I'll have you know. It was not
It's
a
funny,
failure.
dude. When you say that, because it is true, a lot of people are like, fuck off, it didn't make anything. It's like, no, seriously, it made that much, and that is hilarious because that is a fucking failure. Like, imagine making a project like that and making that
Effort,
profit.
the work, the organization, all of the time and
into it.
money that got spent, just the manpower to make a movie of that scale for $86,000 in profit.
It's actual
That's
pennies,
insane.
like relatively, you come in with pennies, you're like, this is what we got, and it's like,
And
you
of course,
fucking kidding me?
it didn't help that that was the year that the Marvels came out, which was the first like actual Marvel bomb, like the true Marvel bomb of losing a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah, that didn't make them pennies.
I
That
think-
was the guy came in and took
I'm pretty
money.
sure that like I think that it is the the biggest box office bomb of all time in terms of the amount of money lost. That there is no other film that lost that much money. Isn't that crazy?
It's something like that. It's let me see.
What was it? Hold on, I
List
want to
of
find
biggest
out.
box
Yeah.
office- Because what are we looking at? The
Marvels. Okay, so it grossed $206 million against a production budget of $374 million.
Good God.
How? Was it actually that much? Oh my god!
this list on Wikipedia, I'll give you. I guess give you the top 10. Fuck it, why not? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it says that the nominal loss for the Marvels was $237 million, according to Wikipedia, which makes it
fucking
nominally.
ouch.
Nominally, that is the biggest box office bomb of all time. Adjusted for inflation, it's still really
I think
high.
it's
It's like
third.
third.
Yeah, it's number
Yeah.
3, but the two above it, which are John Carter and the Lone Ranger, they give a range. That mean they might not be number 1 and 2,
They might not
but
be
they
number
might
one,
be
yeah.
1 and 2.
Oh,
So
where's Mortal Engines?
Mortal
that
Engines
was
is number
quite high.
5.
It's quite
It lost nominal was 175 million. Adjusted for inflation was 212 million. And boy, is that an EFAP movie. I saw it in
the thing would
theaters.
be
I was one of the few
thing that's
people who saw that
noteworthy
in
is,
theaters.
I was one of the
the
5
Marvels
people.
The Marvels was a bigger failure than The Flash, even though it feels like culturally The Flash was the bigger failure, which is
Yeah.
odd. Flash was more successful, technically, but everybody treats it as a bigger failure for some reason.
Joker 2's on this list, pretty high up.
Yeah, it should be. Belongs there.
I think it's number 9.
Even if the
budget
upcoming
for adjusted.
Marvel movies are good, like I feel like the broad draw of Marvel in the cinema like has died after one too many flops. And
Yeah.
like even Avengers Doomsday isn't gonna bring in the money that they're hoping.
No,
They
I
have
don't think
two
It'd be like Rise of
projected,
Skywalker, where it's like, oh, that's a lot of money, and it's like, it could have been a way more.
I mean,
It
more,
made half
yeah.
as much as The Force Awakens did.
That's Rise of Skywalker. I could see. I would be surprised if it made as much money as Infinity War, which was about like $2 billion. That would be surprising, but you know, and also that's inflation as well, so you know it'd actually be lower than that compared. The point being that Venom is not noticeably worse than any of these Marvel films. If anything, it's a little bit better than a lot of the ones that have come out over the last 4 or 5 years, but everybody treats them like they're just like obviously
hey,
dog
you know.
shit, much worse than Marvel movies.
Not long till the next installment. Be funny, I'm sure. Which
That's
film are we
right.
getting?
Critics. That is to say, instead of getting angry, we can have fun trying to articulate why we think Venom is iconic, despite basically being about a guy arguing with a pile of goo.
You gonna eat? Why'd you say it like that?
I
That
don't
could be
even
an
know what that
amazing
means.
movie.
Like, it's
That could
iconic
be a
despite
really cool
being
movie.
whatever.
Well,
like,
it's
Venom
like
is iconic, but not the. I don't think the movie is iconic, but Venom.
I
the
think I'm taking
character
more
is
issue with the
iconic.
idea that there is something like inherently that is dragging down the idea of like a man who is bonded with like an alien from space who's goo, like that's necessarily going to be stupid.
Yeah, what do you got against
Yeah, I don't like that
goo?
framing.
Well, that's low art.
That's right.
That's low. Come on.
Goo is low art.
Well, again, it's low art because it's science fictional
This
fantasy.
art takes the
And
shape
it's
of a
high art if
container.
it's set in the real world and it has regular people, or if it's set in a historical
Social
context.
realism, drama.
Yeah, pretty much. Like that feels like what the distinction is. Anything that is in any way like speculative fiction is like by definition low art, and it has to be tremendous in order to cross over. Like something like Blade Runner, it has to actually be one of the best films of all time for it to receive like any credit at all, because it belongs to the wrong genre. It bugs me. It's annoying.
Anybody else? Most likely. Oh, God.
And in a time of rampant anti-intellectualism, critics remain a necessary counterweight.
In a time of rampant anti-intellectualism.
We have free public schooling.
What about anti-intellectual critics?
We
They don't exist. They don't exist.
What about those fucking? What about the poptimism
We used to not
people
be able
who
to
are like
read.
muddying everything by just saying everything's fucking great? What about all the people? Let's kill them all. Get rid of everyone. Then art will be great.
They help us see the ways that mass-produced media often fails to be art, something that should
Well,
improve.
Why are we showing you visuals? They're distracting me.
Boo,
can't do
snob,
that.
snob alert.
It fails to be art. It fails to be it.
So,
What does that mean?
Yeah,
You
for
can
this
make
category,
So casually. How
for
does
this
he say that
category
so
art,
casually?
please go ahead and define it for me. I'm sure we will not
Motherfucker
be
try
here
to-
for very long. It should be very
Oh,
easy.
something can fail to be art. Interesting. Let's explore that.
We usually we roll that out in very special occasions, like the worst of the worst being
Well,
sort
but
of.
also it's hyperbolic.
Like
it's still hyperbolic. Even
Yeah,
the
yeah,
worst
even
film,
still.
it's still a film. Like it doesn't cease to be a film because it's terrible.
So is the implication being made that you need to be an intellectual to be able to point out why Captain Marvel is bad? Because I don't
Maybe,
think
yeah.
that's true.
I prefer to
Need to be
interpret
the
it
smug
simply
people.
that Captain Marvel isn't art. It's like, wow, okay, damn, you went further than I did.
Fails to be art, something that should improve our understanding of humanity. Instead,
So to be art, it has to improve our understanding of humanity. That's
There's your definition, Theo. Are
How do you do
satisfied?
that?
What if it tells me a lesson I already knew? Like, there's
ooh,
plenty
well,
of
it's not art then,
movies.
is it?
Wait, also, does this mean like my biology textbook is art?
Ah,
Yes,
Only
it
on the
does.
not on a reread.
Not on a reread though.
Yeah,
Okay.
but the first time.
It's
Only
like
the
the
first-
art.
Doesn't- that means all art only works the first time then. Hold on.
Well, I mean, I don't make the rules. I wish I did, but
If you forget, then it can be art again.
yeah,
Oh,
anyone
yeah,
listening to
sure.
this
Make the rules.
very podcast right now, all this creative expression, it's going to be gone on the rerun. So
That's
you gotta
right.
enjoy while you
Mhm.
can.
Once you've absorbed all of our wisdom of humanity,
What about concepts that aren't humanity? What about if it improves my understanding of those?
the
Oh, no.
aliens.
Well,
Does
animals,
everything have to be so human focused? Like
Yeah.
animals or even just like ideas? you know?
physics.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty inhumane to me.
There's a
True.
bunch of good stories that just reflect aspects of humanity, but that's not necessarily teaching something you knew about humanity. That's just being very accurate in describing the human condition.
Yeah, or
Is
it
that-
reinforces
Well, and what if-
something that you already believed and knew, but
What-
gives you an appreciation for it.
What if a person watches something? Take for example Squid Game, and someone's like, "Oh, what did you get about humanity from that?" And they go, "Nothing. I was just watching a bunch of people fight over money." You know, like it's like, oh, I guess it's not art for you then. It's something else.
Right.
I guess that matches what he said earlier, right? It becomes content if you don't have that. It's
Ugh.
but now it becomes like it can be created to be content, or it can be viewed and turned into content from the beholder if they don't get out of it the things that he demands that you should. In which
I think
case,
Wisecrack would appreciate that kind of power put into the hands of, I guess, the common person, the,
Well, and I
the
just-
layman, the watcher, the viewer.
I would challenge him to give me an example of any single movie that I've seen, of course, that isn't art, and it's just like, say, for example, Captain Marvel. He's like, this isn't art. You can't get anything about humanity out of this. I'd be like, you totally can.
Human, you need to stand up for yourself.
Yeah,
When
you
fall
gotta believe
down,
in
you gotta
yourself.
Get back up.
That's what's important.
That's right.
improve our understanding of humanity. Instead, corporate-backed media, with its obsession with product tie-ins and the cynically minded
I don't know, doesn't Transformers 2 have lessons about heroism or something?
Also,
like, you know what I mean?
let's be fucking
I'm
real.
sure it has noble message.
You can
Michael Bay
have
would
a
put that in
car
there.
or a fucking soda or whatever the hell in the background of any given amazing film. That's possible. Shut up. Product placement
I
is
hate
not.
this movie.
It doesn't
I
like
hate this
outright
movie a lot.
kill a movie's meaning just by having a bottle of
Like, come
Mountain
on,
Dew.
It's got to have something about being a hero,
Being
right?
a hero, doing the right thing, don't judging
Helping Optimus
people.
Prime to defeat
Big
the
trucks
bad
are
guys.
cool. Yeah, something like that.
What if I learned that Mountain Dew is awesome? Is it already
Mountain Dew
done? Did it
is
pop me that
awesome.
Mountain Dew is awesome. Did you know you
Code
can use
Red
it, like,
game Mountain Dew Code Red is really wonderful, and it helps me to understand humanity and also pwn noobs in Halo 3. Okay,
I learned
it's
that you
very
can use
important.
it to brine your chicken. So
Yes,
there's that.
and if you crunch up Dorito
Mm.
dust and then just saute over, oh, beautiful. Mwah.
The problem people make whenever they do brine their chicken in Mountain Dew is you uncover it, and then you turn up the oven for about 10 minutes. You let it roast so it kind of caramelizes on the outside like a rack
you
of
stick your
ribs.
head in it?
That's the
No?
no,
Okay.
no, don't do that. That would be horrifically painful, and you'd probably have to go to the hospital. And I just don't. No, that'd be terrible. And plus, then that would delay your ability to be able to enjoy the delicious Mountain Dew chicken that you've been preparing.
That's right. That's right.
Proliferation of IP can reinforce cultural norms that may be a bit sus. Enjoying media uncritically can be a damn good time, but it risks veering into escapism, and it works.
It risks veering into
What?
escapism?
What's wrong with that?
Why is
It's
escapism?
okay to have escapism. Why is it a
Perish the
villain
thought.
now? I
What's
didn't
go-
agree to
when, yeah,
villainize
where's the video
escapism.
from Wisecrack about the escapism is the worst thing that happened to art or something? Like, what's going on?
Damn good time, but it risks veering into escapism, and at worst, a naivety about the economics of cultural production. But
Jesus.
At worst, it's
God
the
forbid.
naivete about the economics of cultural.
Maybe I don't give a fuck, and I want to see the knight kill the dragon. I don't give a
want to
fuck
see
about
the
your economics.
explosions because it's fucking cool.
What is this shit? Like, we don't want you escaping from the constant knowledge of the entire world around you. It's like,
If you oh shit, I think I've sort of heard this before. I can't remember when. I think maybe Dev referenced it in the video. But one of the reasons that some people who have certain political and economic takes do not like the idea of escapism is that it makes you forget about the terrible system under which you live, and it can make you complacent and not want to fight against it.
I thought you were going to go a
Unironically, I think that is
slightly
something that I've heard.
more cynical direction and say that it would make you forget about the system being responsible for everything, and thus you might have to wrestle with the
Well, that's,
fact
like,
that
part of
you're,
it.
like, the one that should be taking more action.
I mean, yeah, that's basically the gist. Is it makes you to be complacent in the system because you've escaped it through media. You don't have to think about it. You can disengage with it. Blah 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 blah.
Well,
The framing of escapism as risky territory is fucking ridiculous. Like,
Yes, it
it's
is.
some chasm you don't want to fall
It's
into.
not
Like, oh no,
an evil
escapism.
dictator would
And you-
say, you should like books and knowledge are a terrible addiction that you cannot
The
risk
Lord of the Rings
getting
will take
into.
you to places
Yes.
you'll never come back from. Don't go
Yes,
there.
you need to stay in the real world where I control everything.
How could you just so casually fucking say, like, you don't want to be doing escapism? Like, come on, dude.
You don't want any of that.
About the economics of cultural production, but above all, appreciating art, developing good taste, and critically engaging with media.
What's good taste?
No, shut up. It's
Yeah,
fine.
you
This is the
said- you said the
conclusion
words
part.
again.
The conclusion part.
sorry.
We've seen all of what we needed to understand this part. You remember when he went over what it means to have good taste? Remember that part? He did that. He had the dead
Remember
guy
when
come
he said Aristotle said stuff
Yeah.
about being good? Yeah, that was
You
good.
think it's like really a horrible experience or a really nice experience to get to your conclusion and realize that you haven't actually defined any of the terms you're using, and so that you've got to string something together.
It's actually like pop philosophy, right? That's what wisecracks become, and so they just say shit they come across as though they're well read, and then by the once they've hit an arbitrary timer, they're just like, oh, wrap up. Yeah, so snobs can be good and bad. Good taste is good. Bad taste is probably not good. Escapism bad. Bye, everybody.
So many video essayists do this. They'll do a big quote-unquote exploration of a subject, which usually means nothing. Then when it comes time to conclude, they'll essentially just walk back everything they said to try and like return to the status quo of our understanding from before, as if we've like somehow like deepened it, but you know the roadmap remains the same, instead of just a bunch of bullshit being said and then walked back with wishy-washy statements until we're left sitting there realizing our time has been wasted again.
No.
I guess the real snobbery was the
Well,
friends we
we
made
had
along the
fun.
way.
Yeah, we had
Yay.
fun. Sort of. Parts
Try to
of
make
this
it
was
somewhat
fun.
You know, we try.
Art, developing good taste and critically engaging with media continues to be a uniquely human project. As the future of AI-produced content looms, some say good taste will become a hot commodity. Cultural critic Daisy Aliotto argues that one of the
We're doing
few
AI
remaining-
now.
Is she AI?
Really?
All right.
Looks
She
AI.
looks like an AI person.
Can't be sure.
The depth of field ain't helping.
competitive advantages going forward will be the ability to create media that can't be replaced by AI because it comes from a strong POV, meaning taste. AI's inability to exhibit standards of taste suggests that aesthetic appreciation may remain one of the last things only humans can do.
But would it even?
Maybe, I don't know.
Would it
how
even
do you
matter
create a
though?
difference in an art object that was created with a sense of POV and one that isn't.
Well,
What's
the
the
AI might
difference?
not be able to understand taste, so to speak, but it can like, oh, this is what humans say good taste is. This is what I will emulate.
Yeah, it understands what human taste is. Like you say, wasn't there like last year a controversy when someone submitted an AI like classical themed painting to some art competition and it won because all the art critics thought it was amazing, and it turns out, oh shit, it was done by AI, and lots of people got very upset about that. But the fact is that taste can be a uniquely human thing. Okay, fine, but if AI understands what human taste is, it's not going to have trouble replicating it.
It doesn't exist in the art object. You can't find it in the work anywhere.
You can
like
roll
the
it back.
sense of PVOV.
Roll it back even
Go on.
further. We don't even have it down for people. Like he's pretending as though we all recognize what good taste is. It's like everyone's fucking disagrees. What do you mean?
We don't even all recognize the idea of something that comes from a POV, in whatever that sense that is meant.
Like this is just some wishful thinking as far as I'm concerned. It's like, yeah, AI will never be able to get to the point where there's an AI called just, Bill, and it's a movie recommender. And it's like, yeah, nobody's ever going to use a movie recommending AI because they don't have POV, they don't have it's like, you stupid, like, of course it's going to be able to do that.
What about
the recommended section of your
if
YouTube
Wally
video.
shows up? Does Wally have bad taste?
Wally's perfect.
Well, yeah, we haven't actually got over the
looking
concept
around
of
gathering all of his-
actual
of an
artificial
AI
intelligence,
person,
yeah.
like a robot that who is like a person like Bender or Wally or any number of robots in fiction who have their own little perspectives on the world. Wally finds joy in everything. That's what makes. Wow, no, I'm thinking about an intro. You remember in Wally how like he finds a ring that's in like a little container, but he throws
Mhm.
away the ring because he finds the container more interesting.
Yep.
That's such a little interesting thing in Wally. The idea that like
Because it's got a hinge on it. It's a machine. It's a simple machine.
Well, it's I feel like there's a lot of things you could go through with that. I'd say a big one would be that he's so divorced from society that like he doesn't really like the fact that the ring is something that everybody would consider to be valuable and significant is meaningless to Wally because he doesn't find it interesting compared to the little box.
This box.
Like,
It's
yeah,
got
I like this
utility
box.
and
It's so
It's got
cool.
it's neat. It moves. I can open it and close it.
Oh,
The ring just
Wally.
sits there like an asshole.
Wally, and he went into space.
I
and
would
he
listen
saw
to
the
Wally's film
universe.
recommendations.
I don't know how we would relay those film recommendations, but I would be curious. I mean, he has good taste. We saw it with the films that he was watching,
Exactly.
like all the classics.
But I think Wally's looking at things in terms of function. He sees a box and it's like, oh, I can keep things in this that are useful to me. When he looks at a ring,
that's
it's just like,
present.
what is this for?
But he's also.
But funnily enough, like human beings also kind of work that way as well, where they look at objects and they kind of see function first in a way.
That's true, but like you definitely get Wally's just developed a sense of beauty as well, right? In the way he looks at Eve, the way he looks at space, the way he looks at fire. It's like
That's true. Yep.
Yeah, like Wally going into space was like awe-inspiring, and he loved it so much that he needed to tap on the window to tell Eve to look out the window at all of the crazy stuff that's going on, even though she's like in stasis. And then him running his hands through the ring. That's one of those like, holy shit, this is like magic right here. This is magical, this moment. Oh, I love Wally. He's so good. The end of an era. Sorry, that's the Wally tangent over. Feels like
It's
that comes up
It's always good to have a
semi-frequently
Wally
on these
tangent.
And if the critics, and maybe even the snobs, can help us to continually develop and refine our own taste, then they can't be all bad.
What a great fucking conclusion. If they can help us, they can't be all bad. Wow.
Was the argument ever that critics might be all bad?
No.
I mean, I'm getting pushed in a direction with this video.
I also feel like we can't expand out this principle. I am sure methamphetamine could help me do some things. So maybe it's not all bad.
I guess so.
Give you some energy, you know?
Also, I'm very sorry to do this, but the title of the video is "Are We All Snobs Now?" Did that come up even once?
I don't think
Did
so.
everyone's a snob?
Hold on. That didn't come up at all.
They never asked the question. So, what can you do to not be a snob? Because for the last 10 minutes, I've been describing what that is in a succinct manner. Well,
Yeah,
let's explore.
He started from a completely different sort of question in that regard. The question of like the proliferation of people's like perspectives on art and their ability to communicate them in mass media and blah 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 or whatever, and you know, views on popular culture. That didn't come up at all.
We said the rise of poptimism, which is entirely non-snobbery. Like, so how could we all be snobs now if you're establishing that we've definitely got at least a group of people who aren't? Doesn't make much sense.
I'm gonna tell you something for your own good, pal. That's the worst sweater I've ever seen. It's a Cosby sweater.
Okay.
Just falls
All right,
into,
sweater.
you know, being careful. Yeah.
It's all right.
Gotta make sure.
Cosby sweater.
But what do you guys think? Is there a place for...
Oh, this part where you just try to bait us
Here
into
we
doing
go.
comments on your video.
What do you think?
No,
Leave
it's
comment.
kinda-
That doesn't matter. That doesn't help me in the algorithm.
The title of the video is just the question he will one day ask us. It's like, I don't know. Are we all slobs now? Tell me what you think, I guess.
For snobs in our world? Is good criticism a necessary part of enjoying art? Or should everyone just shut up and let you enjoy stuff? Like this.
No, if you like
Dude.
that, you're...
Stop it.
Look at that
Freak.
fucking Pogger's face that Jack Black has.
I enjoyed the edit that I did for Mando where I put in the Palpatine scream as as the edited clip.
Let us know in the comments.
I mean, that bit
Think-
does make me very comfortable being a snob, because in that situation, I can comfortably say, if anybody does like that, I do think I'm probably better than you, and I'm really sorry,
I'm
but
better-
it's fucking awful.
I'm better than the scene itself. I'm better than the people who made it. I'm better than the people who enjoy it. It's like, oh, okay. How do you know that? You're like, because it's that bad.
Thank you as always to our patrons for supporting us. If you like critical debate,
Ooh.
maybe join our Patreon community. You get on
Oh.
our Discord server
What? Oh.
where we talk about movies and games and books and shows and other stuff. It's fun. You also
No,
get
you probably
videos
just
early,
whine
with no
about
ads, extra
capitalism
audio and video
and
content.
You
and you know,
talk
if you pay
there.
us enough money, I'll let you name my first
you say
porn.
we,
Maybe.
are you
and thank
there?
you so much to everyone for engaging with our content, for watching us, for not
Oh, you
being
hate
so
us.
Are you,
Dude,
are you really thankful?
He talks like
about that?
KVS, the fucking...
Yeah. What if I'm just kind of aloof and ditzy, but like I'm trying to be like
I'm
relatable,
slightly
sort of, kind
neurotic,
of?
But you know, hey, haha, I can poke fun at myself.
I'll have a Discord, and you can
I don't
be
have
there.
a
We can talk about
fragile
movies
ego
and
at
stuff.
all. Look at me, I'm making fun of myself.
What if we went to
Dude, I hate the whole
TGI
thing.
Fridays
Oh,
for 10
Let us
can
know
dine
what you
for
think in the
$2.99?
comments. It's like, come on, you don't care. You don't give a shit. Like, who are you
I feel like it would be
kidding?
better if they just said, leave a comment, it helps the video and the algorithm. I'm
the
not going to read them,
algorithm.
though, just so you know.
It's somewhat funny considering that, you know, the video that we started with, or at least the first 2 minutes, like, oh, I feel like, you know, the algorithm is having an influence on the way that I create stuff. And then you watch this video and it's like, yeah, I can see how that's the case. There's like a very clear formula that you follow. And
you're
then
doing
you end the
nothing.
video with the standard, yeah, comment and let me know. And also that the video definitely... I mean, it's funny. Theo was mentioning that there's no way that you can actually cover this topic in 18 minutes, but there was a lot of fucking padding in this video.
I will never stop being outraged at video essayists' entitlement to waste your time, and I need more people to, like, unironically take a stand against it. These people are so content to just waste your time forever
I mean, there's a bit of an irony, right? Like, this video is nothing, but a lot of people will be sated by it in a faux intellectualism way. Just
I
being
heard
like,
words. I'm gonna put this on while I'm eating,
and I will feel
listen to
smarter
some
for
words.
it. I have
For
become a
Aristotle,
smarter.
something is ethical if it's good. We learned that. That's an important piece of knowledge that we now have that we didn't have before.
Man, I feel like a better person already.
Wow.
That means this video was art because I learned something
about the humanities. Very different from humanity, but that's okay.
Snobby when we go lowbrow. It means a lot. We appreciate you. Enjoy some artsy content in the meantime, and we'll see you later.
Oh my god.
That's that.
Nope. Ugh.
I saw someone comment, this video could have been said in one sentence, quote, the difference between a snob and a critic is bad faith versus good faith engagement. Pretty much.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's basically what he said.
All of that was a fucking waste of time. And he knew it. He fucking knew it.
Don't be a dick when you talk.
It's the
about
most
art,
by
dude.
the numbers video essayist video there ever was. Right down to the fact that it has no reason to exist because it doesn't contribute. Ideally, what you want to do when you put something out into the world is you want it to like contribute some knowledge or some understanding of something, right? At least in the sense of video essays. What is this? What is anyone supposed to get out of this?
It's
To
somewhat funny
really
that
understand it,
that's
we
the case.
need to go back in time to when footage is
we
black
ended
and
at
when
white.
time
Back
wasn't
when
time.
Og and Grog first exchanged the words.
I mean, it's pretty funny that he made the declaration that something isn't art if it doesn't teach you anything about humanity, and I certainly didn't learn anything from this video about humanity.
Yeah, because this is content, not art.
Got him.
I mean,
Maybe
to
he would
ex-
admit that. Maybe that he would admit
yeah,
that
wait.
this is just content and slop.
I was about to say, like, well, I guess I did in the sense of, like, I've learned just how far humans will go to pretend as that, like, but then I was like, wait, what if you learn something that wasn't intended from a thing that's, like, slop? Like, a really bad, shitty thing, but you learn something about humanity. It's like, you've been elevated to art. Congratulations.
I guess so.
Almost as if the articulation of art in that regard isn't particularly helpful, considering that meaning is something that doesn't exist necessarily inherently within objects, due to, you know, the very many number of factors around it, and the fact that it is born of like a synthesis between the person watching and what they are seeing.
Well, that sounds pretty snobbish of you.
I mean, yeah.
Hope you,
Call me a video essayist snob, I guess.
Though it would be funny to see
If you
you
call me
rank
that,
all
I
of
will
the
destroy
worst
you.
preambles that we've ever covered, because it would be
That one
difficult, I
wasn't
think.
too. This one wasn't bad.
Wasn't that bad
when
of
you
a
compare it to the other,
preamble.
this one was not nearly. It not even top 5. This one was. It
We've
was
had
mostly
funnier
just
ones.
a ramble in general.
It's just more nothing
Some-
content.
Yeah, some just like refused to even start to get into the topic that was sort of promised to us. This one just kind of meandered around it, sort of, for
There
about
was-
20 minutes.
There was that one guy, I think, on an anniversary who, like, the preamble was the whole video. I don't
Was it
remember who that was.
future me because that seems
I
like
think
something
I
you
think
would
that's
do.
where Lewis. I think that's the video Lewis came from as well. I'm not sure though.
Oh no, that's the guy who's like, I have to finish this game.
Yeah,
I remember
I think it was him. Yeah,
A lot of them blend together in my brain.
so I remember
and
when
memory.
we got to the end and Molly said, "Hey, look now, Theo, we're gonna get to the point," and then it went to his outro.
Well, that's kind of like The Secret of Mario's Job. Classic.
Mhm.
Never quite got there. And he was asked on... I wish I had kept the image, but I don't know where I fucking put it, but he was asked on Twitter if he's ever going to follow up and answer The Secret of Mario's Job, and Mark Brown pretty much said no.
It's forbidden
shame.
knowledge.
Mark, please.
Locked away in the darkest grimoires.
You're not allowed access to something like that. It would change the
It's
whole
too
world.
powerful.
It's like the Ark of the Covenant. It would melt your face off.
The arc of the jump, you know.
And so yeah, that's visiting Wisecrack again after some time. They're still didn't they used to have a good reputation? I've almost forgotten it now.
Once upon a time, right?
Could have
Long time ago.
sworn, like once upon a time they were seen as a decent channel.
I mean, they have 3 million subscribers, so they had to earn them somehow.
What's
like,
interesting is this video has like 117,000 views after a year, and they have 3.12 million subs. So they went somewhere.
I think they used to do like, sort of meaningful dissections of games and films and stuff, or giving you like a "Did you know this about it?" and it's like a distant thing that connects to blah blah blah. But you can kind of feel that they've become a facsimile of themselves.
Did they start by doing media, or are they like a politics channel? Because a lot of like the videos that they made over the last 6 months are just like explicitly about politics, independent of media.
Well, I wouldn't want to make a claim that they're non-political when they started, but I assume much less.
They became more political. Yeah, all their most popular videos are like the philosophy of Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. The philosophy
Their last
of South
video.
Park. Okay.
Yeah, the last video one day ago. Consumerism must stop is what the thumbnail says. The title is "What Happens If the Economy Grows Forever."
Yeah. Got right-wing philosophy. Oh, they got a God's Not
Why
Dead
Americans
video.
hate each other now.
Oh, they
Why
got after
Americans hate
Jubilee as
Christians and
well.
guilt.
Yeah, this is way more hot button politics.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. This doesn't even look like it's media related at all.
Oh, and you know what is funny?
Like,
you go back to the 9th recent video. Changes at Wisecrack, a big announcement. I wonder if that's in there or not. Oh, it was probably more.
Yo,
maybe.
Personality tests are dumb and dangerous.
Dangerous?
Dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can video games make you a better person?
How we all became forever rented. Like, yeah, this is just politics. Like, this isn't even media related anymore.
I just can't imagine operating a channel like this where, from my perspective at least, it is interchangeable with like untold thousands of other channels that are just doing this exact video over and over and over again about whatever the subject may be. I feel like with fucking Family Guy cutaway gags, you could like shuffle them and give them each their subject matter, and you would get the same fucking videos.
Pretty much, you probably would. It would be like the same general formula.
His ending for this video just felt a tad disconnected from whatever discussion we were even having throughout the whole video. It was hard to track it because it was all over the place.
He just petered out.
Yeah.
He ran out of shit to say.
Well, it almost broadened down to
Word.
the good parts of it are good enough that it can't be considered all bad, which is one of the most like fucking hell. That's nothing.
Profound, huh?
But you know, we all benefited
watch
from
this
it.
video about celebrity culture is breaking us, and it's capitalism's fault.
Man, what a channel to spend lots of time on.
What the fuck? This
They
video is
have to
why
make all this content because the algorithm's holding a big gun to their head.
How dare you talk shit about the fucking algorithm when you're operating in this manner, man? He's not even trying to do anything different.
He admitted he's a victim of it too. He feels compelled to become the. Did he say sold his soul to the algorithm or something like that?
Yeah.
To better help.
So they have a video called "Why America is #1 at Political Violence."
Ooh,
like, dude,
So
China will put you in a fucking camp if you step out of line or whatever. Like, what do we talk? Jesus Christ!
There's a thumbnail that says "woke equals misery?" Question mark.
True.
Are we in hell?
Does he think that? Does he still think that he's selling his soul by making this kind of stuff, or is it different now?
I guess he needs to make a video about just how he feels because he's trapped. Then again, like I said, I don't know how important he is to the channel. I don't know if he writes anything or if he's just the speaker.
Or he's not important to humanity.
Therapy can't fix everything.
I thought that it could. I thought it
crazy,
could fix
dude.
everything.
That's crazy. What a crazy idea.
I had
for a
some
video.
creaky floorboards, and I was asking my therapist about it, and he wasn't giving me very good answers. And I guess now I know why.
The
Should art
creaking
be moral?
is good.
King of the Hill. What a Hank's real politics.
On that wonderful note, I'd say we're about
propane related.
wrapped up. I don't want to watch any more Wisecrack, nor does anyone
No,
else.
not really.
We need a cool down. We need to go check out some people we haven't seen in a while. You know what I haven't seen in a while? Movie Bob. Yeah, I said it.
What's he up to?
You want to see movie Bob?
Not right now. But I'm just saying we haven't seen him in a while, that's all. But yes, before we head out, why don't we go around the horn, as they say, and see what everyone's up to. I'll just go left to right since it's easier. Cap, what are you up to, sir / madam?
Let's just stick with Sir. I'm working on a video about Nosferatu. It's going to be about like 20 minutes long. That should be coming out soon. And then tomorrow we're doing a stream. We're talking about the original 1933 The Invisible Man, as well as the remake modernization thing that Lee Winnell did in 2020. So 2 Invisible Mans for the price of 1.
And you
join us tomorrow.
You're making a celebratory video about how much you adored Nosferatu, correct?
No, the opposite.
How could you? You're expecting to make some waves with this, to be like, you know what? It's time Nosferatu gets off its fucking pedestal.
You know, I don't know how it'll go over, but we're going to find out.
Intriguing. John, how about you, sir? What are you up to?
John Grimm on YouTube. I write and direct machinima projects. I do Arby and the Chief. The last one I did was a Christmas special, a parody of Die Hard, but don't watch it because it's very low art. You wouldn't like it. So.
Well, fair enough, I suppose. And of course, links are all in the description for these fellas. Little Platoon, how about you, sir?
Yeah, I'm plugging away on the Arcane video, and I think I've run into the same problem that Random Film Talk has, in that I wanted it to be one video, but Act 1 is already like over 4 hours long, and I don't want it to be
like a 12-hour
video. So
Jesus.
it might be multiple, or I'll find a way to shorten it, but at some point this year, that will get released.
You, I don't know, come across something you didn't expect, like the realities about the writing or the meta or anything? Or is it just a big old project?
It's just a big old project, and I mean that's the other reason, is that I want to do more on the writing process behind it, and I haven't even started on that stuff yet. So it could get twice as long when I delve into that. So yeah, it's just a big old project, really.
Beautiful. And how about you, Mr. Theo?
Same thing as when you checked in last year, I guess. Working away on writing for a whole bunch of things. Don't expect anything in the particularly near future.
All right. Well, excitement abound for everybody, I suppose. And like I said, you can catch all their channels links in the description. They have been here before, so you may know them, but you may not know what is to come, and you don't want to be jump scared by it or fear flashed. You want to be right there when those videos appear. Enjoy them. Fringy, Rags, how about you fellas? What are you up to?
Well, I'm hoping to have a video out next week. No promises, but I think I'll probably be able to have it by then. And then probably somewhat shortly afterwards, I still need to do this Gollum stream. I'm not exactly certain when the best time for that would be, but it'll be soon, I'm thinking.
Beautiful.
I'm just working, you know the deal.
All right, that's fair.
That's allowed.
We'll allow that, yeah. I myself, you could catch me on Thursdays with Drinker on Open Bar, Tuesdays with Az and Gary on Real BBC, and we should be regularly, like without interruption, now releasing catch-ups every Wednesday. We've managed to find some good slots for recording, as well as set up a whole bunch of other things. As you may or may not know, the quote-unquote comedy arc was supposed to have started in January, and it has not, because it's simply not ready, I'm afraid. It's still being cooked and created, so we'll get back to you on that as soon as it's done, and hopefully start releasing them with other things in the pipeline. And yeah, I myself am working on just lots of things. None of them are in the capacity to announce in any way, shape, or form yet. I've had a lot of questions about, you know, can I give any information on anything coming up? It's just big projects, really, really chunky ones that take ages, and once they reach some level of to be released, I can start being more specific about why they took so long, and you know, hopefully get more excited about releasing and showing them to you. But for now, I'm just writing, clicking, whatever have you, working, and yeah, you know, that's about that. Thank you all so much for joining us for this episode, as well as thank you, Cast, for giving your time and your insight on snobbery. I feel like we really nailed the topic, you know?
Yeah.
But for now, toodle pip, cheerio.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.